In November of 2024, as a means of celebrating its 40th anniversary, I embarked on a new creative venture. The plan was simple. I'd read through the Dragon Ball manga series, compile my notes into a slideshow, and present it as a lecture to my friends. What was intended to be a relatively quick turnaround for a video ended up ballooning beyond all of our expectations, with over 600 slides and almost 14 hours of footage. I originally planned on uploading the full undoctored video, but with how much I let myself get stuck in the minutia, as well as the segmented nature of the multiple sessions and inconsistent cast, I was ultimately left unsatisfied with the result. But I wasn't about to throw away all that I'd done, so something needed to change. At first I thought of scripting a more refined synopsis for me to record in post, but after months of manga reading, slide making, and minutia waffling, the last thing I wanted to do was summarize the series again. This unfortunately means that some prior knowledge will be necessary, but with the added bits of context that preface each clip, to the fresh perspective I tried to give on my end, as well as the entertaining reactions from the group, I think it'll still be plenty of fun. So, sit back, relax, crack open a sports drink, and join me as I present to you Dragon Ball 101.
Yeah, so the funny
dad left home with
that
that degree. Told my mom he couldn't make it.
Consumerism through line
He
of
was an
marketing
alcoholic.
is really important.
Then one day, man, my mom
one of
got
the
me up to some
biggest
she said,
Alright, calm down everyone. It's time to get started. Welcome to Dragon Ball 101. This is a completely unique concept that has never been done before. Well, this is not aping off of anybody else's idea. This is all ours, and it's all mine. I'm Professor Gubsy. You will refer to me as no other name. Today, we're going to be talking about the wonders of Dragon Ball. So here's what we're going to do, alright? We're gonna turn you into experts. You are going to know the ins and outs of this franchise. As you may know, last year there was the unfortunate death of the creator, Akira Toriyama. I really just want to respect him by doing this kind of stuff. Dragon Ball is, of course, incredibly popular. I want to just teach you guys all about all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of shit that I just kind of hate, and I just want to talk about it. So, there you go. And have fun, of course. That's the most important part. So who am I, right? What are my credentials? Well, I've been an active fan for 10 plus years. Going on about 11 at this point, actually. I've read the original manga 3 times, seen the TV series twice, the GT sequel, blah, 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 Super, all that kind of stuff. All of that in Japanese with subtitles, because I'm one of those people. So, what about you, all right? Let's talk about all of your experience, little, a lot, whatever. Go in descending order of how much we know.
Hello. Well, yep, my experience with Dragon Ball is I've watched the animated adaptations, both in their various English dubs, literally since I was a toddler, and in their original Japanese versions since I was a teenager. I also own all the North American Dragon boxes, which are quite coveted, but I only started reading the manga as of last year.
Yes, I'm the professor's brother. My original exposure was actually to the manga, to Viz's Dragon Ball Z manga. Primarily, it's been the manga. I haven't ever really watched the anime. I've tried a few times, once in English, a couple times in Japanese, and I've just never really been able to get into it. I did recently do an article where I reviewed all of the Dragon Ball films. Also, I have to say, I've actually read the manga in Spanish as well, which is interesting. I've read part of it. I'm currently reading it in Spanish.
My experience with Dragon Ball, I guess I'm a lifelong fan, I guess you could say, because I started watching it when I was a kid, and I still watch it to this day at damn near 30 years old. That's my exposure to it. I've watched OG Dragon Ball Z. I even watched GT back in the day when it aired on fucking Toonami. I played a lot of the games, watched a lot of the movies, even the really bad ones. I own Bio Broly on DVD. That's the kind of Dragon Ball fan I am. I own Bio Broly.
Hello, my name is Fierce. I'm usually the bandit. My experience with Dragon Ball goes way back to the late 90s, where I grew up watching the Toonami version of the Dragon Ball Z anime. I remember vividly watching many battles during the Frieza saga, the Cell saga, and most of the Boo saga. Eventually, I would come back and I would see some of the movies from the Dragon Ball era. Manga-wise, I have one of the collection books of the first 3 volumes of Dragon Ball, which I have read.
Hello, I'm Liam. Usually go by the name Utmost on most things. I have very to little, not much exposure to Dragon Ball at all. My experience with Dragon Ball has been mostly through Professor Gubsy and his brother Michael. I have seen the Dragon Ball movie Super Broly, and I remember very little of it. I did do a video with Professor Gubsy's brother at one point where I looked at all of the abilities or super moves in the Dragon Ball Fighters game, and that is my exposure to Dragon Ball.
Hello, I'm A2 Rob. Everyone calls me Drew. I know absolutely nothing about Dragon Ball, except maybe a few character names. Goku, Vegeta, there's this green guy named Frieza. That's about as much as I know.
Sounds good. So, we are going to be asking questions, we are going to be interrupting, but I am still the most important person, which means that you need to abide by my rules. And my rules say that whenever you want to raise your hand, you gotta power up, you gotta do a sparking blast, okay?
Okay, wait, so if I power up like Jalen the Super Saiyan, I could do it. Okay, hold on.
Yes, exactly. So whenever I hear that noise, ask your question. Only do it for things that are important, or if you just have a fun meme. Anyway, if we're going to be talking so much about Dragon Ball, it's important to know what we're even talking about. So, it is a comic that was written by a man named Akira Toriyama. In terms of genre, it is a Chinese-inspired martial arts space fantasy. It's a lot of things. It ran in the Weekly Shonen Jump magazine from 1984 to 1995, and of course it's received a lot of sequels and spin-offs in the years since, and for the most part, it is consistently getting new content. So because we're talking about the series, we gotta talk about the author, who is this guy. He likes Western sci-fi and Disney. He really, really, really likes Western sci-fi and Disney. In fact, one of his big inspirations for drawing manga to begin with was he went to a showing of 101 Dalmatians when he was a kid, and he was so impressed by the art in that film that he wanted to become a manga artist himself. That's how it happened. He wrote a lot of one-shots before he hit it big, and his first series was called Dr. Slump. It's the series that made him a millionaire. Dr. Slump itself is about a guy named Senbei Norimaki, who makes a robot called ARARE, who is basically his surrogate daughter. Really great. I've read it. Everybody should read it. It's amazing. So in terms of why he came to the decision to make Dragon Ball after making such a popular manga, is he just kind of wanted to stop making Dr. Slump. The man just wanted to move on, and he wanted to take inspiration from a specific Chinese novel, Journey to the West. It's a book about a character named Sun Wukong, who is the Monkey King, and he tries to find these 7 sutras, I think they're called, which are basically just Buddhist texts, and meeting many allies and enemies along the way. So he utilized this premise for 2 different one-shots called Dragon Boy and the Adventures of Tongpu, which were basically the prototype Dragon Ball. Now, with Dragon Ball itself, it's really difficult to get into for many people because there's just so much of it. There are many different continuities. There's such a loose definition of canon. There's things about the series that have just been outright rewritten, and things that just override each other. There's so many different adaptations. There's so many different dubs. There's so many different changes between all languages and even just in adaptations themselves. Of course, localization companies, as they tend to be, can sometimes be unreliable, which doesn't help, and it's overall just kind of a huge mess for newcomers. So, what exactly am I going to be covering today? Well, I say Dragon Ball, and by Dragon Ball, I'm referring specifically to what I would consider the one true canon, which everything is sourced from, which is the manga. The manga is the most important part. It is the sacred Jedi texts of Dragon Ball. It's super, super important. So we're going to be talking about the manga, volume 1 all the way up to volume 42. Now you might be thinking, there's not 42 volumes in Dragon Ball, there's only 16. What's that about, right? Well, this is where we introduce the inevitable question, to Z or not to Z. So when the anime was being produced, this man named Kazuhiko Torishima, who was Toriyama's first editor that ran all the way from Dr. Slump, he helped him out with story and all that kind of stuff, he really wanted them to relaunch the Dragon Ball anime. The Dragon Ball manga, as it exists, is just called Dragon Ball. There's no Dragon Ball Z manga, it's just Dragon Ball. They localized it into a Dragon Ball Z manga in America because the Z branding was really popular, but for the original Japanese version, it's just Dragon Ball. So he wanted to split the series specifically because he really just wanted to get more money for promotion, and by relaunching with the new title, the anime staff would get more money, and they did. It's basically like The Hobbit, right, where The Hobbit is one book that was written and then adapted into 3 different movies. The Dragon Ball manga is everything from Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z. That is all in the Dragon Ball manga. And this also brings up the inevitable point. If I'm talking about the manga, and I'm specifically talking about the Japanese version, that means that there's going to be specific terminology that I use that a lot of people aren't necessarily familiar with. Now, Funimation, they made a lot of mistakes back then. I'm not going to judge them for that, but for whatever reason, people are really obsessed with the specific terms that they use, and I guess I'm one to talk. I just want to talk about Dragon Ball. I'm not interested in starting a fight. I'll use the terms that make sense to me. I will explain them for, the dub fans that are here, which I know that there are some, and I, too, myself, am inconsistent. I use terms that I consider appropriate, because when it comes to Japanese to English translation, it's never really one-to-one. For example, the character I have here, Ash Ketchum, originally called Satoshi, I go with Ash because that's what I'm used to, in the same way that I say Goku instead of Goku, because that's what I'm used to. So now we're finally getting to the actual series itself, and in my opinion, there are 10 story arcs in all of Dragon Ball. The first 6 comprise what is the Dragon Ball portion, and the bottom 4 are what comprise the Dragon Ball Z anime. Let's just go into it, right? Let's just jump into it, right? Our story begins, as we all know, with one Son Goku living his life alone in the woods, before we're immediately introduced to our first point of contention, this character. Her name is Bulma. Something notable about Dragon Ball character names is that most of them are puns, specifically on English words, which makes them interesting to translate. Hers is a pun on the word bloomers, or as the Japanese would approximate it, Buduma. Toriyama cut the extended ah sound and left it as Buduma. Adequately, you'd probably want to call that character Bloomer or Bloomers, but you'll notice on her shirt it says Bulma. And this kinda is a little weird because Toriyama is Japanese, he doesn't speak English, it was kind of just a mistake. There's reasons why you'd want to call her Bluma, there's reasons why you could just say Bulma or whatever. I tend to stick with Bulma because it's what I'm used to, but I try to lean more into the Bloomers influence by saying Bulma.
Yes, and I'm a special boy, so I've adopted Bloomer. It just makes sense for the reasons you've explained, but however you choose to elide Bulma, it's wholesome and valid, #valid.
And funnily enough, Toriyama himself is actually inconsistent, because you'll notice in this, I think 2007 artwork for this character, it says on her shirt, Bloomer, just written out in English. So even he himself doesn't know what he wants this character to be. So Bulma meets Goku and explains to him the legend of the Dragon Balls, as well as the titular dragon, Shenlong, or Dragon God in Chinese. Funimation favored the Romaji, or anglicized kana, and turned it into a proper name, Shenron. But in its original context, it's just a title, something we'll see again real soon. And it's established here that Bulma is 16 and Goku is 14. Despite being that short, he's still only 2 years younger than Bulma. Goku also mentions his late grandpa Gohan, and we get no further information about his backstory beyond him being left in the woods as a baby. We also get the iconic no balls scene, and the introduction to the Umigame, sea turtle, which Goku mistakes as Urigome, blockhead. He brings them to Kame Sennin, turtle hermit, as a reward, and he gives Goku the Quinto-un, somersault cloud, as a gift. This and his extendable Nyoibo are both references to his Sun Wukong inspirations. Cue the Bulma flashing scene.
There is a Dragon Ball game on the DS, I think it's called Dragon Ball Origins, which includes that scene, and has the greatest instance of the split-screen censorship I've ever seen, where she pulls her gown up, and then, the gap in between the screens, covers where her vag would be. It's the best thing I've ever seen. It's really good.
Next, they encounter Oolong and his perverted antics.
Of course he's a pervert. Who isn't a pervert in this series besides Goku?
And meet Yamcha and Puar in the desert. Goku literally breaks the fourth wall by bouncing Yamcha off this panel, which is the best thing I've ever seen. Bulma gets a bunny suit, and they arrive at Mount Frypan, the home of Gyumao, the Ox Demon King, as well as his daughter, Chi-Chi. Goku tracks down Chi-Chi, and they head to Kame House to get the Kame Sennin's help, who we learn is actually the Muten Roshi. Mu-Teng Ro-Shi literally means martial arts, heaven, old, master. Most leave it untranslated, but as is the case with Shenlong, Funimation adapted Roshi into a given name. But it's weird because Roshi is the part of the name that means master, so it's Master.
Yeah, we never actually learned this character's name. The Turtle Hermit and then the Heavenly Martial Arts Master, these are both just titles.
In fact, characters actually refer to him differently, depending on who it is. Goku refers to him as Kame Sennin no Ji-chan, which means old-timer Turtle Hermit. Roshi returns with the group and performs the first ever Kamehameha, which Goku immediately imitates.
When is the first use of the Kamehameha in the series?
I think that's in extended material.
Chi-Chi sees Goku off and asks him about marriage, and Goku promises to come back, but he never does. Chi-Chi is all hot. She's not hot. I'm not a pedophile. I'm just saying she has the hots for Goku. Their next stop is a village being terrorized by the rabbit mob, and their leader, Toninjinka, literally, rabbit who turns people into carrots, or carrotizer bunny. This means that he's the most powerful character in all of Dragon Ball, because anybody that is anyone can just be touched by him once and then be turned into a carrot, and then they're screwed. Goku nyoibos him to the moon, a reference to Japanese folklore, and they head off to their final destination. A woman named Mai is surveilling the desert, and she has a companion named Soba, which is the whole funny thing about him. The anime staff wanted to give him a name, and Toriyama gave him the name Shu, forgetting the fact that he already named him Soba.
He's always Soba to me.
Exactly. In fact, in the Viz manga, they actually never change his name to Shu. It's always Soba. Shu and Shumai, steal the gang's Dragon Balls, and Goku pursues them into their master Pilaf's castle. They get trapped, and Pilaf summons Shenlong. And right before Pilaf wishes for world domination, Oolong wishes for the panties off a hot babe. And because he got it in first, he gets the panties, and the dragon is dispersed, the Dragon Balls fly away, and Pilaf is left utterly shocked at the fact that he just got sabotaged by this little pig. In retaliation, Pilaf traps them again, now in the dead of night, and Goku mentions the monster that awakens during the full moon, something that happened the day his grandpa died. He looks towards the sky and transforms into an Ozaru. And he literally shatters the glass ceiling. as this giant monkey. Yamcha and Puar cut off his tail, reverting him to normal, and Goku wakes up the next morning with no memory of the event. The gang mourn the loss of their wishes, but manage to stumble into them anyway. The rest of the group are gonna head back to the city, and Goku flies off on Kintoon in order to train with the Muten Roshi, marveling at just how much bigger the world is than he ever imagined. So they go their separate ways, and this is when Toriyama introduces the term Dragon Team, which I like. I will call them that from now on. And if you can believe it, that is actually the first arc of the series. It's very, very simple. It's the only arc of the series that's really inspired by Journey to the West. Do we have any questions? Do we have any clarifications?
I'm just surprised, rather I'm not surprised. It never fails to amuse me when Japanese people try to work in some sort of getting the panties off of girls.
I love this arc. This arc is just like simple. It's probably like the most densely packed arc with maybe one exception.
It's definitely one of a kind.
I did want to say, I know that you're covering the manga mostly in this, but I'm not wrong in thinking that the Japanese voice actress for Bulma, she passed away at some point, right?
Yes, she passed away in 2017, I believe.
Yeah, damn. She used to be Bulma, now she's just Bones, huh?
Oh my god, that's so funny! That's crazy.
So Goku arrives at Kame House and is tasked with finding a peachy gal. But then they realize that somebody's coming by, and it's this little kid, Kuririn. So Kuririn's name is a pun on chestnut, or Kuri, and Shaolin, or Shorin as they say.
I know that Japanese doesn't really have consonant combinations, so like the Kuri could be also just seen as like Kri.
It's kind of interesting how literally everybody calls him Kuririn except for the dub, and yet Kuririn is by far the least used of the names. It just kind of shows how the dub is so prolific, it kind of just overshadows everything else. Also, I cannot express how annoying it was every single time I would write a character's name, it would try to correct me, and it was triggering me so hard. This happened literally dozens of times. Like, this is not the only time this happened. Kuririn joins Goku on his quest, and they run into a peculiar girl with a literal split personality.
Her name is Lunch, because she's a fucking snack.
Lunch is the best girl.
The boys are accepted as students, and for the next 8 months, train themselves for the TENKAICHI BUDOKAI, or Strongest Under the Heavens martial arts tournament.
I've got to say, it's only like 2 or 3 chapters. There's like a little tiny training arc where it's Goku and Krillin are training under the Eternal Hermit. That's probably my favorite moment in the whole series. They're just doing like basic stuff, like they're doing like yard work, and they're just wearing these heavy shells, and it's just great. The way that that's done is just so wholesome.
They head to the tournament grounds, and Goku reunites with Yamcha. The boys are assigned their matches, and Kuririn starts his first fight against Bacterian. So Kuririn is taken aback by the fact that he has to fight somebody so disgusting, but then Goku gives him crucial advice. He says, Kuririn, this doesn't make sense. You don't have a nose. You cannot smell him. And then he realizes, oh shit, you're right, and then he beats him out of bounds. So that's actually what happens. Kuririn does not have a nose. He beats him up, and then that's it. Next is Yamcha versus this totally new character we've never seen before named Jackie Chun.
Yeah, I wonder who that could be.
Now, Yamcha is the strong guy, if you remember. He beat up Goku pretty good in the first arc, so the fact that Jackie Chun managed to beat him up really decisively in this fight is a big deal. I'm sure this plot device will never show up again. The Stone Cold Namu manages to stand strong in the face of Lanfan's feminine allure.
This chick is like the definition of 80s hot.
But Jackie doesn't, which gives Yamcha the schizo opinion that he and Roshi are the same person. Match 4, Goku versus Giron. He punches him really hard, but right as it's about to hit, Goku's tail grows back and catches him on Giron's fist. The Kame School advances to the next round, and we have a little bit of pre-fight banter. Now, the announcer interviews the boys, and Goku says that he's 12 years old. Which, no he's not. He says, actually, I was lying in the first arc. I was just too stupid to understand that I was actually 12. I thought that 14 came after 11. Why did Toriyama retcon this? I don't understand. Anyway, Goku is 12. Yamcha still thinks that Jackie Chun and Roshi are the same person. I don't know why. And then the start of the fight is underway. It's the start of the semifinals, with Kuririn versus Jackie Chun. Jackie loses his balance, but recovers with a Kamehameha. Who would have thought that this random guy named Jackie Chun and nobody else knows how to use the Kamehameha? This is insane. He then introduces a new technique, the Zanzo Ken, to appear behind Kuririn and knock him out. The suffix Ken shows up everywhere in Dragon Ball. It literally means fist, like the Iron Fist in Tekken. However, it's often used to refer to any kind of attack or technique in martial arts. So of course it gets a lot of mileage here, often with the expected fantasy twist. Case in point, the Zanzo, or After Image, technique. Goku easily defeats Namu, and he prepares to leave without the money for water that his village needs. So Jackie confronts him backstage. Okay, I'm sorry, I have actually been misleading you this entire time. He admits to being the Muten Roshi. I could not have been able to tell you that.
Holy
That
shit!
makes
Whoa,
no
oh my
sense. That's
gosh.
impossible.
Whoa.
But then he explains why he came into this tournament undercover. He wanted to prove that there were always stronger people in the world, and so he decided to enter this undercover and beat up Goku and Kuririn because he didn't want them to be overconfident by winning. Jackie gives Namu what he needs, Yamcha's suspicions are put to rest, and Jackie returns to the tournament. And now, the final match. Student versus Master, Goku versus Jackie Chun. They start to fight, and Jackie is surprised by Goku's tenacity. So Jackie decides, hey, I'm gonna use a Kamehameha, and Goku says, well, too bad, I'm going to as well. So they shoot them both at the same time. And this is a super important moment because it's the first time that two beams in the series ever clash with each other. Jackie traps him in the Bankoku Bikiri Show, International Surprise Bomb, not to be confused with the Bankoku Bikiri Show, a real-life television program, and Goku is backed into a corner. Looks up in the sky, right as he's about to say that he's gonna give up. He sees the full moon, and he turns into an Ozaru. So Yamcha and Puar have already dealt with this before, and they're going to cut off Goku's tail. But Jackie doesn't know that that's something that you could do. So he powers up, and he shoots this giant Kamehameha. But then, as it turns out, he didn't actually hit Goku with the attack. He blew up the moon.
What happened to the Characterizer Bunny? First major death in Dragon Ball. That's crazy.
Goku miraculously wakes up before the 10 count, and the two agree to one final attack. No crazy techniques, no giant monkeys, just pure hand-to-hand combat. Jackie had a plan. He realizes Goku's small body is actually a huge detriment to him. So they both jump at each other at the same time, and they kick and collide at the exact same time, knocking both of them out. So now, both of them are down for a 10 count. The way that you can win is by getting up and declaring the fact that you won. So Goku tries to get up, he really does, and he's about to say it, but then he struggles on the last syllable, and then he falls back down. Jackie gets back up, and he is able to successfully declare the fact that he is the winner, and he wins the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai. And it's because his short body was his weakness. Because his legs were shorter, they weren't able to have as much power behind the kick, so that's why Jackie was able to come up. With the tournament over, the gang head to dinner, and Goku blows 470 of the 500,000 zeni prize on food. They prepare to return home, but Goku wants to search for his grandpa's keepsake. So Kuririn will stay at Kame House with Roshi and lunch, because he has nowhere else to go. So Goku jumps on Kintoon, says goodbye to everybody, and then he flies off. And that is the end of the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai arc.
I was just going to say, this used to be my favorite arc.
For me, it's pretty high up there. I really do like it.
It's still up there for me. It might still be my favorite Tenkaichi Budokai arc as well. Also, about your presentation, Professor, I like how the banner at the top, it's filling out, the color is filling out as we go along.
It is. I'm glad you noticed that.
What about Drew? If you had to pick a picture, what would it be?
His YouTube channel icon is a rabbit, so I guess I'll just use that.
No, but it should be John Sheena. I liked that one. That's the image I most closely associate with Drew.
We should do Paul's granddad for Paul. That'd be pretty cool.
Yes! Do it.
Fuck's sake.
Do it right now, yes!
Goku follows the radar signal and closes in on the nearest Dragon Ball. In doing so, he encounters a small platoon of the evil Red Ribbon Army. So he manages to find the ball that they're looking for. And this is where I have to establish the fact that this makes absolutely no goddamn sense. Because Kuririn and Goku were training with the Muten Roshi for 8 months. If you remember back to the first arc, Bulma said that when you use the Dragon Balls, they disperse across the entire planet, I did say that, but they turn to stones for an entire year. There is no reason to assume that any more time other than 8 months have passed, and yet somehow the Dragon Balls are back. Goku takes the ball, and Colonel Silver destroys Kintoon. A robot flies Goku to his next destination, and we get the perspective of the two main operatives behind the army. Toriyama has a tendency to name associated characters around a specific theme, in this case colors, with Red Ribbon being the first major example of that. Case in point, the titular Commander Red and his adjutant Black. Funnily enough, in the manga, he's referred to as Adjutant Black, but in the anime, they changed his name to Staff Officer, because the way that you say that in Japanese would be Black Sanbo. And they had no reason to change it other than the fact that they wanted it to be Black Sanbo.
Japan is cool.
Goku crash lands in Jingle Village and is taken in by a girl named Snow. Very creative. General White is using this village to house a military base called Muscle Tower, and he's kidnapped the village chief to keep the citizens in check. Goku vows to save the chief and starts storming the tower. So he goes to it, he pole vaults with the Nuaibo up to the second floor, and when he gets up there, he meets this guy. His name is Sergeant Metallic. Toriyama really likes Western sci-fis, if you could not tell this. It's just the Terminator. Funnily enough, in the Viz manga, his name is Full Metal Jacket, which is not the right movie, but that's still in the spirit of the reference, whatever. He advances to the next floor and is met with Sergeant Major Murasaki. Just like the rest, his name is also a color, but unlike red or black, his name is intentionally kept in Japanese, specifically the word for purple. Goku fights Murasaki, and explaining it doesn't do it justice. It's essentially a comedy routine, and I recommend you read it yourself. Goku knocks Murasaki into the air. He sticks Myoibo into the ground, and then Murasaki lands on it, and he gets sodomized by the Myoibo.
Based.
Murasaki is on the ropes, so he calls in his trump card, a Frankenstein's monster-esque robot that is tasked with killing Goku. He rejects his orders, so Murasaki deems him a failure. Goku destroys his self-destruct remote, knocks out Murasaki, and the two continue up the tower. So the thing with this guy is that he is the 8th in a series of cyborgs. They are robots that were created by the Red Ribbon Army, and they are referred to as Jinzo Ningen. So Jinzo Ningen is literally the Japanese word for android. However, it's used to refer to all forms of artificial human life, rather than a person that is a robot and not in any way mechanical.
Yeah, because there are like people that are like genetic constructs. This comes up like way later, and they're also referred to as Jinzo Ningen, even though they're not like mechanical people.
This guy right now, he is a cyborg. He is a human that was modified with robotic parts. And so the subtitles for Dragon Ball call it cyborg. But when this concept is introduced later, because these subtitles for Dragon Ball Z were done by different people, the person who did the subtitles for Dragon Ball Z referred to it as artificial human, which I prefer because it's a more general term. His name is Jinzo Ningen Hachigo. Hachi, 8, Go, number. Goku thinks that's too hard to say, so he decides to give him a little nickname. He calls him Hachan, which is a combination of Hachi and Chan, which is the honorific for friend, so Hachan. Goku and Hachan encounter the mysterious Buyon, who is subsequently shattered into a million pieces. So Goku wins by remembering something that Snow said, which is apparently, this is a conversation that is said to have been established, but was never actually established, where being cold means that you are hard like ice.
Goku starts to murder a lot around this time, I notice.
It was also around this time where the anime started, because the anime was a year and a half, I'd say, behind the manga. So Goku and Hachan head to the top floor, and General White knocks Goku out. Hachan finds the resolve to protect his friend and rid Jingle Village of the Red Ribbon Army for good. They return to the village with the chief, Hachan gives up the ball he was hiding, and Goku is able to resummon Kintoon after it was blown apart. Unfortunately, the radar is broken, so he heads to the West City to have Bulma repair it.
Is it confirmed in canon whether or not West City has like anti-homeless architecture, like those benches with like spikes on them?
Yeah, the benches in like NYC.
Capsule Corp probably has him, right?
Speaking of Capsule Corp, we finally meet Bulma's parents, and it's time that we introduce a new segment. Here's the thing. Beep, 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 beep. Misconception order. This is really important. Okay, several times throughout this entire presentation, there are major misconceptions regarding this franchise, and I really want to get that over with. All that kind of stuff, just address that. This is the first of many that we will see. So, this guy's name, he's referred to as Burifu Hakase. Hakase is the Japanese word for doctor, as in somebody that has a doctorate. For example, Senbei in Dr. Slump, he's referred to as Hakase, because he's not a medical doctor, he just makes inventions. His name is Burifu, which is an approximation of the English word brief. But the thing is, there's no implication in the Japanese version that brief is supposed to be anything other than just his name. The way that we would say, oh, Dr. Brief, that means his last name is Brief, which means that Bulma's last name, by extension, is Brief. That's not how it works in Asian cultures. In fact, there's a recent movie where a character refers to Bulma as Dr. Bulma, not Dr. Brief. Buruma Hakase, that's literally what he says. Bulma decides to join Goku on his quest, and they head to Kame House to pick up a submarine capsule and Kuririn. At the same time, we're introduced to the infamous General Blue.
He's like essentially like a gay Nazi.
I mean, fucking look at him. You're gonna tell me the guy that dresses like that isn't a Nazi? Like, bro.
You know, I see in the slide it says here you can see Kyle, but I'm not sure if I can see Kyle anywhere.
The next Dragon Ball is in an undersea cave where the remains of a pirate civilization once lived. Blue and his squadron pursue the gang into the cave, and Goku gets separated. So Goku is really hungry, so he's getting beaten up by the octopus. The thing in the early on you'll see a lot is that Goku's hunger is linked directly to his strength. Kuririn and Bulma manage to find the pirate treasure, and among that, the Dragon Ball. But before they can get it, Blue shows up. So Bulma tries to seduce Blue and tries to make, oh, he's so hot, all that kind of stuff. And then Blue is like, that's disgusting, I don't want anything to do with you. And then Bulma realizes that he is literally a homosexual. And I swear to God, I'm not kidding when I say this. In the anime, as Kuririn is fighting General Blue, he literally says, so come at me already, you flaming homo. And I will put a frame of that on screen right now as proof. That's actually what happens. Anyway, they fight, and Kuririn starts to lose. Goku saves Kuririn from Blue, they escape with the Dragon Ball, and Blue follows them back to Kame House. He ties everyone up, steals the Dragon Balls, and Goku chases after him into parts unknown. So, as usual, we get cued in by Buta-san. It's afternoon in Penguin Village, and Akane and the gang asks what they're gonna do for summer vacation. Senbei keeps breaking the fourth wall, popping up in panels, and Arale says goodbye to everyone, but then she sees something in the sky. She sees Goku and Blue. Goku somehow managed to cross over through some time warp, wormhole, whatever, into Dr. Slump.
Goku's gi is orange here. He actually colored it correctly.
Yes, this and one other chapter is the only chapter in the entire series that was full color from beginning to end. They're all either full color for a page or two and then go into like this black and red, or they just stop being full color halfway through.
Goku meets ARARE, and he and Blue head to Senbei's house. Blue uses his paralysis attack, which he has, I forgot to mention that, and Goku is made helpless. ARARE, sick Blue.
ARARE is like dummy powerful, right? She has gag manga powers. Like, she literally can solo the entire canon. They are all bound by shonen rules.
The radar is broken once again, but Turbo, the psychic flying baby, helps repair it. With that, Goku heads to the next ball, and Blue returns to HQ.
It's also unclear as to how exactly Goku got here. I like to believe that these are the same Dr. Slump characters from the series and not like the Dragon Ball versions of them, because that would be lame. The anime kind of has it be this like weird time shift thing background where the colors get all wacky. So basically, I guess it's more so Goku traversed into like a different alternate dimension where Dr. Slump happens and then I guess left, as opposed to this taking place in the Dragon Ball world. It's really just Toriyama wanted Goku to meet ARARE. That was really the main thing.
Goku follows the signal to the sacred ground of Karin Sanctuary, where the Yellow Squadron is terrorizing the natives. Goku fights off Colonel Yellow and introduces himself to Upa and Bora.
And turns out they have the 4-star ball. So Goku realistically could just stop his journey right now. He already found the ball. But he decides, we'll deal with the here and now in the moment, whatever. So Bora tells him this secret special thing about the Karin Tower, which is the big tower that's in the center of Karin Sanctuary. And it is the house of a Sennin, or a master named Karin, who has a special thing called the Choshinsui, or the Super Holy Water. And it is a magical elixir that increases the strength of anybody that drinks it. And Goku thinks, that sounds pretty cool, I want to do that.
Frustrated at Blue's failure, Commander Red calls in the legendary assassin Tao Pai Pai, or Peach White White in Chinese, to dispose of Blue and reclaim the lost Dragon Balls.
So, Tao Pai Pai arrives at Karin Sanctuary by cutting a pole out of the Red Ribbon HQ, throwing it, jumping onto it, and then flying to the battlefield. It's insane. So Bora tries to fight him, but it doesn't go so well. He grabs Bora's spear, and he throws it into the air. He hits Bora up with it, and then it skewers Bora. He's just dead.
He just straight up dies. A guy just died in Dragon Ball.
So Goku tries to fight him, but it doesn't do so hot. He shoots a Kamehameha, but all it manages to do is destroy his clothes. So Tao Pai Pai responds by using his signature attack, the Dodonpa, which is this big thing where you point forward and it shoots this big beam right out of his fingertip. So he uses the Dodonpa and it downs Goku instantly. He just goes out cold. And Tao Pai Pai grabs Goku's Dragon Balls and he runs away. But he forgot something. Apparently he only grabbed 2 of the 3 because Goku still manages to have one of them. But Tao Pai Pai says, whatever, we'll get it eventually. So that gives Goku enough time to recover if he is miraculously alive, which he is. And the reason why is because Goku's Dragon Ball was in his shirt. His grandpa effectively saved him.
Seeing the effect of Tao Pai Pai's actions on Upa, Goku decides to selflessly use the Dragon Balls to revive Bora, but he needs to be strong enough to defeat Tao Pai Pai, so he decides to climb up Karin Tower, where he meets the titular Sennin and plays the nefarious game to catch the Super Holy Water.
It's like, if you've seen Kung Fu Panda, it's Shifu trying to stop Po from getting the dumpling.
Literally just about to say that.
Goku's hungry, and he says, well, I can't do this if I don't have food in me, so Karin gives him a special little thing called a SENZU bean. Now, a SENZU bean is a magical, mystical, wonderful little bean that has the amazing power of filling you up and making you full for 10 whole days.
At this point in the series, that's all these beans are stated to do, but because Goku's hunger is linked to his strength, he's fully rejuvenated and ready to get that Choshinsui. Turns out the water was a sham, but the act of obtaining it was the training. After that very satisfying development, Goku returns to the surface to square up with Tao Pai Pai.
So he throws a grenade at Goku, but then Goku kicks it back up into the air as Tao Pai Pai jumps away and Tao Pai Pai blows up, so he's just gone. So now, with no more obstacles, he's gonna storm the Red Ribbon base and he's going to get the rest of those Dragon Balls.
Goku proceeds to single-handedly destroy the entire Red Ribbon military, while Commander Red is forced to accept his imminent failure.
And during this entire section, Red is livid at the fact that he's not going to be able to get his wish. And he reveals that his wish is that he wanted to use the Dragon Balls to grow taller, because he's short, and he gets made fun of for being short.
Manlet.
And Adjutant Black is so disgusted at the fact that he's been fighting, this whole organization has been fighting so hard just for all of this, that he shoots Red in the head. Red is dead. Adjutant Black shoots Red in the goddamn face, and he's just gone. So now it's just Adjutant Black.
That's like a really great kind of like underrated like dramatic moment. He like starts to argue with Red, whereas the whole time he's just kind of been subservient, and then bang, on when you turn the page, he just shoots him and he's dead, which is awesome.
Oh yeah, I wanted to say, by the way, this is funny. They intended you to read the manga before watching the anime. The name of the episode where Commander Red dies is literally Commander Red dies. You get to the episode of the anime, and then you see the subtitle for the episode, and it just says Commander Red dies. And it's like, oh well, thanks for spoiling it.
Black appoints himself commander and tries to get Goku to join the cause. He refuses, and the two fight.
But then Goku launches his body through the center of the mech, which makes it blow up. And he's very specific about defeating Black because, as he says, he doesn't let bad people get away, right? He doesn't let bad people get away.
Goku brings the balls back to Kame House, but they can't find the last signal on the radar. Roshi suggests asking the Uranai Baba, or fortune teller crone, to divine its location. This is another example of a character who's never given a personal name outside of the dub, which is rather serendipitous as the fortune teller crone is the Turtle Hermit's sister. They gather a team of fighters to face off against Baba's Furious Five. Kuririn is knocked out early, and Upa and Puar team up to fight Dracula Man. Upa asserts his dominance, and Puar does the last moderately important thing he will ever do in the franchise.
I just wanted to say from that last panel, I feel like this is just a general statement. If Japanese people are really fucking bad at distinguishing boys and girls when they're children. The Upa character, I thought when you introduced that, I thought that was a little girl.
Well, Kuririn thinks the same, yeah, and that's why he has a crush on him.
The gang continue their way through the tournament, fighting the Invisible Man, Mummy-kun, and the devil, Akuman.
So he uses this thing on Goku called the Akumite Beam, which is a beam that connects to the evil in somebody's heart and amplifies it and then blows them up from the inside. But because Goku is so pure of heart, it doesn't work.
This is another guy that could solo the entire canon.
Exactly. Too bad he never shows up again.
The last fight is against a mysterious masked man.
I have a feeling I know the twist here already, but go on.
Goku thinks he smells good, and they start to fight. Goku gets his tail ripped off and is chastised for not following the man's advice.
And this is when he reveals himself. Muten and Roshi already figured it out, but now we finally get it. The masked man is Goku's grandpa. He was able to be revived for a single day to come back and fight Goku in this tournament.
This is just like nice. This is one of the scenes where you have to like watch the anime, especially in Japanese, and just that scene just kind of is so wholesome. This is probably Dragon Ball's most wholesome moment. And aside from the little mini training arc, this is like probably my favorite moment in the whole series.
I was wrong. I saw the mustache like kind of peeking behind the mask, and I thought it was just Roshi again in a mask.
Yeah.
So Goku shows him the fact that he still has his 4-star ball. In fact, if you remember, this arc started with Goku trying to find the 4-star ball. And because he's doing such a selfless thing in terms of trying to help Upa, he's then rewarded by meeting his grandpa again. It's like, that's based.
It almost feels like a good spot to end the series.
It is very thematic, yes.
They divine the location of the last ball, Goku reunites with the Pilaf gang, and we say goodbye to Goku's Dragon Balls. With all 7 collected, Goku summons Shenlong, and Bora comes back to life. For his efforts in the tournament, Yamcha is accepted into the Kame school, and Goku runs off to train on his own for the next 3 years, eagerly awaiting the next Tenkaichi Budokai.
And that is the Red Ribbon Army arc.
Yeah, this arc has just like, I think you said, it's the most densely packed arc where there's just so much stuff going on. I love this arc so much, and Goku reuniting with Grandpa is just like peak Dragon Ball right there. That's so wholesome.
This is my favorite arc, personally. Just the breadth of it, all the places visited, characters, all the world and lore building. Like, it builds up on a bunch of things introduced or mentioned earlier. Also, another comment, like, it has a couple of the prototypical Z era or Z era superpowered villains, like Tao Pai Pai and arguably General Blue. I've seen people argue that Piccolo was the first guy like that, and that's when the series starts getting serious, but Bora dies here.
Yes. This is the first major, like, oh shit. And it's so funny, because that's only 2 chapters after Dr. Slump.
Yeah, Toriyama is known for his tonal whiplash.
I wanted to ask, because you mentioned that, that was the last time you get to see Goku's dick and balls, unfortunately. But you've mentioned a handful of times that Bulma's tits are exposed. Are there actually panels drawn with that?
Yes. There are panels where you get to see her boobs.
Holy
You want to look that up now, don't you?
I think age of consent laws in Japan, I don't want to get into this, but just like, it's just like...
After 3 years, the day of the Budokai arrives, and the gang arrive at Papaya Island, sans Goku, who is running late. They all wonder if he'll make it on time, and Yamcha, Kuririn, and Jackie register for the tournament.
As they're doing this, they run into new adversaries, a rival to Turtle School called the Crane School, and is led by Sudasenin. So Sudasenin is the Crane Hermit, and he is Kame Senin's rival. They both trained together under a guy named Master Mutaito, and he's just a bitter old guy. He's just an asshole. He has 2 little compadres right there, Tenshinhan and Chaozu, and they are going to be participating in this tournament as well. But Goku is still nowhere to be seen. So, when it comes to Japanese, I know a decent amount. I could explain to you some things, even though I probably only know like 1% of the language. When it comes to Chinese, I have absolutely no idea, and that's important because these 2 names are both based in Chinese. Tenshinhan is the Japanese word for a Chinese dish for crab omelets, and Chaozu is the Japanese reading of the Chinese reading for dumpling. Funnily enough, if you were to actually read these out in Chinese, it would be Tianxian Fan, I think, and then Chaozu. That, I think, is the reason why, and I have no idea how else this could have possibly happened, that Tenshinhan's name in the dub is Tien space Shinhan. I have no idea how they came up with that, other than the fact that they maybe were referencing the Chinese name.
I think this theory holds a lot of water, as Chaozu's dub spelling is specifically the way that we Westerners romanize the Chinese word for gyoza, the same way that the Japanese approximate it as Chaozu. So, interestingly, this arguably makes the dub name the most accurate adaptation for an English tongue. However, last name Shinhan is still a massive departure.
Tenshinhan is the coolest character in the mythos. I just remember watching Dragon Ball Fighters, and I remember seeing Tenshinhan, and I was just like, that guy's fucking cool. That was my immediate thought.
Goku arrives in the nick of time and dons his familiar Kame-gi once again.
And if you notice, he's actually slightly taller. It's kind of difficult to tell, except for the fact that Toriyama actually redrew this panel, but with the new proportions for these characters. So you can actually see how Goku is slightly taller.
Toriyama's goated.
Backstage, we get more insight on the Crane students, and the two cement themselves as inversions of Yamcha and Kuririn, with Ten specifically being as ruthless and arrogant as ever.
There's also this wonderful panel of Yamcha giving the middle finger to Tenshinhan, which I have to mention because the Viz manga censored it. They just cut off the finger, which is stupid. So they fight in the preliminaries, and Goku matches up against this guy named King Chappa. So King Chappa is this big master of martial arts, and he has this special attack called the Hashuken, or the Fist of 8 Arms. Goku wins by jumping into the air and then stalling himself by breathing out really heavily and then hitting him out of bounds. This is a big shock to everyone because, again, Chappa is a huge martial arts master, so how could Goku beat him? All that kind of stuff.
Chaozu uses his psychic powers to rig the lineup, and the first match is Tenshinhan versus Yamcha.
And this fight has probably the single best song in the anime. It's called Wolf Hurricane, and it's sung by Toru Furuya, which is Yamcha's voice actor, and it is incredible. I listen to it all the time. It's great. So Tenshinhan and him fight, but Tenshinhan is the stronger of the two, so he manages to knock Yamcha out. As Yamcha gets knocked out on the ground, he flies down and knees Yamcha in the leg and breaks his leg. Very controversial attack, by the way, just landing on somebody with your knee. I don't know if that's happened before, but it's really intense.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
The next fight is Jackie versus Manwolf, who isn't so keen about the whole lack of a moon thing.
And while they're watching this fight, Goku and Kuririn realize that Chaozu and Tenshinhan are flying. They have this thing called Bukujutsu, which means the art of skydancing, and it is a technique that basically just lets you float. So Jackie treats him like a dog, he does the whole thing, play fetch, all that kind of stuff, and he throws a bone out of the ring, and then Manwolf jumps after it, and he gets the bone, and then he's out of the ring.
Damn, what a retard.
Yeah, exactly. He's just such an idiot.
Next up, Kuririn versus Chaozu.
So, problem, like I said, Chaozu can fly, so Kuririn's having a hard time pinning him down. Goku mentions how the Dodonpa, which Chaozu uses, is really similar to Tao Pai Pai, and that perks up Tenshinhan's ears, and he says, hey, how do you know about him? And Goku says, oh, it's just some guy that I beat up. This tips Tenshinhan off to the fact that Tao Pai Pai was murdered, and that's important because Tenshinhan was actually trained by Tao Pai Pai, because Tao Pai Pai is the Surusenin's brother. So, the next match is Goku versus Ponputo. So, Ponputo is the super feared martial artist, right? Everybody loves him, he's so fucking powerful, and everybody thinks that Goku's gonna lose, and then Goku elbows him in the chest and he knocks him out. Why do we have this? We already did King Chappa. This is just a waste of time.
It's one of the matches of all time, yeah.
Next is the start of the semifinals, Jackie Chun versus Tenshinhan. Ten is quick to realize the Muten Roshi's ruse, and pulls out one of his signature techniques, the Taiyo-ken, or Fist of the Sun, to blind Jackie for a sneak attack. He mocks the Turtle School's lack of skill by performing his own Kamehameha, and Kame-Sennin decides to forfeit.
Well, I think it's because it kind of calls back on what the Turtle Hermit's original motivation was, entering the tournament, was to kind of just keep hope alive. I think what he exactly says is there's always someone stronger. He doesn't want Goku and Krillin to become complacent. And Tenshinhan, just kind of the fact that he whips out the Kamehameha just kind of proves to the Turtle Hermit, okay, yeah, so there's always someone stronger. There's gonna be strong guys out there. I don't need to teach them this lesson anymore. Tenshinhan's doing it just fine himself.
And that plays into the theme of this specific storyline, personal growth and the next generation. Goku came back from a training journey ready to face down the peak of human ability. Yamcha and Kuririn both mastered their school's signature attack, and Tenshinhan's dedication to self-improvement over all else allows him to question the destiny thrust onto him, that of following in the footsteps of Surusenin and Tao Pai Pai. It's time for the next generation of fighters to decide their own futures, and test themselves not out of any petty rivalry, but to become the best people they can be. Case in point, Match 6, a clash of the Turtle students, Goku versus Kuririn.
So they fight, and it's fucking epic. Super awesome choreography where Kuririn shoots a Kamehameha and Goku stops it with one hand, which is just that's so awesome.
Toriyama was kind of this is what Toriyama specializes in, which is funny because he comes from a gag manga background. The speed lines, the way he does everything is just genius.
So Kuririn realizes, hey, Goku still has a weakness. I didn't just do this Kamehameha for nothing. I did this to distract him. So he runs behind Goku and he grabs his tail. But then Goku reveals that this entire time he's been training his tail for the last 3 years, and it's no longer a weakness to him. So the fight ends by Goku jumping back and forth so goddamn fast that he becomes invisible to Kuririn, and then he rushes in front of him and punches him out of bounds. But Tenshinhan, he has the 3 eyes, so he was able to see how fast Goku is. So we know that Tenshinhan and Goku are pretty much evenly matched.
And with that, we've reached the climax of the tournament, Goku versus Tenshinhan. Ten manages to get an early lead, but, like with Jackie before him, Goku won't go down so easily.
And he uses this thing called the Haikyuken, or the volleyball fist, where he makes that incredible face, if you look at the first panel. And then he uses the Taioken, the fist of the sun, right? He flashes the light into Goku's face. But Goku avoids it by stealing the Muten Roshi's glasses. And I love this image so much. This would be my profile picture, if not for the fact that I am dedicated to the cult of Zico. So anyway, they keep fighting, and for some reason Goku keeps freezing up. And Tenshinhan manages to figure out why. Sudasenin is telling Chaozu to use his psychic powers from the stands to stop Goku. And this really frustrates Tenshinhan because he really just wants to win on his own. And this is such a shock to Sudasenin that he would betray him, essentially, that he tries to just say, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna kill you. So then Roshi shoots a Kamehameha from the stands and hits Sudasenin and flies him off into the horizon. It's really funny, especially in the anime where it just happens so fast.
He literally just flies away like something out of a Parappa the Rapper cutscene.
They continue to trade techniques for a while, and Ten is left with no other option than his ultimate attack, the Ki Koho, or Ki Blast Cannon.
It's this whole thing where he shoots a big-ass beam out of his hands, and it is so strong that it literally shortens the lifespan of him. Weaker people would just be killed if they use this. And he realizes Goku can't fly, but he can. So what he's gonna do is he's gonna blow up the entire rim and force Goku out of bounds. So he flies up into the air and then he shoots it, and it blows up the ground so fucking aggressive. It's just this massive hole in the fucking floor. Goku jumps up to avoid it, right? And now Goku is in free fall, but then Tenshinhan is just flying there. You've already used most of your energy on the Kikoho. I'm gonna launch a Kamehameha away from me, use the rest of my energy to launch me away from you and fly into Tenshinhan's chest. And that's enough to knock them both out. Just like Goku and Jackie Chun before, they start falling and it's just about who's gonna hit the ground first. There is no rip. And it looks like Goku is going to actually land after Tenshinhan. But at the last second, Goku crashes into a car, which accelerates his momentum and slams him into the ground, and then Tenshinhan lands afterwards. So Tenshinhan is the winner of the 22nd Budokai through basically just pure luck. It also doesn't make any sense because if you crash into a car, you would crumple into it and it would slow your descent. But let's just assume that that's not how this universe works.
It's like the Cybertrucks. Yeah, they don't crumple exactly.
Anyway, everybody returns to the tournament grounds. By the way, Lunch is here. She's been here this whole time. Welcome back. You haven't been here in a few arcs. And she's in love with Tenshinhan because she just loves his savagery, even though he's already given up on his assassination dream. So they're about to leave. They're gonna go backstage, get the Dragon Ball or whatever. Goku forgot his stuff, but then Kuririn's like, don't worry about it. I'll go get it. You guys go ahead of me. So he goes backstage, and then they hear a scream. So they run backstage, and they see that Kuririn is knocked out, and the tournament announcer is there as well. He says that a monster showed up and attacked Kuririn, and he stole Goku's Dragon Ball and the tournament roster, and that Kuririn tried to fight back, but in doing so, he fucking dies. He died trying to fight this fucking monster that just showed up and just murdered him. And that is the end of the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai arc.
Oh shit.
Damn. So Hillary Krillin is just dead for the series? Like he dies there?
He's dead. He's literally fucking dead. He was murdered by this monster.
God damn.
Yeah, so I think I really like this arc as well. I personally prefer the 21st Tenkaichi Budokai, but this is up there for me as well. Tenshinhan is an awesome character. He should get more use in the series. I really like how these earlier arcs of Dragon Ball, they constantly call back to and iterate on things introduced previously. Like, Tao Pai Pai in the previous arc. You knew he would be connected to a rival martial arts school.
Well, it's interesting because Toriyama explicitly has stated before he does not plan shit out. He just writes stuff as he writes shit.
That's like an important thing to keep in mind for later. That Toriyama explicitly says he does not plan things out. Toriyama is like the opposite of George Lucas, where George Lucas would retcon and then has like insisted, this was always my vision. This is always what I wanted to do. Toriyama is the complete opposite. Toriyama is like, no, I just made that shit up. Like I came up with that later. Tao Pai Pai is not part of the Crane School, right? I mean, but now he is, because I say so. And there's other shit like that will come up later. Drew, what are you thinking of Dragon Ball so far, by the way? I'm genuinely curious.
It's very cool. My favorite part so far is when he's going through the red, what were they called? The red ribbon army. He's just like going through the building, defeating all the bosses. It reminded me of the raid. There's way more perverted shit than I previously thought.
I was surprised as you are when I started reading the original manga.
Penis balls. Sorry. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
I had to fucking sync my audio and my recording.
I'm telling the teacher.
Livid at his best friend's senseless death, Goku snags the Dragon Radar and gives chase against Roshi's orders.
Oolong, who was in the stance this entire time, finds a slip of paper that has a Ma kanji on it. Now, Ma is the kanji for demon, and this sends alarm bells off in Roshi's head because he recognizes this specific kanji and relates it to Piccolo DAIMAO, who is the great demon king. So when Kame Sennin was young, he and Suri Sennin trained under this guy named Mutaito, and Piccolo, who was this demon, ravaged the entire world. He was just a guy who sent out a bunch of other demons that did his bidding and all that kind of stuff and just killed a bunch of people. This is like 300 years ago. And he was alive back then, because again, he drank the immortality elixir. He trained with Mutaito, and Mutaito knew this specific attack called the Mafuba, or the demon sealing wave. Now, the Mafuba has been lost to time. The Mafuba, like the Kikoho, is something that takes a lot of life energy to use, and Mutaito was already near the end of his life, so he died. So he sealed Piccolo away in an electric rice cooker. So this entire time, Piccolo has just been sealed away, and for some reason, the seal has broken.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
So as it turns out, the person that broke the seal on the jar was Pilaf, and we get to see Piccolo himself. Drew, the green guy that is Frieza, is not Frieza, it's Piccolo.
Right.
So he wants to collect all the Dragon Balls in order to wish himself to be young again, so that he can be at the prime of his power and take over the world. So he needs to kill all martial artists and make sure that nobody can use the Mafuba again. So Goku is flying off, and he finds the demon that killed Kuririn, and it's this big guy named Tambourine. Now, if you can't tell, Tambourine, Piccolo, he has a little attendant. If you notice in this previous panel, the guy standing next to him, his name is Piano. They're all named after instruments because they would be funny. So Goku encounters this guy named Tambourine, but Goku is still really weak from the tournament. So Tambourine shoots at Quinton and plummets Goku down, and he falls into a forest and he gets knocked unconscious. So Tambourine brings the ball back to Piccolo, and Goku is left alone in the forest.
Piccolo creates a new minion, Symbol, to collect the remaining Dragon Balls, as Tambourine continues killing martial artists. The gang decide to wish for Piccolo's defeat, and Roshi, Tenshinhan, and Chaozu start collecting the Dragon Balls.
So Goku wakes up, and he's alone in a forest, and he miraculously just finds a giant fish. So he's like, this is awesome. He eats the entire thing, and now he's back to full health, because he's no longer hungry. He tries summoning Quinton, and this time it actually is dead. Like, it's just not coming back. He senses the Dragon Ball nearby, and it's because it belongs to this guy named Yajirobe. Yajirobe is just this fat samurai dude, and he's got the Dragon Ball around his neck. And the fish that Goku ate was Yajirobe, so he's really upset that Goku just ate his whole dinner.
Symbol arrives following Yajirobe's ball, and he's made very quick work of. Yajirobe proceeds to roast him on a spit and eat him, which is kind of messed up when you realize he was a fully conscious, intelligent individual.
Interestingly enough, Goku says that Yajirobe sounds like Kuririn, which is the only time in the entire series where a character explicitly is said to sound like somebody else. And I think a reason for this is because Kuririn's voice actress is a woman named Mayumi Tanaka.
Luffy on One Piece, right?
Yeah, Luffy in One Piece. Because she would be out of the action because Kuririn's dead, they wanted her to be able to do something, so I guess Toriyama just wrote in this idea of Yajirobe sounding like Kuririn. And then when they got to this point in the anime, wouldn't you know it, Mayumi Tanaka voices Yajirobe.
Following Symbol's death, Piccolo directs Tambourine to Goku's location, but because he's no longer hungry, he easily takes out the demon and avenges Kuririn's death. Sensing his underling's defeat, Piccolo decides to make himself known and descends down to battle.
And Piccolo is way too strong for Goku. Goku tries using a Kamehameha, which makes Piccolo think he's using the Mafuba, but he isn't, so Goku tries to jump away, and Piccolo shoots at him, and it knocks Goku out cold. So he takes the Dragon Ball, and then Yajirobe reappears to tend to Goku's body as Piccolo flies away with the Dragon Ball. And miraculously, Goku is still alive somehow. No, he did not have the Dragon Ball in his shirt, he just happened to not die to this attack. His heart stopped beating, but just started beating again. That's the explanation that they give. So he is here now, and he needs help, so he asks Yajirobe to say, hey, can you bring me to Karin Tower, because I want to be able to train with him again.
The Dragon Team have acquired the 5th Dragon Ball, right as Piccolo closes in on them with the remaining 2. They quickly come up with a plan, and are left with no other option than a direct confrontation.
Piccolo descends to fight, and then Tenshinhan wants to fight as well. But Roshi says it's too dangerous. You're too strong to be thrown away like this. So he shoots this like sleeping gas at him that makes him fall asleep.
That's really weird.
It is really weird, isn't it?
That's just like, he just has gas. Wouldn't it make more sense for him to use some kind of like hypnosis? Yeah.
I don't know, man. He just has sleeping gas. And it's also in this scene where he just says, hey, remember when I said that I drank the immortality elixir? Yeah, that was just a lie. I was just pretending. Like, I actually didn't. So Roshi squares up against Piccolo, and he surprises everybody because he lied about the fact that the Mafuba was something that was lost to time because he uses it himself. Turns out that he did know about it, but he didn't want anybody to know because he didn't want Tenshinhan pestering him about it and getting him to learn such a deadly technique. So he uses it, and he manages to attempt to seal Piccolo away, but he misses. But the effort of doing it is so much of a burden on his body that he also fucking dies. The Muten Roshi is dead, so 2 characters of the main cast are just murdered. So Piccolo collects all 7 Dragon Balls together and summons Shenlong. So he's about to make his wish. So Chaozu jumps in the way and says, hey, destroy Piccolo. But before he can, Piccolo shoots at him and kills him too. So Chaozu's dead. R.I.P. He had nothing to do. Tenshinhan is upset, at least, so that's something. And Piccolo wishes for his youth. And he returns back to his prime form. As Goku and Yajirobe are heading to the Karin Tower, they realize, oh, the sky is dark, and he realizes that he must have summoned Shenlong. And as Shenlong is about to disappear, he says, you know what? I don't really need you anymore. Why bother letting you be an option for everybody else? So he shoots a beam at Shenlong and blows him the fuck up. Everybody is dead. Just dead after dead after dead. Shenlong is murdered. You could just, this is a thing you can do apparently, is just murder Shenlong. I did not know this is a thing that could happen.
Yeah, goddamn.
So anyway, now the world is completely fucked because Piccolo has his power back and Shenlong is dead. So they can't even revive Kuririn if they wanted to.
After that horrific string of events, Piccolo starts making plans, and the first order of business is to deal with the Pilaf gang.
And he opens up a trapdoor and drops him out, and this is the last time that the Pilaf gang show up. It's interesting though because a lot of people refer to the first arc as the Pilaf arc, but I actually don't agree because if you notice, they show up in the first arc, then again in Red Ribbon once, and then here, and then they never show up again. Whereas in the anime, they add in a lot more filler of the Pilaf gang showing up even past this point, so it makes them feel more important than they actually are to the actual series.
Piccolo heads to the castle of the Nation King, who relinquishes control over the world due to Piccolo's display of power. Goku reaches Karin's and is in desperate need of healing.
Karin gives Goku a Senzu beam, and the Senzu beam heals him up to full. Now, like I said, there's a lot of stuff going on about how when Goku is hungry, it's related to his strength. This is the first time in the series where, for some fucking reason, it doesn't make any sense, he just decides that he's just going to get a boost. Like, it's just like a stamina up. From this point on, the Senzu beam has been kind of retconned away from its original purpose as something that plays into Goku's character trait and into just a magical cure-all. I eat a Senzu bean, I get healed back to full. That's just how it is now.
It's just the Mega Elixir over here, yeah?
It's Toriyama appropriating, he's doing cultural appropriation to one of Goku's traits, and just making this infinitely regenerating beam that is just incredibly powerful. And not because of that, they have to be artificially limited for the rest of the series, because having infinite access to instant health restoratives is incredibly overpowered.
Yeah, especially because, like, you see in that, like, picture, Karin's got, like, a whole jar of this shit.
From now until the end of time, he only has, like, I only have, like, 3 left. It's just like, why? The whole thing about it making you full for 10 days is just kind of like, it's mentioned one more time, and then never again.
Well, I'm assuming, so was that done because they want other characters to be able to use them, or?
Well, I think it was just done because they wanted, like, a convenient cure item, so, like, we could fuck up people in a fight, and then we can just, like, cure them, so it's fine.
It's just Goku needs to be back in the action right now. I can't explain anything else other than he just is back to full. Like, that's it. Karin informs Goku of the fact that the Muten Roshi is fucking dead, and he convinces Goku that, hey, if you're just gonna go off and fight him anyway and die, you may as well take this actual super special thing that I have called the Choshinsui, not to be confused with the Choseisui, which means super holy water. This is super god water. This is very unique and not at all derivative of the material that we just got before. So, unlike the Choseisui, which is about the whole training journey of getting the water, the Choshinsui is actually just a magic cure-all. You can just drink it and then you will get stronger. The problem is that it's poison and it will murder you. You need to be strong enough to be able to take it and not die. This chapter also aired. In the pre-manga title page of this, Toriyama mentioned how he had a fever when he was making this chapter, and I can tell because the story of this chapter is fucking crap. So Goku decides he's gonna drink the Choshinsui. So at the same time, Tenshinhan, who witnessed Roshi using the Mafuba, is deciding to practice it himself. And he's ass at it, but he manages to get it eventually. He's like, I'm gonna go fight Piccolo, I'm gonna fly off, it's gonna be epic. Everybody's telling me not to, but I'm just gonna do it anyway because I'm a gamer.
Goku wakes up the next morning full of a newfound, entirely earned power, and Tenshinhan has finally mastered the Mafuba. They both prepare to confront the demon, and Goku is given another Kintoin from Karin.
I mean, this is kind of a retcon right here, is that Karin now is the one that has Kinto, and it seems to be, like, divvying it up, where the Turtle Hermit originally said that it came from God.
I mean, Karin is essentially like a godly-esque figure, even if he isn't actually a god.
He lives in the sky, he's God.
Back at King's Castle, Piccolo celebrates his coronation on television, announces his district destruction plan, and declares May 9th as Piccolo Day.
So the world is fucked, right? It's being ruled by Piccolo. So now Tenshinhan is like, what? There's a hope. What are you laughing at?
The fucking image in that top panel in the very bottom right, the little small.
I didn't even see that.
Yeah, I just noticed.
You fucking cunt, had you... That's definitely when Trump got elected, that was my reaction. Piccolo Day.
Piccolo is not my president.
So Tenshinhan's like, I'm gonna use the Mafuba, so he decides to. And as he arrives at the fight for Piccolo, as he arrives at King's Castle, it's just the thing is broken, so he just doesn't use it. So, awesome. It's established that this is a thing that people know and can use, and that it's never used. He just decides I'm not going to use it anymore. And because Piccolo wants to show off Tenshinhan, he summons a new minion called Drum. Now, I myself decide that I'm not going to try to get too many of my opinions out there about this, because I really just want to hear your guys' opinions and all this kind of stuff. I'm trying to keep all of that suppressed. I think this might be the single most unsatisfying development in the entire series, because it's after all of the kind of like, okay, so here's the Choshinsui, which is the Choseisui again, but now this time it's actually an elixir. And also, the Mafuba is a thing that we're setting up, and now it doesn't work anymore, and we're never going to use it again. Anyway, that's dumb. The Mafuba is just, forget it ever existed.
No, I was just gonna say, because you mentioned, there was some, like, really good use of when there wasn't really a plan ahead, like with Gohan coming back and all of that. Seems like there is a lot of good incorporation of that, but there is also, it feels like there's a lot of Toriyama sort of getting cold feet on a lot of things, of being like, yeah, let me introduce this insanely, stupidly broken, overpowered bullshit, and then he realizes, maybe that makes it, like, way too easy for the story to resolve.
The anime makes this so much better. Piccolo preemptively summons Drum, and Tenshinhan tries to seal Piccolo. Drum jumps in the way, and then Piccolo uses that opportunity to break the jar. So ultimately, It's the same idea, but at least he actually uses it.
I mean, imagine like in Breaking Bad, right? There's a bomb that goes off, right? Walt makes a bomb. He tries to do it once, it doesn't work. What if the first time the bomb fails, he's like, well, can't do that.
Tenshinhan gets knocked around by Drum and is saved from the brink of death by Goku, who effortlessly kicks Drum's face in.
This is like the first time like someone gets like gored in Dragon Ball. That shit like that happens more.
Especially in the manga, but anyway. So Goku beats Drum, and now it's finally time for Goku and Piccolo to fight. So they do. Goku manages to hit Piccolo away, and it flies into Piano. I barely mentioned Piano at all, but this is a cool scene, because he hits him into Piano, and then Piano just dies.
The fight continues, and Piccolo gravely injures Goku's leg. He uses the opportunity to launch an attack at full power, which Goku is incapable of dodging.
Except, Tenshinhan uses the rest of his power to grab Goku and fly into the air. So Piccolo's like, well, if you're out of power, I may as well just do my attack again. So he does, and miraculously, Goku survives. I don't know how, he just does. But he's really, really wounded. And Piccolo wonders, how is it even possible that a guy like this could even survive his attacks? And Goku just kind of offhandedly says that he has a tail, so maybe he's not human.
Piccolo takes Tenshinhan hostage and proceeds to disable all of Goku's limbs.
Piccolo flies up to the sky, and he's gonna launch a big attack at Goku and finally finish him off. But Piccolo forgot to incapacitate one of Goku's arms. So he uses his last arm, he shoots a Kamehameha out the ground, and he blasts it, and he flies through the air, and he punches through Piccolo's body.
That panel is so fucking good.
It's so cool. It is. I love that it's like there's no actual like background art. It's just on the white background. It's awesome. So he flies through Piccolo's chest.
Where's Ralph Wiggum? He's supposed to be the one that goes through Piccolo here.
If I knew what you were referencing, other than the surface level,
Yeah,
I would probably be able to answer. But anyway,
Piccolo funnels his remaining life force into an egg, which will birth not a son, but a complete reincarnation of the Demon King, carrying on all of his memories and ambitions, who will eventually rise once again. In the meantime, Tenshinhan heads back to Kame House, and Yajirobe brings Goku back to Karin Tower.
And we finally learn about the fate of those killed by the Mazoku. So we mentioned several times before, Piccolo is a demon. The Mazoku, or demon clansmen, have a very specific thing that happens when they kill people, and they kind of just float in the ether. They don't really go to heaven or hell or whatever. They just kind of exist as like loose spirits that just kind of, just float around in the ether without any way of moving on.
They're like in limbo, essentially.
So because the dragon is dead, they can't summon the Dragon Balls anymore. That means that Kuririn, Chaozu, the Muten Roshi, they're going to be stuck in limbo forever. But then Karin gives him a secondary option. Maybe the way to revive the dragon, and thus everybody else, would be to visit the person who made the Dragon Balls to begin with. And that person is God. God is the person that made the Dragon Balls. So God is actually still a character. It is still an entity. And he's the one that made the Dragon Balls. So Goku needs to go meet God and ask him to make the Dragon Balls again.
I say God instead of Kami because it's literally what that word translates to. The whole Guardian of Earth moniker is something that Dub created in order to censor the religious reference. However, since the Dragon Ball world is inspired by real-life Eastern religions and philosophies, a case can be made for keeping the term as Kami-sama. Translating it out has potential to lose the nuance of the intended role these entities play in a polytheistic country like Japan. However, given that the character is meant to be immediately understood as a deity, and the fact that calling him God goes way harder to Western ears, I decide to translate it. But for the sake of clarity, I tend to flip-flop between the two. They're still functionally interchangeable.
So, Yajirobe doesn't believe that there's a possibility of God just existing, especially because Karin says that even higher above Karin Tower is where God lives. And the way that you get there is through the Nyoibo. As it turns out, the Nyoibo was originally used as a thing that basically transported people from the living living world into essentially heaven and able to meet God.
This is really like another example in terms of a good retcon. A retcon expands the mythology. Yeah, God is mentioned in the very first arc.
And that technically means, if you think about it, Kitta could have still have been given to Karin by God.
Goku ascends to God's palace and meets his attendant, Mr. Popo. Through a brief training lesson, Goku is introduced to the concept of sensing someone's presence without the use of his eyes. It's the first real introduction we get to Ki as a concept, with a more fleshed out explanation than the Kamehamehas of old. Goku promises to train, and Popo deems him worthy of meeting God.
And wouldn't you know it, it is Piccolo. For some reason, God just looks exactly like Piccolo. And Goku is like, what the fuck is this? Why is Piccolo still alive? But then God gives the explanation, basically. God and Piccolo were once one and the same person. He was one person that split himself off into good and evil halves.
Which kind of reminds me of like religious god myths and stuff like that. He like splits himself off and like casts like his devil like into the world with people. It's like, that's cool as fuck.
God decides to revive the dragon, and Goku decides to train at the palace to fight back against the reborn Piccolo in 3 years.
So Goku is going to stay here, and back at Kame House, they summon Shenlong, and so they use the wish to revive everybody that was killed by Piccolo and his underlings. Which means Kuririn, Muten Roshi, Chaozu come back to life. This is so epic. We're going to see each other again at the beginning of the next tournament. Kuririn is alive again, so everybody's back.
What about the Charactizer Bunny?
He wasn't killed by Piccolo, so I guess he's just dead. I don't know.
He was just wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah.
Chilling on the moon when it got blown up.
So anyway, that's the Piccolo DAIMAO arc. I won't really get into this much now, but I know, Christian, you mentioned this before. A lot of people say, you know, the whole Dragon Ball Z thing, it was split with the arc after the next one. But I really think that a lot of the DNA, even as far back as Bora dying in Red Ribbon, is really kind of established here, and a lot of the tropes that define Dragon Ball in its later years really come to fruition here. Like the big bad villain, you know, being blasted by an attack, and then they just kind of...
Yeah, this is when it turns into like a big like action. This is like the action series kind of really starting to take hold.
Yeah, so I still stand by my observation that the germs of that are definitely introduced in the Red Ribbon arc, but yeah, it makes sense that this is what comes to mind. The stakes are really escalated, the main cast being killed off, world domination, and the get out of jail free card in the dragon being taken out, which Dragon Ball's drama, in my opinion, is at its best when the dragon is plausibly taken out.
And also in like a wham moment of like, oh shit, he's just dead. Like, it's not even like the Dragon Balls are like disabled, it's just Shenlong died.
Like I said, he just disables hacks. Valve anti-cheat on. What is Drew's thoughts of this, about the Frieza arc?
Yes, about the Frieza arc. What are your thoughts about the Frieza arc?
That was really funny when all those characters died. That was pretty epic.
Another 3 years have passed, which means another Tenkaichi Budokai. Bulma has grown considerably, and she waits with Roshi and Lunch for the rest of the group to arrive.
And then, just then, somebody new shows up. Somebody that they've never seen before. And they don't know who he is, but he manages to recognize everybody else. And then the rain lets up, so he takes off his head covering. And as it turns out, it's Goku. He's an adult now. I mean, he's 18, but he's still an adult. So, everybody is just, wow, this is crazy. And I love this so much, by the way, because one thing that I love about Dragon Ball is that time actually passes. In other series, time does not pass. Ash Ketchum will always be 10, Timmy Turner will always be a kid, whereas with Dragon Ball, it's like, okay, Goku's 12, now he's 15, now he's an adult. And it's just like, it's great. I love it. And then, everybody else shows up, and we get to see their awesome new redesigns. So if you look at Kuririn's outfit, he actually has a little name tag on his shirt that says Kuririn in English lettering. So if you care about Bulma being called Bulma because it's written on her shirt, then you should call Kuririn Kuririn because of that. So that's pretty cool.
Well, you also mentioned, yeah, it's kind of interesting. This establishes that Kuririn is actually like short, because before we've only ever seen him when he was like a kid, and like, yeah, obviously he's small because he's with Goku.
They head backstage and don their turtle outfits once again, this time for good. Yamcha and Kuririn question where Goku's tail went, and Goku explains that God removed it so he could safely bring back the moon.
But he didn't actually tell Goku what his tail's relationship to the moon is.
So the Charactizer Bunny is back. For real this time?
No, because he wasn't killed by Piccolo.
But God brought the moon back. Who else is gonna make that fucking mochi?
The gang get a glimpse of the reincarnated Piccolo, and we learn that he entered as Ma Junya. Junya is simply the English word junior, and Ma, of course, means demon. Demon Junior. Quite a cover name, eh? But it isn't actually that obvious. You know how in English we have two different writing systems? Uppercase and lowercase letters? There's nothing inherent about these symbols that imply they're the same letter. We just instinctively know that they are and utilize them for different things. things. Japanese is similar in that way, except there are 3 of them and are based on consistent sounds, those being vowel and consonant-vowel combinations. There's hiragana, used for native words, katakana, used for foreign words, and kanji, which are literally hieroglyphics. Just like in English, the system used is context-sensitive. The symbol on DAIMAO's chest is specifically the kanji for demon, whereas Ma Junior's name uses the katakana, which has no inherent meaning. For the record, most Dragon Ball names are written out in katakana, so this follows that trend. I'm basically saying that Piccolo entered the tournament under a gamertag.
The dub mispronounces this name.
They do Majunior.
Majunior, they say, which is great.
So anyway, they meet up with this girl, and for some reason she seems to know who Goku is, but nobody else knows who she is. And she's really upset by the fact that Goku doesn't recognize her, and she just storms the fuck off.
They fight through the prelims, and Chaozu is taken out by a now mechanical Tao Pai Pai, who's eager to get revenge on the Crane School traitors. The last qualifying round is totally not Yajirobe versus an ordinary man named Shen. Shen wins, seemingly by pure luck, and the 8 contestants are finalized. With the tournament properly underway, Tenshinhan squares up against Tao Pai Pai.
So Tao Pai Pai tries to do all this wacky shit. He pulls out a knife on Tenshinhan, and that's against the rules. You're not allowed outside interference weapons. But he does get blindsided, so he gets slashed across the chest, and now he has that big scar across his chest that he'll have for the rest of the series. Tao Pai Pai's ultimate attack is the Super Dodonpa, so he shoots the big old thing, but it doesn't work. Tenshinhan literally screams so loud that it just disintegrates. Like, it's insane. And then he just punches him, and then he just falls out of bounds.
The next match is Goku versus the anonymous girl. Nobody else understands why she has a chip on her shoulder, but her declaration of marriage tips Oolong off.
And so she reveals who she is. She is Gyumao's daughter, Chi-Chi, from the beginning of the series. We're bringing this character back. That's pretty cool. And Goku figures, well, I did technically make a promise even though I didn't know what marriage was, so I guess we're just gonna get married.
I'm curious who else that's not familiar with Dragon Ball saw this coming.
Here's one thing I wanted to talk about Piccolo that I just kind of forgot. I think that the anime version of the Piccolo arc is just better. Every single change that they make is better, except for the fact that they keep having Chi-Chi show up in filler. And when we're discussing this, Chi-Chi literally has not appeared since the first arc that she was in, really. She was there and then she was gone.
Yeah, like there was no reason to believe that this character is any more important than, I keep bringing him up, Tonijika, the Characterizer Bunny. So there was no reason to think that Chi-Chi would stick around for any longer than he did, but yeah, here she is.
I mean, I wasn't expecting, no. When you said she wasn't coming back, then I kind of figured, okay, that's done.
I mean, I wasn't really expecting it either. I mean, I kind of expected, but seeing a lot of characters, oh yeah, they'll probably be reprised at some point. This was a lot longer than I thought was the lifespan of that. Before, like, any of this, I thought Goku and Bulma were, like, a thing.
A lot of people wish that were the case, but unfortunately it is not.
Match 3 is Kuririn versus Ma Junior, the former giving much more of a fight than Piccolo was expecting.
And Kuririn shoots a beam out of his hands, and I think this might actually be the first, like, generic, non-named key attack among the ones that the Dragon Team use, because Piccolo shoots one at Goku, but this is just like, I'm just shooting a key blast. Alongside that, he also figured out flight, and Ma Junior does end up beating him. He uses a stretchy arm and extendo finger, and Ma Junior manages to knock him out.
After that, Yamcha versus Shen. Surely he won't be used as a measuring stick again, right?
And spoilers, Shen is more than he lets on. He's not actually just an old guy. So Yamcha decides he's going to pull out his new technique, which is super awesome. It's called the Sokidan, or the spinning key bullet, where he directs this little ball around and makes it fly around all over the place. And Shen is really surprised just by how powerful Yamcha is, so he hits him out of the ring. And this gives Goku an epiphany. He realizes Shen, wait a second, Shen Long, Shen means God. God is in Shen's body, and decided to enter this tournament akin to Jackie Chun in order to help out against the fight with Piccolo.
Seeing a theme here with every one of these fights.
The next match is unrelated to that conflict, but is still a sight to behold. The only tournament rematch in the entire series, Goku versus Tenshinhan. They start off strong, and Goku is surprised by Tenshinhan's speed.
Goku asks, hey, we fight for a bit. I want to take a little bit of a break. I just want to take some clothes off. Shed some of this extra stuff that I got on. So he says, go ahead. And so he does, and he takes it off. And as it turns out, one of Goku's training regimens is that God made it so that Goku's clothes are weighted up to, I think, 100 kilograms or 200 pounds of clothes. He's just been wearing this entire time and fighting at the same level as Tenshinhan, at the same speed as Tenshinhan.
This is the princess bride of Wesley being like, by the way, I'm not left-handed, and he, switches swords to the other hand. It's just like, this shirt's really fucking heavy, hold on.
Tenshinhan pulls out the 4 bodies technique, which Goku counters with Ten's own Taioken, to knock all 4 of them out of the ring. While Tenshinhan still relies on his eyes, Goku has fully mastered Ki. Match 6 is a fight between Shen and Ma Junior, and God isn't one to hold back.
And then Piccolo starts thinking to himself, how is it possible that there's someone like this that is so strong despite him being so weak? Shen then reads Piccolo's mind and starts to speak to him, and that gives Piccolo the idea of, oh shit, this is God in a human's body. So they start to speak to each other again in this weird alien language. It's just kind of this weird quirk of this thing. It's never really like established what this means, but they, whatever reason, God and Piccolo can just have this conversation between each other in this really bizarre way. So Shen says, I've learned something, and I know how to defeat you without killing you, because spoiler alert, if you kill Piccolo, God also dies. And if God dies, the dragon dies as well. So he learned a way to stop Piccolo without killing himself, and that is to use the Mafuba. So he uses it, but then Piccolo says, nah, I'm gonna reverse that onto you, and then twists it back onto God and seals him back into the bottle.
This has just thrown me like months and months back to a call we were in when you asked me for like a Yu-Gi-Oh card that was like a reversal spell or something.
That should tell you just how long I've been working on this. This is when I got to this point.
Because I remembered, yeah.
God drops the human's body, and Majunior advances to the finals. Piccolo swallows the bottle backstage, and Goku explains everything. Without any other options, he prepares himself to face off against the Demon King once again.
So Goku starts the match off with a big old Kamehameha. It's the Super Kamehameha, which is just a Kamehameha but bigger. Doesn't really work. But it does blow off Piccolo's turban, and this clues everybody into the fact that he is actually just the Demon King reborn, because for some reason nobody knew. So all the spectators run away, except for the announcers, the only one that's left. Piccolo decides to bring out his big ultimate technique, which is, I am big now. So Goku says, well, this is terrible. If you're gigantic, you're still really strong, and I can't really...
These bullet points. You said, I'm not going to put too many memes in these. And then, look at this. Just...
Yeah, anyway, so Goku is like, well, you know what would really suck is if you got bigger. And so he does, and then Goku jumps into Piccolo's mouth and gets the bottle of God and jumps back out and throws it to Tenshinhan. God is saved, and now he can fight Piccolo to his heart's content.
Goku baits Piccolo into attacking himself, which then reveals the fact that he can regenerate.
This is a thing that he can do. He can just regrow his limbs, which is pretty cool.
A bullshit hacks of this.
Yeah, I wish Daimao regrew his chest when Goku jumped through it, but I guess he could do that. Anyway, so Piccolo starts to charge an attack. It's called the Chobakuretsu Maha, which is a really fun name. And in the best lunch moment in the entire series, Lunch just kicks God into a hole that Tenshinhan made, because they just need to get under the blast, because apparently you can go under a blast and be totally fine.
Didn't realize that was how it works. Cool.
Goku tanks the attack and seemingly downs Majunior for good.
And so now they start counting, and right as they're about to get to 1, Piccolo shoots a beam and it goes through Goku's shoulder, and unfortunately he managed to miss all of Goku's vital organs. The final thing that Piccolo decides to do is, his previous incarnation lost because he left one of Goku's limbs active. This time he decides not to make that mistake. So he incapacitates all of his limbs, and then he jumps into the air and he shoots a big beam. And when he does, he just blows up the entire arena more than he already did. And it seems like Goku is finally dead, but then, as it turns out, Goku learned Bukujutsu. He flew into the air, and he descends on Piccolo and smashes into him, and it knocks him out of bounds. So now Piccolo is officially out of bounds, and also incapacitated, and Goku has finally won the 23rd, and just the Tenkaichi Budokai in general. He's finally the strongest under the heavens.
Finally a victory royale for our boy.
So he eats a SENZU bean, he starts celebrating, but then he notices that God is trying to kill Piccolo, and he doesn't want that to happen, because Piccolo's life and God's life are tied to the Dragon Balls.
Yep.
So God figures, this is my burden, I put Piccolo onto the world, this is my fault, I should die. But then Roshi says, no, all of this started because of the Dragon Balls. The Dragon Balls brought all these characters together and had all this stuff happen, and that's enough to tell God, I acquiesce, I'll leave the dragon active, and I won't kill Piccolo. Goku needs another SENZU bean, so he just asks Yajirobe, hey, can I have another SENZU? And he gives it to Piccolo. He gives the SENZU bean to Piccolo, and Piccolo just jumps back up. And then Goku tells him, I want to fight you again, because you're really strong, and it's a waste that you are being stupid. And I already proved that I'm stronger than you, so there you go. Bulma notices how much of a Chad Goku has become in the years since that they've met. And then God asks Goku if he would like to be God. And Goku says, no, this is boring, I hated being up there for the last 3 years. So, that's the end of the 23rd Budokai arc, but before we get to that, the very important thing happened behind the scenes at this time. Torishima, the guy who promoted the Dragon Ball Z change, if you remember, wanted to stop being Toriyama's active editor, because at this point he'd been doing it for a few years, and he transitioned to a new guy named Yu Kondo. Torishima's whole thing as an editor was that he was really no-nonsense. He said something, and you do it. That's just how it went. And it's for that reason why a lot of Toriyama's villains, mainly Dr. Mashirito, if you look at him right there from Dr. Slump, and Piccolo Daimao, their designs were actually based off of Torishima, just because he had a very antagonistic relationship with the man. But then the series transitioned to Kondo as the new editor, and he was about making the series more popular. And by God, is it more popular. If you'll notice, we're on volume 17 right now, if you look at the top scroll. We're not even halfway through. The next arc marks the halfway point of the series, but the reason why the rest of the series is so much longer than now is specifically because of just how popular the series got under Kondo's direction. So, like I said, that's the 23rd Budokai arc.
It's based.
It's pretty cool. I mean, I enjoy the sort of repetition of going back to the tournaments over and over again, and Goku finally gets his W.
It also goes without saying, this was a great point to end the series, like if they actually wanted to do that.
Doesn't the Turtle Hermit say, he's like, the series will go on for a little bit longer, and yeah, we're not even halfway done.
Yes, actually he does. Down there in the corner, you see a little Kame-sennin just peeking through.
Yeah, no, it's a great arc, and like Drew pointed out earlier, like with Jackie Chun being Kame-sennin, Shen being God, that's a trope that Toriyama kept bringing back up in these tournament sections of the story, so...
I miss Jackie Chud. I wish he came back.
Jackie Chud? Yeah, me too.
The world has been graced with 5 years of peace since Piccolo's last attempt at conquest, and in the interim, millions of more people began watching. As much as I try to downplay the split, it's obvious that this section of the story is what fans in the Western world are most familiar with. So, while I certainly don't intend to disrespect the upcoming stories, for the sake of keeping up the pace, expect a lot more yada-yadaing moving forward. Plus, it's not like a summary is really needed anyway. So, from the top, an aircraft lands in good old Farmer with the Shotgun's vicinity, and, when checking the wreckage, out steps Raditz. He uses his scouter to read out the farmer's Sento Ryoku, or battle power, as 5, and squashes his feeble attempt at resistance. From here he confronts Piccolo, and we learn that he's tracking someone named Kakaroto. He chases a stronger signal, and Piccolo is left thoroughly shaken.
Back at Kame House, we're having a little bit of a reunion. It's also established here that lunch will never show up again, because Bulma asks, "Where is lunch?" and Kame-sennin just says, "She ran off after Tenshinhan 5 years ago, we've never seen her since." People say Toriyama forgot about lunch. He didn't. If he did, he wouldn't have mentioned her here. That's it. She'll never show up again. So either way, Goku is flying on Ketone, and he's arriving with something in tow, specifically a kid. The kid happens to just be his. He had a child with Chi-Chi, and his name is Son Gohan. He named it after his grandpa. And he says that he is 3 years old, but it was later retconned to 4 years old. That's a little fun thing. But then Goku senses something, and he realizes that it's this new guy, Raditz. And Raditz calls out to Goku as the Kakaroto that he's looking for. Kuririn tries to shoo him away, but then Raditz attacks him, and it turns out that he also has a tail, just like Goku used to do. And now it's established that this guy right here, Raditz, has come to this planet in order to collect Kakaroto, Goku, who is actually an alien that came from their home planet named Vegeta. When Goku was a baby, he was really aggressive, and he was really evil. But then he hit his head after Gohan found him, and then after that he became super nice and all that kind of stuff. After Goku was sent away, the home planet of Vegeta was destroyed, Raditz says, by a meteor, and Goku is the only remaining of his people. Raditz is Goku's older brother. So this is a huge revelation. Goku has a brother, and he's also an alien. And the name of the alien race that Raditz is a part of, and by extension Goku is a part of, is, and this is the best part of the video because I've been waiting for this, Sa-I-Ya-Jin. Sa-I-Ya is an anagram of Ya-Sa-I, which means vegetable. So all of these character names are named after vegetables. The way that we adapt it, in the same way that America-Jin, Jin basically just means person, the way that you would adapt America-Jin to American, you would adapt Saiyajin to Saiyan, which is why I call these characters Saiyans. And I've gotten literally upwards of 100 comments on some of my videos just talking about how I'm pronouncing it wrong, and I'm finally here to say this is the definitive rant. No, I am not wrong. This is what it is. It's literally based on Yasai, not Yasei. Japanese is a phonetic language, and they say Saya.
No, I was going to say, yeah, regarding Saiyan, that pronunciation, because it's very controversial, I know. Like, Saiyan is just set in stone. But, it's kind of interesting. When I first read the manga, I didn't really know what to call them. Like, hadn't ever seen the anime or anything like that. I never heard it pronounced. I read it as, like, Saiyan. I remember I didn't know what it was. And then I heard Saiyan and started saying that, and then I switched back to Saiyan because it pisses people off. You do it because you actually care. Pissing people off is just, like, a fun side effect.
I do it because I've heard literally dozens of thousands of times them say Saiyajin, Saiyajin, Saiyajin.
Well, also because I have heard people criticize Saiyan, saying that if we wanted to just adhere to the Japanese, we should just say Saiyajin. The Jin in Saiyajin means person. Like the way that they would say Mexican is Mexicojin. They're just saying Mexico with a Japanese accent, and then Jin, so person. Spanish localization is an interesting model because in the anime they say Saiyajin. But the manga goes for a different route. Books of the Saiyan arc, and it's called Saga de los Saiyanos. The way that Mexicojin or Mexican becomes Mexicano, Saiyajin becomes Sayano.
I hope I've made it clear by now that I'm not against anglicizing Japanese terminology. In fact, I find it borderline necessary. Nothing breaks the flow of conversation more than speaking with a different set of rules. But this isn't an example of that. There's nothing about the I sound that breaks the rules of our language. We use it all the time. Ultimately, it comes down to this. Looking at the term Saiyan in isolation without any English dub bias, hearing the cast consistently pronounce it as Saiyajin, that is if they don't just anglicize it themselves, and seeing how other languages much closer to English keep the sound intact, seeing all of this evidence and deciding that it should actually be pronounced Saiyan could not be any more of a non sequitur. It's akin to a fan of the Spanish dub throwing away all contextual evidence of this character's name and demanding that I call her Milk, solely because that's her name in the version that they watch. I know it sounds like I'm getting worked up here, but in all honesty, I don't really mind how somebody decides to interpret a specific term. As long as your logic is sound, like for instance simply preferring the dub, then whatever you decide is entirely valid. I won't get in your way. I just expect the same courtesy to be given to me.
You know how like you watch multi-hour long videos and you always get to like a point where they have human rights activism and just dumb political opinions that you don't care about? This is my version of that. My political jump scare is how I decide to pronounce the word Saiyan.
And since we're talking about the species, why not break down the man himself? Goku's birth name is revealed to be Kakaroto. It's an obvious pun on carrot, or as they'd say, Kyaroto. But if the name ends in an O, why does every official source adapt it as Kakarot? Well, see that smiley face fella? That symbol doesn't actually make a sound in and of itself. It instead tells the reader to reset their vocal cords when pronouncing the next syllable, Kakaroto versus Kakaroto. It's called a glottal stop, and it's fairly prevalent in Japanese writing. It's most often used either when adapting a foreign word with back-to-back consonant sounds, like turning Puckman into Pakkuman, or to denote a word that ends hard on a consonant sound, something that Japanese can't normally do, except for the letter N, but that's a whole other thing. Because carrot ends on a consonant, the use of the glottal stop tells us that the O is linguistic baggage that should be dropped. In fact, a similar thing applies to his brother's name. Raditz is a pun on radishu, radish, with a hard ts ending, now with a Z for that extra oomph.
The only weirdness here is the dub only uses one R, whereas everybody else uses two, because carrot has two R's. You could spell it with C's, but I've never seen anybody do that before. But either way, Goku is said to be a Saiyan, and his birth name is Kakarot.
Raditz explains the Saiyan hierarchy, kidnaps the baby Gohan, and Goku and Piccolo team up to stop him.
Kuririn and Roshi want to help, but they can't because Goku introduces a new rule for the Dragon Balls. The dragon cannot grant the same wish twice. So since Kuririn and Roshi were already wished back to life, if they were to die again, they wouldn't be able to come back. So Goku and Piccolo fly off to fight Raditz, and notably, Piccolo says that he does not use the same kind of flight that Goku does.
He knows like cool devil bukujutsu instead because he's awesome like that.
Goku and Piccolo confront Raditz, and Piccolo pulls out his Makanko Sapo, Demon Pierce Light Kill Cannon. Yes, that is what it means, as Goku acts as a distraction.
And Raditz realizes that as Goku's charging his Kamehameha, his battle power is fluctuating again. And he realizes it's the fact that Goku can actually manipulate his ki, which is something that Raditz doesn't do. Raditz's battle power, I think, is a static, I think it's 1500.
Actually, Professor, I think he's 1200.
But when Goku uses the Kamehameha, he jumps all the way up to 900. This was a deliberate choice by Toriyama as a means of keeping the readers on their toes, because if it was just higher number wins always, it wouldn't be that interesting. So the fact that Goku can manipulate his ki and artificially boost his battle power is something that Raditz cannot do.
The common takeaway I see from this is the assumption that battle powers were introduced specifically to be incorrect, but I think that misses the point. Nothing about Goku being 416 in a resting state is ever shown to be wrong. The real point of them is to show how close-minded Raditz is for assuming that somebody's worth can be determined through a number. In fact, that ties beautifully into the theme of the Saiyan arc, but we aren't truly there yet.
And it's established here that Gohan has a specific trait where whenever he gets mad, his battle power just flares up dramatically, but he can't control it. Goku uses this opportunity to re-grab Raditz. He does a full Nelson on him, right? Goku's just gonna stand there and he's just gonna let Piccolo hit both of them. So Piccolo shoots the Makin Kosapo and it impales both of them, and Raditz dies, as well as Goku. But before he dies, Raditz says that he transmitted the conversation that they were having, and the two Saiyans that are left over are gonna come and they're gonna take over Earth, all that kind of stuff. So Goku dies in his friend's arms, everybody else shows up, but Goku's body actually disappears, unlike everybody else, and that's because God has a plan for him. Then we get a cutaway to the two Saiyans that are on the opposing planet that are going to come, Nappa and Vegeta. Vegeta is the prince of all of the Saiyans, that's why the planet is named after him, and Nappa is just another one of his underlings. So they heard through the scouter Piccolo talking about the Dragon Balls, and they think it would be really cool if we could go to Earth and use those Dragon Balls so that we could live forever, because we want to be able to fight forever. So they're going to come to Earth, but it's going to take them 1 year. So now the rest of the gang has 1 year to train up for the arrival of the Saiyans. Piccolo has a plan for Gohan. He's going to take Gohan, he's basically going to kidnap Gohan again, and he's going to take him into the woods, and he's going to train him so that he could use his power.
With the main character passed on, we finally get a good look at Dragon Ball's afterlife, and it's the expected mix of fantastical god myths and everyday Japanese salarymen. For the record, this is the other chapter alongside the crossover that's in full color all the way through. through. You'll also notice that the station that Goku arrives at it says welcome on it. That's another instance of Toriyama just not being a person who speaks English. The judge of the dead is one Enma Daio, or the Great King Enma. Unlike most godly beings in Dragon Ball, Enma is actually a real entity within the Buddhist religion, most often anglicized as Yama. I have no idea how Funimation got Yama. He gives Goku permission to travel down the Serpentine Road and train with Kaio-sama, World King, which Viz adapts to Lord of Worlds.
They should call it the Serpent's Pass.
Indeed, unironically I would. That's actually a good adaptation of the word. Also, under these clouds is literally hell. If you fall into these clouds, you will go to hell forever and you'll never come back. But it never comes up again, so I don't know why he establishes it.
It just came to mind to me that this part of the series, a lot of people opine about the introduction of so-called sci-fi elements like extraterrestrials and things like that. Even though Dragon Ball's always had, I guess you could say, sci-fi elements. But we see here, though, he's still expanding on the mythology and the Eastern roots a bit, even things like the afterlife here.
Goku starts his run to Kaio's, and Piccolo starts training Gohan.
And Gohan's like, oh, this isn't fair. And then Piccolo says, if you want to curse anything, curse fate. Because I have to deal the hand that I'm dealt, and you need to deal the hand that you're dealt. And that's a weirdly, insightful thing for Piccolo to say. Because if you think about it, this version of Piccolo exists as, in response to the actions of other characters. He's the rejected half of God, and was given the goal from birth to kill Goku. That's all he ever has. He doesn't have his own identity.
And then he actually did kill Goku, and now he's like, well, shit, now I have to just train up to kill even stronger guys.
Kami-sama and Popo are on the palace, and they're talking about this as well. They realize that Piccolo is actually changing. And he realizes because God himself notices that within the next year, he's going to die. Have it be through old age or through Piccolo being killed by the Saiyans. He wants to leave behind some form of legacy. And also, interestingly, if you remember, the whole thing about Mazaku not allowing people to pass on, Goku did pass on, which means that his Mazaku nature is kind of being, suppressed.
Could it be argued that Piccolo was never truly he's a demon, but he was never truly evil? That was his kind of programming?
Yeah, exactly. I guess you could say that.
During training, Gohan becomes an Ozaru, and Piccolo destroys the moon.
The reason why the moon is back to begin with is because God brought it back, but now Piccolo just says, fuck you, God, I'm just gonna blow up the moon again anyway. So that's pretty funny.
The Ninjinka dies a second time.
I know, it's not fair!
Goku arrives at Kaio's and learns his signature technique, which is, of course, called the Kaioken. Less obvious is his other attack, the Genki Dama, or Spirit Ball. This led to a bit of a problem when Funimation coincidentally used that exact same term for Yamcha's spinning ki bullet, which led to the less literal but still fairly accurate Spirit Bomb. Also, Gregory is not in the manga.
If anyone's still stuck on the Saiyan thing, they always called Kaio, they call him King Kai, which is
It's a half translation.
Yeah, they call him King Kai, but then they call his move, they incorrectly pronounce it as the Kaioken at first, and then later they changed it to Kaioken, and they just never did it with Saiyan because I think it was too, ingrained in the fandom for them to want to change.
They didn't have the nuts for that.
They didn't have the balls.
The year passes in no time at all, and the gang await the attack of the Saiyans. First order of business, reviving Goku.
Also, this is a new thing. Oolong suggests using Shenlong and just saying, hey, can you kill the Saiyans for us? But apparently, there's a new rule that says that Shenlong cannot do wishes that surpass the power of God. And because the Saiyans are stronger than God, he can't do anything to affect that.
Can the Dragon Ball still be used to elect Madam President Kamala Harris in the next election? Can that still happen? Or is that beyond God's power?
We already saw Goku shatter the glass ceiling, so I guess anything could happen.
Nappa and Vegeta touch down and immediately confront Gohan, Kuririn, and Piccolo.
And they recognize Piccolo, and they say, hey, you're not supposed to be here. You are a Namekuseijin, or a person from planet Namek, or a Namekian. So Piccolo, alongside Goku being a Saiyan, is now a person from a different planet. He is an alien. And if you remember, this is actually foreshadowed in the last arc, when God and Piccolo talk to each other in that weird language. That was Namekian.
Are you telling me the weird green man with antenna, he wasn't a human from Earth the whole time?
Well, Dragon Ball is a fantasy world.
The thing is, the Dragon Ball as a fantasy world, there were just dinosaurs, because Piccolo just gives birth to other weird demon monsters. There was no reason to assume that these were aliens.
Also, I just want to say, Namek comes from Namekuji, which means slug.
You'd be forgiven for thinking otherwise, as it's a pretty seamless retcon, but despite the foreshadowing, Piccolo being an alien wasn't the intention when DAIMAO hit the scene. Direct quote from Toriyama. Of course, I didn't think that at all. The Saiyans were like that as well. When I thought up Goku's tail in the Ozaru, I didn't think Goku was an alien or anything. Piccolo either, because I thought that up when God came out. As for when Goku's heritage was decided, that still remains unknown. However, given its close proximity to Piccolo's, maybe his one-off line to DAIMAO wasn't just a coincidence.
I like how short Vegeta is compared to Nappa. Fucking manlet.
So this is where we talk about the inevitable Mazaku alien kind of thing, where whether or not second second misconception alert, if Piccolo is a demon or an alien. For some reason, people assume that they are mutually exclusive traits. They think he was a demon, and then he was retconned into an alien. Just, you're wrong. And I think a big reason for this is because of how the English version very notoriously censored the fact that Piccolo was a demon at all. The word demon is never actually used to refer to Piccolo in the English version ever. Not until recently, I believe. So Piccolo is a demon because he's a demon clansman. Biologically, he's an alien.
Here would be the part where I mention how extended media has since reaffirmed that being a demon is a biological trait, but if anything, that only supports my point. Piccolo being alien to Earth has absolutely no bearing on his demonic origin. Piccolo can be both an alien and a demon simultaneously. The rest of the gang arrive, and Nappa summons the Saibai men. Saibai is the Japanese word for cultivation, hence why the manga refers to them as cultivars. Funimation uses the original term, but made an oopsie in neglecting the last letter. At least they got the Sai pronunciation correct from the start, am I right? I promise I'm done now.
Nappa says that each Saibai man has the same battle power as Raditz, which is 1200. Tenshinhan is just able to own this guy. So right now, battle powers are just ballooning. Like, they just go crazy high from now on. And it's just kind of insane how Goku trained with Kami-sama for 3 years, and he was not able to eclipse Tenshinhan, who trained for 1 year and managed to get several times as strong. Battle powers are kind of a mess. Let's not talk about them anymore.
From here, the fight continues, and Yamcha is the first casualty.
By the way, this scene has been memed to hell and back, and I will not stand for it. Yamcha is a gamer. I love him so much. It's like Walt yelling in the crawl space, where everybody just looks at this, and it's like, that's hilarious. And I don't agree. You're wrong. We stand Yamcha in this house. That's what I say.
With the Saibai men defeated, Nappa starts his assault, and the dragon team continues to fall.
So now Chaozu's like, this is screwed up. I don't want Tenshinhan to die, so I'm gonna jump in there, and I'm gonna sacrifice myself and blow myself up so that I can take out Nappa. So Chaozu dies, and if you remember, Shenlong cannot revive people that have already died. Chaozu was killed by Piccolo, which means that he is now just dead. So Chaozu dies in vain. That's the point I'm trying to make, because Nappa, of course, that wasn't actually gonna defeat him, so here he is. So Tenshinhan is still so mad at the fact that his little buddy is dead that he decides, you know what, if Chaozu's dead, I may as well die too. So he shoots one final Kikoho at Nappa, and this is enough to kill him, but not do much to Nappa. Kuririn is really upset by this, so he yells out for Goku, and then it tips Vegeta off to, hey, you keep talking about this Goku. Would he happen to be this Kakarot that we're talking about? So they decide, hey, let's just take a 3-hour break. We've already had so much bloodshed, let's just take a little break, wait for Goku to show up, because he's gonna take a little while to show up.
There's a cool part where when Vegeta says, like, hey, we're gonna wait, Nappa's like, this is bullshit. I want to just kill these guys now. And then Vegeta just yells at him. He's like, yo, stop. And Nappa just freezes in place. He often does, like, the measuring stick thing as well, but using Nappa, this guy that just murdered a bunch of the main cast, using him as the measuring stick is, like, cool and scary.
Goku makes it back to Earth, but the gang is still in imminent danger.
So Kuririn pulls out a new technique called the Kianzan, or the key circle cutter. Gohan gets really upset, and his anger spikes, so he rushes after Nappa, and he starts fighting him. And then Nappa's like, oh, this is bullshit. I'm gonna kill you now. So he shoots a big blast, but right before it hits Gohan, Piccolo jumps in the way. He tells Gohan, you were the only person in my life that actually treated me well. You treated me like a friend. Thank you, Gohan, for that. I'm going to die now. Peace out. So he goes and he just fades away, and God and the Dragon Balls by extension are gone.
Piccolo and God is dead, and you said the dragon's gone too, so does that mean that they can't use the fucking Dragon Balls to, like, resurrect Tenshinhan?
Yeah, because the Dragon Balls are gone, the dragon is gone, so now half the cast is dead and they can't come back.
The series is called Dragon Ball, though. We haven't even gone, like, halfway through this yet. We still have a whole, like, other half to go.
The real Dragon Balls are the friends you make along the way.
So anyway, Nappa decides he's going to go after Gohan, and he's about to stomp on him, but before he does, Quinton rushes in and picks Gohan up, and it's because Goku is finally here. He finally got back in time, just enough for not all of his friends to be murdered. So he walks right past Nappa, he just ghosts him, and he gives a Senzu bean to Kuririn and Gohan. Kuririn and Gohan say, hey, we can help you fight him, but Goku says, no, I'm gonna do this alone. So he starts powering up, and Vegeta, with his scouter, starts measuring his battle power, and he says that his battle power is over 8,000. He says 8,000, and Goku doesn't even need to use the Kaioken. You may be wondering, though, if you know anything about Dragon Ball, hey, wait a second, it's not 8,000, it's 9,000, isn't it? It's over 9,000, that's the meme. Well, in the English-speaking world, there was the original dub made by Funimation, but it was outsourced to a group called Ocean Productions. And during that, they accidentally misquoted this line into being it's over 9,000. I don't know how. And if you notice, the original line, Haseni Joda, ends on an open mouth. So Brian Drummond, the voice actor for Vegeta at the time, was forced to artificially extend the length of the sound.
It's over 9,000! What, 9,000?
Brian, it's just a hair longer. I know we don't want to dwell on this, But if we could just make it a little bit longer, we can move on to the next bit. It's not important. No one will even remember this stupid line.
It's really funny. It became a huge meme. In fact, funnily enough, Ryo Horikawa, the Japanese voice actor for Vegeta, once went to a convention wearing a shirt that said it's over 9,000. He does speak English, by the way, so it's not like he just didn't get it. I guess he just understands the meme. As for how the scene was handled in later editions, they do go with over 8,000, the original line, but I know the way that Chris Sabat does it is he just grunts after he says it. I do know that in the Kai Nicktoons version, they have them say it's over 9,000, but in the official DVD release that you can buy, it says 8,000, so haha, funny meme.
Can I just say, by the way, when Tenshinhan dies, in the Ocean dub, what he says is like the best thing ever.
All right, looks like I'm back in the saddle. What luck! This three-eyed cowboy is going for one last ride!
Which is like, that's incredible. There's a lot of incredible lines, yeah.
Goku pulls out the Kaioken to stop Nappa, and Vegeta heartlessly discards his now immobile minion.
He's ableist.
So, we finally reached it, the iconic fight, probably the most iconic fight in the entire series, Goku and Vegeta. So they start just talking to each other and explaining what it's all about. Vegeta says that I am an elite warrior. I am the biggest gamer of all time. I lived such an incredible life, and you are just such a low life. In the Viz manga, he literally calls Goku a bottom tier boy, which is the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life. They square up, and Goku basically just says, hey, because you guys rejected me, you're underestimating my abilities, I was able to live on Earth and grow as a person myself. I'm glad that I'm on Earth, and I'm glad that I was able to live these experiences. But Vegeta says, no, you're just a low tier piece of trash. You are not going to be able to surpass a Saiyan elite. So they start their fight, and Goku has to start using the Kaioken. And Vegeta does not like the fact that Goku is able to match up to him. So he decides he's going to fly into the air and use his big ultimate attack, I have no idea how to pronounce this, Gyari-Goho, because there's so many different interpretations on what this means. It's a pun on garlic, because Saiyan's vegetables, the Gyari-Goho, and Goku has to counter it in order to live, because the planet will blow up if he dodges it, so he needs to just do something. So they launch their beams at the exact same time, and they clash, and Goku is struggling under the pressure. He can't do anything, so he has to use a Kaioken times 4. He goes past 3. He uses a Kaioken times 4 to blast the whole thing away and launch Vegeta into the atmosphere.
Upon recovering from the blast, Vegeta explains the nature of the Ozaru, with the specific term for the waves that reflect off of the moon being called Burutsu. Little has been said on the subject, so it's far from definitive, but I believe I know the pun here. For a native English speaker, the Japanese syllabary looks a lot more intimidating than it actually is, and that's because only a subset of these symbols are actually unique. Take for instance, sa and za. They're literally identical, minus the little quotation mark. That's called a dakuten, and it's there to tell readers when to use their vocal cords, because, just like the symbols, s and z are the exact same sound. The only difference is your vocal cords. This applies to other sounds as well, like k and g, t and do, etc. It's honestly a pretty genius system that really streamlines the learning process. Going back to burutsu, bu is simply the symbol fu with a dakuten. Furutsu, fruits, hence why the sub called them brutes. However, given the lack of a Japanese L, and with the whole Raditz thing, it's understandable how Funimation, divorced from context, translated this as bluts. For the record, the filler scene of aliens that populated planet Vegeta alongside the Saiyans, the Tsufurujin, share the same name pun, hence why they're called Sufurians. I would apologize for getting so in the weeds about a concept that is fairly irrelevant in the grand scheme of the franchise, but I thought it was neat and otherwise wouldn't have an opportunity to talk about it, so there you go.
So he uses the Brutes Wave Ball and he throws into the air and he becomes an Ozaru. And this is what finally reveals to Goku that, alongside being a Saiyan, he also can turn into an Ozaru and that he was the one who killed his grandpa.
This is fucking awesome because this was a seed that was planted all the way back in the very first arc where fucking characters are like wishing for panties and like motorboating each other. And this was a seed that was planted all the way back then and it's sprouting now, which is like fucking awesome. And that's one of the things that makes Dragon Ball so cool is that characters can develop like this.
Goku resorts to the Genki Dama and Gohan and Kuririn return to the fight.
So it looks like Vegeta's gonna kill Goku, but then, from the sidelines, Yajirobe jumps in, cuts Vegeta's tail off, and forces him out of his Ozaru form.
Based.
Oh my god.
So Goku starts gathering energy, and Gohan fights Vegeta. All of his bones are broken, he can't do anything, so he gives the Genki Dama to Kuririn. And so Kaio speaks into his mind, explains it, manifests it into a ball, and he throws it. But Yajirobe gets really impatient and says, oh, just hit the guy already, and then Vegeta's able to dodge it right as it's about to hit him. It didn't work, it's passing right through Vegeta, and it's about to hit Gohan. But Goku tells him, hey, I made that Genki Dama in order to defeat Vegeta. I targeted his evil. You are not evil. You can reflect the Genki Dama. You just need to hold out your arms, and you need to push it back. So he does. He pushes back the Genkidama, and it sends Vegeta flying up into the air. Vegeta's unconscious body flies back down, lands on the ground. Seems like it's all over, but then he wakes back up. He's battle damaged, he's on the brink of death, but he still manages to get back up. So he goes to Gohan, and he realizes, oh shit, Gohan's tail grew back. And the moon is still up in the air. If he looks at it, then it's all over. I gotta take out Gohan now. Kuririn and Goku understand the situation, and they say, Gohan, look at the moon. Turn into an Ozaru. So he does. He becomes a huge Ozaru. And it's actually said here that the reason why Ozaru are vicious is because they've regained their Saiyan savagery. However, Gohan is half human. He got that Chi-Chi in him, right? Because of that, he's able to have empathy that Saiyans normally don't do. So Kuririn says, target all of your rage on Vegeta. So Gohan starts fighting Vegeta. Vegeta throws basically a Kienzan at Gohan to cut off his tail, but as he's doing it, Gohan falls down and he crushes Vegeta under his weight. And that is finally enough to put Vegeta out. But he's still alive. So he picks up his little remote and he presses a button. He's going to summon his pod. Kuririn does not want him to get away, so he takes out Yajirobe's sword and he's gonna stab Vegeta as Vegeta's crawling way back to his pod. But then Goku says, don't. Please don't do that, because I want to fight him again. Vegeta might be irredeemable, but he thinks Vegeta is wasting his power. He's using his elite gift of being so strong for evil purposes. So he's gonna keep training. Kuririn says, you know what, I might not agree, but after all you've done, you've saved the Earth so many times, I'll let you have this.
It's kind of Goku coming to terms with his Saiyan heritage. He's like, this might just be the Saiyan blood in me, but I admire, like, his power, and I want to fight him again, you know? Like, I'm excited to fight strong people.
So Vegeta is able to fly away, and now the rest of the gang is left to just wonder what's gonna happen and how they can bring back their dead friends. So that is the Saiyan arc.
It's the best arc.
I love this arc. It might be my favorite. I don't know. There's some other arcs that I think are up there with it, but it's incredible.
And it's good when you know Dragon Ball. Even just taking it on its own, it's awesome. But, like, you should absolutely watch Dragon Ball first before Z. It just feels like such a natural kind of continuation of all the shit that quote-unquote original Dragon Ball was building up.
It feels really smooth and natural how it does, like, continue everything from Dragon Ball while still, like, throwing 100 different curveballs. The fact that things scale up to, like, where they do is kind of insane. This also does lead to a problem in the later arcs, because this is kind of the last time a lot of those OG Dragon Ball characters get to really do much of anything.
It's sort of similar to the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai in that it sort of ends, not necessarily on a cliffhanger, but on a very dour note. But yeah, no, I also like that the eponymous Scouter sound effect, this is the arc those get introduced.
Yeah, I more or less followed this arc when it was on Toonami back then. I think this was my first, like, exposure, really, to Dragon Ball.
Alright, so
Now we turn to Dragon Ball 101.
Tired of your Dragon Ball home releases coming with debilitating issues? Do you want to watch your favorite franchise in pristine quality with original colors, aspect ratio, and broadcast audio? Well, do I have news for you. Introducing Seed of Might, a project made by fans for fans that will surely surpass your expectations. Yep, they Sonic Mania'd this one. Supporting the official release can only go so far when in the hands of the incompetent. With a multitude of formats available, find the version that's right for you. Have it be sub with subtitles, dub with dub titles, sub with dub titles, and dub with subtitles. Movie promos? Sure. Japan exclusive Dragon books? Whatever the hell this is, why not? You can think it, Seed of Might has you covered. From the original series to the 17 movies, there's never been a more comprehensive collection. If you're ready to elevate your watching experience, click the link in the description and download your Seed of Might today. Following the Battle of the Saiyans, the Dragon Team arrived to collect the wounded warriors.
back in the plane, Kuririn has an idea. He heard them talking about other Dragon Balls when he mentioned Planet Namek. He figures maybe if they could use Nappa's spaceship, they could use that to get to the planet Namek, and they could use those Dragon Balls in order to revive their friends. And Kaio, because he's the Lord of Worlds, knows about all the different planets, and he manages to find where it is in the universe. They have a new plan, they're going to go to Namek, and they're going to get new Dragon Balls. So the gang is off in the hospital, and Bulma brings back the remote and says, hey look, I spent the last couple days fixing this thing up, and she uses it on Nappa's spaceship, and she accidentally makes it self-destruct. But then Popo shows up and he says, hey, I have something that I want to show you guys. There's this weird house. There's something weird about this. This is where Kami-sama used to live as a kid. Kami-sama basically just explains, when I was a kid, I was sent away, and I lived there for about 20 to 30 years. It was really hard for him to find food. You know, it was really difficult for that. He waited and waited and waited for his parents to come back, but they never did. So he just left, and then he went on to become the god. And the way that you open it is by saying the word Piccolo. So you just say Piccolo, and then it opens. As it turns out, Piccolo is the Namekian word for another world, and Popo actually knows some Namekian from having lived with Kami-sama for so long. They said conventional travel will take like thousands of years, but this ship can get there in a matter of only 1 month. And Bulma says that she wants to bring Popo with her, but he says he can't leave Earth alone, especially with God out. He needs to be at the palace, so she decides to recruit Gohan and Kuririn.
The real reason Bulma wants to bring Popo is because, you know, that's why she wants to bring Popo.
Oh my god.
Is that something I have to cut out?
Probably.
Yo, the fact that that was your first thought.
With the destination set, Gohan, Kuririn, and Bulma take off for planet Namek.
And then we get the last appearance of Bulma's panties in the entire series. R.I.P. This is the last time we ever get to see him. We also see that Gohan got a haircut, and he also has a new Piccolo-inspired outfit, which is pretty cool. So, cut perspective to Vegeta. Vegeta's pod lands on a place called Frieza Planet number 79, and he gets put into what is very clearly a reference to Empire Strikes Back in this little healing pod, and he gets healed back up to full. He's considered kind of a big person in this society that's on this planet, and we learn a little bit about how this power structure works. Frieza is considered the lord of this big planet-conquering organization, and everybody, including the Saiyans, report back to him. So Vegeta gets healed back up to full, and just starts walking down the hall, and he meets this guy named Kiwi, which is a pun on Kiwi. And it turns out the reason why Frieza isn't on this planet right now is because he learned about the Dragon Balls on planet Namek, and so he's gonna go there, and he wants to use those in order to get immortal. And Vegeta says, no can do, that's not gonna happen. I want to get there first, because I want to use them to get myself immortal so that I can beat Frieza. Originally, it was just that he could fight forever. Now it's that he can kill Frieza.
Retcon.
So he very notably does not take his scouter, because he, in a kind of small sense, learned how to sense ki, but he's still really new at it. So he leaves the scouter behind, and he flies off to planet Namek in his own pod.
What happened to Vegeta's tail?
He says that it will grow back, and it never does.
Awesome.
Vegeta lands on Namek and inexplicably has his scouter again, and it's stated here that his battle power has jumped all the way up to 24,000. At the same time, the Earthlings get their ship destroyed, and Frieza is collecting the 4th Dragon Ball. Fitting the Saiyan vegetable theme, Frieza's other subordinates are named after food. In the case of Zarbon and Dodoria, fruits, the Zaban and Durian respectively. And as you'd expect, as the leader of the organization, Frieza's name, Frieza, is a pun on Frieza, freezer. Like the glottal stop, that M-dash looking thing attaches to a separate kana, in this case the preceding vowel sound, and tells us to extend it. It's why the name isn't pronounced Frizza. It's also used to approximate the uniquely English rhotic R, freezer. Cut the extension and you get Frieza. Nobody tell Toriyama that fridge makes more sense.
Also, it's worth noting, if Toriyama's original editor was Piccolo, then Kondo, his new current editor, is Frieza. You can tell he really likes his editors by the fact that he makes them villains.
Dodoria, he looks like Kirby's spike ball cap.
He does, he uses the needle ability. So, we cut back to Earth, and then we see Goku's perspective. He gets a Senzu bean from Karin. He goes on Kinto-un, and this is unfortunately the last time in the series that Goku actually uses the Kinto-un. Because if you note, he does know how to fly at this point. In the Saiyan arc, he used flight more so just to levitate, but now every character can just fly for the sake of flying. So there isn't really any use for Kinto-un anymore. And also, he doesn't use Nuaibo anymore, but I just wanted to mention that at the same time. So he heads off to Capsule Corp, and this time we also get to see the last time that Oolong and Puar do anything of consequence. It's not the last time they show up, but it is the last time that they have speaking roles. Oolong says one thing in the last arc once, and that's it. Puar never speaks again, so poor him.
Which is crazy to think about when you consider that Oolong was one of our main characters in the first arc, and he was directly based on a Journey to the West character.
Jubaji, I think his name was, yeah. The shape-shifting pig.
I was the first. I have seen everything.
A lot of people who started with Z might not think this is very notable, but when considering previous material, the general plot structure, aesthetic, and, in a sense, genre of the franchise really does go through a massive shift in this specific storyline. One that not only dominates the rest of the series, but also Dragon Ball in the modern day. I've always wondered why the Earth the gang returned to is so different from the one that they left. My guess is that Toriyama subconsciously took efforts to downplay the fantastical elements of Dragon Ball's Earth as a means of juxtaposing how expansive and varied outer space is. Even the Saiyan arc felt more like a retro 1950s alien invasion flick than a gritty, realistic action epic with only a few exceptional super people. Regardless, I always found it interesting how this small concentrated moment of the series acts as a subtle goodbye to these classic characters and concepts. Goku takes the gravity machine to Namek, the deceased dragon team reach Kaio's planet, and Gohan and Kuririn oversee a Namekian village.
So this is what they all look like. They all just basically look like Piccolo.
Racist.
I'm sorry, I will try to correct that in the future. So anyway, all Namekians look the same. Anyway.
Mori destroys the Scouters, Dodoria shows his power, and the Elder is forced to acquiesce.
So Mori says, I'll give you this Dragon Ball, but you gotta promise not to hurt anybody else, especially the children. And Frieza says, sure, why not? So he gets the Dragon Ball, and then just to be a shitter, he launches a beam right past Mori's head and kills one of the children. And then Dodoria kills Mori. Now Gohan is livid at the fact that this random child was killed, that he jumps off the mountain, then very recklessly just kicks Dodoria right in the face. And this now gave up their advantage of stealth to the bad guys. So Frieza says, Dodoria, go after them, and Kuririn says, shit, we need to go. So he picks up the remaining kid, and they start flying off. But Dodoria is just too fast. So in order to get a diversion, Kuririn uses the Taioken. Also, I don't know why he does it like this, but he does like the fingers to the temple thing, where it's normally like the fingers splayed out thing.
He's just look at my dots.
Look at my incense burns, yeah.
The Earthlings successfully escape with Dende, and Vegeta confronts Dodoria.
So Dodoria tries to fight him, but Vegeta's just overpowering him. And so Dodoria decides to reveal the truth. So, as it turns out, the fact that the Saiyan planet Vegeta was destroyed by a meteor was actually wrong. It was destroyed by Frieza. Frieza was afraid that the Saiyans would get too strong if they banded together and fought against him, so he decided to just take them out while he could. But he did decide to keep Vegeta around because one Saiyan isn't that bad, but a group of them could potentially be a problem. So he decides to kill Dodoria, and his takeaway is basically that Frieza is afraid of Saiyans. So a thing that happens with Saiyans is that whenever they get close to death and then they recover, they get a massive boost in power. For whatever reason, I have no idea why, but people refer to this in the dub scene as the Zenkai boost, and I have no idea what a Zenkai boost even is.
What the fuck is this?
So you get your Zenkai booster whenever you get close to death. It's never actually called this ever in the original series. It's never actually given a name. That's why I just call it the near-death power-up. I don't know why it's called Zenkai. I think it's because the ending song to Dragon Ball Z is called Zenkai Power. I think it actually ties into an episode title as well. Either way, it's just a complete non sequitur term. Doesn't make any sense. I'm not going to use it.
I'll actually say this. I have a little insight here to give. Remember the orange boxes, the orange box DVDs? For those releases, like, they were dubbed, but they would play the Japanese EDs. And my buddy in elementary school, he owned all of those, and especially guys around our age probably owned those DVDs as kids, and, you know, that's probably how they were exposed to it. That's my guess.
To follow up on the point about how they just use random Japanese terminology, Western fans abbreviate Saiyan, or Saiyan as they say, as SJ, which makes no sense, because SJ is an abbreviation of Saiyajin. My guess is that it's probably something that predated the dub, that, like, people on forum boards or whatever were using.
Back at the cave, the Earthlings and Dende come up with a plan.
It's also mentioned here that Namekians don't eat food, they only drink water. So God was lying out of his ass when he said that it was hard to find food as a kid. Maybe he just couldn't find water. Retroactive plot hole. Vegeta is currently, with his new earth-sensing powers, is going and killing a bunch of Namekian villages. So he finds a new village and he gets one of the balls. And he figures, if I have one of the balls, no matter how many balls they have, they won't be able to use it. I'm gonna hide this away, I'm gonna throw it into a lake, and then I'm just gonna wait for basically them to bring the Dragon Balls to me. Kuririn and Gohan want to help, but Dende says, don't bother. There's a guy called the Great Elder who is super powerful. He's the guy who made the Dragon Balls. It's basically their version of God. And he has the power to awaken people's potential. So he's gonna bring them to the Great Elder and get his Dragon Ball and then get their little power-ups from him.
Kuririn leaves for the Elders, and Zarbon and Vegeta start to fight.
He bulks the hell up. He starts beating the hell out of Vegeta. But then he tells Vegeta something very special. I may be super strong. I'm nothing compared to Frieza, and just like me, Frieza can also transform. And so he beats up Vegeta, and then he leaves him for dead, and he manages to crawl out, but he's critically injured. So Zarbon returns to Frieza, and one of Frieza's henchmen finds that a village has been destroyed. And they figured, oh, that must have been Vegeta's doing. So Frieza decides that it's time for him to call in his special force called the Ginyu Tok Sentai. And they are basically an elite group of soldiers that Frieza has that he deploys to planets that really need help. And it's also here where we first get mention of the fact that Frieza specifically fears a legend that he refers to as the Super Saiyan. It's not really well defined right now, but it's more so just the idea of, if one were to become quote-unquote a Super Saiyan and rise up and fight against me, that could be trouble. And he's thinking that Vegeta might actually be rising the ranks and becoming a Super Saiyan.
Kuririn meets the Elder and Nail, gets his potential unleashed, and leaves with the Dragon Ball. At the same time, Vegeta sabotages Frieza, Gohan steals his ball, and Vegeta and Zarbon trail Kuririn back to the cave.
So Zarbon and Vegeta fight, and because they know the power-up, Vegeta is able to easily outclass Zarbon. Also, Bulma has the hots for Zarbon because she's a slut.
Vegeta kills Zarbon, takes Kuririn's Dragon Ball, and Gohan returns with his. Realizing he's been tricked, Vegeta heads after Gohan to the Great Elders, and is informed of the arrival of the Ginyu Force.
So, reluctantly, Vegeta, Kuririn, and Gohan decide to work together to stop them, especially because Nail reveals that they all can actually get their wish. Because, unlike the Earth Dragon Balls, the Namekian Dragon Balls grant 3 wishes. So they can bring back all their friends, Vegeta can become immortal, they can all win.
Since they're Frieza's elite soldiers, the Ginyus, of course, follow the refrigerator naming scheme, specifically dairy products. There's Bata and Jisoo, butter and cheese, Rikumu, Kuri Kurimu, cream, and Gurudo, Yoguru to, yogurt. To tie it all together, the captain of the group, Ginyu, is a pun on Gyunyu, the Japanese word for milk.
When it comes to the dub spelling all of these names, Birder, Jace, Goldo, it's just like, what? Rikum, Buddha, Jace, Gerdo, and then Ginyu.
Having an R in Buddha does actually make a lot of sense, as all Toriyama did was change the position of the extended vowel, but I trust the sub and manga's judgment on this one. However, I do deviate in regards to the Green Gremlin, because Gerd, while more accurate, really reminds me of, well, Gerd, so Gerdo it is.
So the Earthlings are too slippery, they keep flying around, but he manages to catch them in the air, and he's about to skewer them on a tree before Vegeta teleports behind you, nothing personal kid, chops off Gerdo's head. Pretty insane. In the anime, they censor it to this little beam, but in the manga, he just shows up behind him, cuts his damn head off. And the Ginyu Force is more sad about the fact that it'll mess up their special poses than the fact that Gerdo is dead.
Which is great.
Which is great.
That's such a great
That is very funny.
He really was just there to fill up space.
So, Vegeta starts powering up so that he can fight Rikum, and he powers up all the way up to 30,000, which is actually another retcon, because in the original release of the chapter it was 20,000, but that contradicts with the fact that he was 24,000 before, so it was changed to 30,000.
I'm sure you'll touch on this. Aren't there other instances in the manga where after their initial serialization, where edits are made after the fact to correct changes or mistakes?
Yes, but we'll get into that much later. A lot of these later edition retcons were done actually after the chapters premiered, but before the anime came out, so even by the time of the anime, Vegeta's battle power was corrected to 30,000, which is pretty interesting.
Rikum switches his focus to the Earthlings, and Frieza needs the Namekian password from the Great Elders. Nail distracts him while Dende leaves to help the Earthlings, and Goku finally steps down on Namek.
He rushes to his friend Zayd, he gives them Senzu, he does all the typical stuff, and he puts his hand on Kuririn's head, and he reads his mind. He just catches himself up to everything. And Kuririn even asks, how the hell did you do that? And Goku just says, I don't know, I thought it would work. So that's his explanation.
In my opinion, Gohan getting his neck broken, that's one of the more disturbing beatdowns in the series. There are a few other moments that are kind of disturbing, I guess, but yeah.
Violence against children.
The first time Drew's spoken in like over an hour.
And it's about killing children, yeah, it's pretty cool. So anyway, Goku prepares to fight Rikum, and Vegeta senses something different about Goku. He thinks that Goku might be the one and only Super Saiyan. So we finally get an explanation as to what the Super Saiyan is. The Super Saiyan is a special warrior that only appears once every 1,000 years. It's a legend that is passed down in Saiyan history and through all different Saiyans, and Vegeta just assumed that it was a myth. They are cold-hearted, they are vicious, they desire nothing but battle, they just want to fight. He figured that if the Super Saiyan legend was actually true, then he would be the Super Saiyan, so he's baffled by the fact that it could potentially be Goku. But he still doesn't think that Goku has it in him.
Goku proceeds to shamelessly repeat the Saiyan arc dynamic of showing up late to beat up the bad guy while Vegeta grovels in the background. Seriously, the whole sequence is like 1-to-1. In response, Geese calls Ginyu, and body-swapping shenanigans ensue. Meanwhile, the Earthlings dig up the Dragon Balls and prepare to make their wish.
And then Bulma, actually in the scene, thinks that she missed the boat with Goku, which is an interesting little thing, because she says that she fights with Yamcha all the time, which she is definitely the instigator of, because again, she is a whore.
Nice.
Goku arrives, Vegeta kills Geese, and Ginyu tries to swap once again.
But before he can, Goku throws, and I swear to God, a frog that he just found. He was just nearby, he throws it in the way, and Ginyu is now forever in the body of a frog.
Dude, I fucking wish I could get body swapped with a frog so bad, oh my god!
I like that even in this, latter part of the series, there are still interesting techniques and abilities like Ginyu's body change, and some comedic elements like body changing with a frog.
Does anybody else? Frog's pretty cool.
With the Ginyus defeated, Goku is put into a healing tank. The gang summon Porunga, revive Piccolo, and bring him to Namek. Vegeta arrives late, and the Great Elder dies.
And the Dragon Balls turn to stone. So now Vegeta doesn't get his wish, but more importantly, Frieza doesn't get his wish either, and he's here, and he's gonna throw some hands. So Piccolo, on his way to finding the Earthlings, runs into Nail, who is still alive. He's forced to kind of leave him for dead, but Nail does specifically say, hey, if you and God didn't split, you still would have been incredibly powerful. Thankfully, there's a little Namekian technique that they call assimilation, where Namekians can basically combine each other. They can become one person again. So Piccolo undergoes this ritual with Nail, and then he gets a huge power spike, and now he's ready to fight Frieza. So Vegeta and Frieza start to fight, and he kind of surprises Frieza with just how powerful he is. So he decides to transform, and we get to see Frieza's second form. And, huge bombshell, his battle power is 1 million. We're gonna take a little bit of an aside. We're gonna mention the anime real quick. So during the entire run of Dragon Ball, it was being adapted adapted by Toei Animation into an anime, and at the time they wanted to make their own unique story that tied into the Dragon Ball lore. And with it, they wanted to be able to tell the story of Goku's father and just kind of explain the backstory in their own unique little TV special. And it's there where we get introduced to this character, whose name is Bardock, or Ba-Daku. Technically, it could be Burdock, whatever. I call him Bardock. The subtitles and the manga call him Burdock. The story of the special is basically Bardock gets struck on the head by one of the alien races that he is eradicating, and he gets granted the ability to see the future. And with that, he is forced to undergo these visions of seeing planet Vegeta get destroyed. So he decides, I'm gonna band together with the rest of the Saiyans and try to fight Frieza. So he tries to, but none of the other Saiyans believe him. They just think he's going crazy, and Frieza blows him up with the planet, and Bardock just dies forgotten and alone. But he does find solace in the fact that he has a vision of Goku and Frieza fighting each other in the future. And this is also the point where I complain, because if you notice, this character's name is a pun on the root vegetable burdock. Without getting too much into it, this character gets an offhanded mention in the, at the time, it was ongoing Dragon Ball Super manga, where his name is mentioned once, and Viz calls him Burdock because that's what they want to do. It created a little bit of backlash where people started lashing out at the fact that, oh, I don't recognize this term or whatever, and then Viz caved and retroactively changed the name to Bardock in all subsequent releases of the manga. And I think that's so stupid. I don't even say Burdock, but I almost want to, just because I think that this whole situation is so terrible. And it's because they allowed the fact that fans were being annoying actually affect the actual product that is being put in place.
It's more of this, like, Sonic movie shit, where it's just like, I don't like the way that looks, fix it, please.
Yeah, I hate that.
Sets a really bad precedent when you start caving to that sort of thing.
What makes it worse is that in modern material, all of the subtitles use dub terminology, which I really don't like, because the reason why they do that is so that they can pander to dub fans that aren't going to watch it, so that I can be left with the terminology that I'm not used to and that there's no precedent for using. Which again, it's just more revisionist history crap. I don't like it. They need to just stop doing it.
Bardock Obama.
This is definitely something that comes mostly from my perspective as someone who uses these different terms, but I think we can all agree that pointless tinkering of an already established work, like for instance the Star Wars special editions, is an evil act of historical erasure. Get all of your disgusting CGI rocks, both the Jedi and R2-D2 kind, out of this goddamn film franchise. Call it me being dramatic, but I think Dragon Ball is being special editioned, and I will not stand for it. Where was I? Right, Kuririn, Gohan, and Vegeta take on second form Frieza.
Also, I guess it was that one panel where he used the Taiyoken differently because now it's normal.
Yeah, but I just noticed that now. I'm like, wait, I thought that's just how Krillin does it, but no, he does it with his hands.
That's weird. Either way, the reason why that Kuririn was able to come back is because Dende has healing powers, and he's healing all of them as they are getting taken down.
Piccolo finally arrives, and gets to show off his strength for one entire chapter, before Frieza becomes a walking alien reference and overpowers him. Did I mention that Toriyama really likes Western sci-fis? Vegeta forces a near-death power-up, of which Dende isn't keen on helping with, and Frieza decides to transform.
Now, the interesting thing about his final form is that we actually see his transformations in reverse. Frieza is so astronomically powerful that he actually created his other transformations to suppress his power. So the form that we see right now, which is this, is his actual true form. This is what Frieza actually looks like. And the first thing he does is blast a beam right past Vegeta and kill Dende. So now Dende is dead and they can't heal anymore. Vegeta still believes in himself that he might have potentially become the Super Saiyan, so he tries to fight Frieza, but it doesn't go so well, and he just kind of loses all of his will to fight. He just starts getting beaten up, and it's just terrible.
Vegeta's like crying.
He is crying. There's also a narration box that just explains how he's feeling.
Fuck my worthless chud life. That's what he
Yeah.
says.
I gotta say, dude, my respect for Vegeta as a Saiyan Prince just fucking plummeted.
Either way, Goku senses the fact that Vegeta is in danger, so he manages to get healed in the nick of time, and he flies to the battlefield, and now he's ready to square up against Frieza. And Frieza notices him, and he remarks that he looks like Bardock. So this is a little interesting thing of the anime creating a little story, Toriyama liking it, and then adapting it into the actual manga. Which means that, at least at the time, the Bardock special was seemingly the only piece of animation that was just actually canon to the manga continuity. So either way, Frieza starts shooting a bunch of beams at Goku, and he starts reflecting all of them, and then this makes Vegeta think that Goku might actually be the Super Saiyan. And then, before he can even finish speaking, Frieza shoots Vegeta through the heart. But before Vegeta dies, he tells Goku to basically avenge him. He says that Frieza needs to die by a Saiyan's hand. Frieza destroyed the planet, killed Goku's parents. He needs to become the Super Saiyan and carry on the legacy of the Saiyans. And then with that, Vegeta dies.
All I know is Vegeta never had the makings of a varsity athlete.
The final fight begins, and Frieza has even more tricks up his sleeves.
But eventually, he reveals, even after transforming for like the 27th goddamn time, he still is not using half of his power. And this is insane. Goku starts fighting all the way out, and he just can't match up. Nothing is gonna work. But Kaio is watching the fight, and all the gang is saying, oh, well, it's okay because he still hasn't used the Kaioken, right? But then Kaio reveals that not only has Goku been using the Kaioken this entire time, but he's been using at times 10, and he still has absolutely no chance at fighting Frieza. Because look, if you notice, the aura in the panel is white. This is how it's normally colored. The expectation is that you read this not knowing that Goku is using the Kaioken, then you flip the page, hear the explanation, and then you retroactively realize that that's what you've been looking at this entire time. This is something that only can be done in manga, in black and white, because in the anime they had to like do this weird thing where like he kind of flares up, but the aura only turns red after the explanation that Kaio gives.
And there's like the color version of the manga where it's just red, so it just spoils the surprise.
With no other options, Goku resorts to the Genki Dama.
So Piccolo needs to stall for time, so he takes all of the energy from Gohan and Kuririn, which is the thing that they can do, I guess.
That's like a running theme. There's like, they can do that, I guess. That's like kind of a thing with the later Dragon Ball.
So either way, this gives Goku just enough time to be able to fully complete the Genki Dama, and he throws it from space, and it goes down to Frieza, and it just blows him all the way up. And the gang celebrate because Frieza is completely gone. That is it. They did it. Awesome. They're gonna leave Namek. But then, Kuririn notices something in the distance. Miraculously, Frieza is still alive. And this is probably the most unfortunate page moment in the entire series, because this shot of Frieza standing there is not done on a page turn. So while you're reading this entire thing about how Frieza is dead, you look at the other page and Frieza's just standing there.
So we just got done talking about a great use of the medium of manga. This is it not being used very well.
The first thing that Frieza decides to do is, I'm just gonna play around. I'm gonna shoot Piccolo. So he shoots Piccolo through the chest, and if that's not enough, he decides to use his little psychic powers, which he has, and he picks up Kuririn and he raises him to the sky, and then he blows him up. So Kuririn is dead again, and if you remember, he cannot come back anymore because he was killed twice, and this sets Goku off. He overflows with anger, he just gets enveloped in light, and he transforms into a Super Saiyan.
No.
We finally reached the Super Saiyan. He's gotten so mad, and he's just exploded, and his hair is inverted, and color is pretty crazy, and he starts beating the hell out of Frieza, and he tells Gohan, Piccolo is still alive, bring him to the ship, bring Bulma back to Earth, I'll figure all this kind of stuff out. And he explains exactly how this happened. Apparently this is a thing that he just knows, but when a Saiyan has a pure heart, and it is awakened by rage, they become a Super Saiyan, and he is the Super Saiyan of legend, Son Goku. So let's talk about the legend of the Super Saiyan for a second, because this is actually really important.
That's the science! Yes! Queen, slay! Oh, that's awesome.
From the way that it's initially described, it's never implied to actually be a transformation. It's really just a state of being, or like a thing that is granted to you at birth. But now it is seemingly an actual transformation. And I should note, it doesn't really make any sense from a biological standpoint. Even Frieza, if you look at that panel, he's questioning, why is this a transformation? They're only supposed to turn into great apes. And it's like, yeah, I agree. The reason for this, though, is because Toriyama was lazy, and he figured that in a black and white manga, which, by the way, this colored art, chapter title page, incredible. In a black and white manga, it would be represented as white. So he just doesn't need to ink Goku's hair anymore. That's literally the reason why it's a transformation, is because he didn't need to color in Goku's hair anymore.
At his limits, Frieza decides to destroy the planet.
And the reason why I showed a screen cap from the anime is specifically because this is probably the most infamous moment of pacing in the entire series, where at this point they were dangerously close to catching up to the manga. And because it's an adaptation, they always need the manga to be ahead of them. They were so close to catching up that they had to artificially stretch out this fight from what was 5 minutes into 10 20-minute episodes. 10 consecutive episodes Goku fights Frieza during this supposed 5 minutes it's supposed to be. 30 seconds an episode.
Elsewhere, Kaio argues for reviving Frieza's victims, hoping that it might indirectly bring back the Great Elder.
That's retarded, but I love the meme. You put on the right to represent it.
Yeah, that's courtesy of one of the students here today.
Thank you.
This is when we introduce another kind of misconception. Do resurrections have a time limit? For whatever reason, a lot of people think that wishes on the Dragon Balls only can revive people that have been dead for a year, and that is just not true in the slightest. This whole context of the scene is saying that if they were to want to revive everybody that Vegeta killed, they would have had so many people included in that wish that they would only be restricted to the people that have died within the last year. This is not saying that you can't be dead for more than a year and still be revived. In fact, if you remember in the Piccolo arc, they wanted to delay Kuriri's revival so that they could destroy Piccolo.
The wish is made, the Great Elder is revived, and with him, Porunga, the Last Wish, Vegeta, and Dende. Dende wishes everyone off of the planet, and Goku is left alone with Frieza. Goku quits, and he starts to fly off.
But Frieza doesn't want any of that because he's a sore loser, so he starts using his attack where he throws these discs. So they start convening to his position, and he tells Frieza to duck, but he doesn't in time, and it slices Frieza in half. So he just cuts his own body in half with his own attack. Goku realizes that Frieza's gonna die soon, I may as well just get out of here. So he starts to leave, but then Frieza starts begging for his life. And Goku is just like, oh, not this. Do you know how many people that you've screwed over? This is so terrible that you would even bother to do this. So he shoots a blast at him, but he does it out of mercy. In the same way that Gohan and Kuririn transferred their energy to Piccolo, he transfers some of his energy onto Frieza just so that he could get off the planet and survive, so that he can leave and just continue murdering millions of races.
And people make fun of The Last Jedi for how it retcons new Force abilities.
Yeah, no, this is like just straight up retarded.
If that wasn't contrived enough, it's revealed that the Namekian Dragon Balls have a shorter regeneration time, and can bring back those who have already died.
How convenient!
Back on Namek, Frieza from being healed by Goku is totally fine. Goku just says, whatever, you're useless. He flies away, and Frieza's so mad he launches his own attack, but then Goku counters it with his own and blows Frieza up, actually killing him for real this time. That is it. So he manages to get back to his ship, but unfortunately it's too damaged to fly, so Goku can't do anything, and he's forced to just sit there as the planet explodes, and that's it. Goku is gone with the planet as well.
Vegeta explains how to revive Goku and Kuririn, and everyone is so quick to brush aside the fact that he has it backwards, that souls return to their bodies, not the other way around, that they invite him to a permanent slumber party at Capsule Corp. To be fair, it ends up working, so who am I to complain? The Namekians get a new planet, the Dragon Team is revived, and they all live happily ever after.
So everyone's back together again, and there's a whole year of peace, but then there's a little bit of trouble. They sense something coming. They sense a familiar key that's coming to Earth. Frieza, who's still alive and now a robot, and he's bringing his dad to Earth. And it's kind of a funny place to end it, but that is the end of the Frieza arc. So what did we all think of that?
You know, I'm sensing a theme. When someone dies, that's kind of more of just like a road bump.
I like when Frieza gets beat up, he's like, I'm gonna get my dad, he's gonna beat you up.
Through the last couple of slides you were showing, when Frieza was just like cut in half and he gets blown up or whatever, you were like going over that, and I was like, nah, he's still alive fucking somehow, I bet.
This is another pivotal arc. I mean, Goku embraces his Saiyan heritage more, and I like that this arc, like after this, Toriyama really does away with battle powers and so-called Zenkai boosts.
The first part of this arc is like fucking awesome, and then around like the halfway point, I want to say like when the Genyus gets introduced, it just kind of falls apart. Toriyama's just plagiarizing himself.
I do agree. I think the best way to describe this arc is that it is very front-loaded.
It's just this bullshit, boring-ass power tennis. But thankfully, I think this is like the worst instance of that. Like, I think it gets better from here.
My least favorite part of the entire story, like in all of the original manga, is probably Goku fighting the Genyus. I think it's the most derivative media that we've ever seen in the series.
Series learned a lot of bad lessons from this too, because this is like the most popular arc with fans, because fans of this series are like the biggest idiots on the planet.
The gang reconvene near the landing site and nervously await the return of Frieza. Also, Audacity got corrupted during this part, so I had to use the OBS audio. It sounds really bad, but I had no choice. It'll be fixed in the next arc.
Tenshinhan asks Yamcha how he can stomach living with the guy who killed him, as in Vegeta, and he never answers that question, which is terrible, because I really want to know what his actual answer to that would be. Either way, Frieza's ship prepares to land, and we finally get to see his new robot body. His dad is named King Coles, and Frieza is here because he wants to get revenge on Goku, and he knows that Goku is going to land within the next 3 hours. But then, there's a mysterious boy who lands in front of everybody, and he makes himself known. Now, we don't know who this guy is, we don't know what he's gonna do, but he says that he is here to kill Frieza. So one of the guys uses the scouter, and he reads that his battle power is only 5. Funnily enough, this is actually the last battle power that we ever get in the series. And coincidentally, it also happens to be 5, which is the same one that Raditz read from the farmer at the beginning of the Saiyan. Frieza says, hey, all the guys, pounce on this guy, take him out, whatever. But then the guy swings his sword so fast, he kills all the guys before they even know what hit. So Frieza's like, whatever, but you're still nothing against me, right? I'm still waiting for that Super Saiyan to arrive. And then this guy says, well, that's a huge miscalculation on your part. And Frieza's like, what do you mean? That's not a miscalculation. I could take care of you easily. And he says, the miscalculation was not how strong I am. It's thinking that Goku is the only Super Saiyan. So he starts charging up, and he becomes a Super Saiyan. Then he shoots a big attack at Frieza. Frieza jumps to avoid it, and then he slashes Frieza in half and kills him. So Frieza is just dead. This is actually Frieza's death. He actually is dead. This is not a meme. He's actually gone. For real this time, outside of weird extraneous material. In the context of the original manga, Frieza's gone.
This is one of the most hype moments in the whole series.
Yes.
Who the fuck is this guy? He's just another Super Saiyan that he just shows up and slices Frieza and is like, hey, I'm here. What's going on, dude?
King Cold is like, I'm gonna try to fight back, and then this kid kills him too.
I would say that's kind of anticlimactic, but it's actually really funny.
Only Silver the Hedgehog had an introduction as epic as this.
The gang wait for Goku to arrive, and the boy talks to him in private.
And then the young man finally reveals who he is. His name is Trunks, and he is not from this era. He is from 20 years in the future, and he's time traveled back so that he can warn them that on May 12th, 2 new adversaries are going to show up, and they are going to kill everyone. So this kid comes from a future where everybody is dead and the world is completely hopeless. Gohan was his teacher, but not anymore, because Gohan has died as well. You remember the Red Ribbon Army? Remember how they had that guy, Hachan, number 8? Well, it turns out the Red Ribbon Army was really bitter about the fact that they lost. So they had their main scientist guy, Dr. Garo, who was not a character in Red Ribbon Army arc, but apparently he actually was this entire time. He made a bunch of more robots, and now numbers 19 and number 20 are going to show up, and they're going to kill everybody. And if you notice, you look at that little panel, he does say number 19 and number 20.
Pointless interjection, the Mega 64 quote, Dr. Gero or Jiro or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's a weird dubism where they call him Jiro. I don't know why they do that, but through extended media, it has become very clear that the character's name is a pun on the onomatopoeia for vomiting. And Gero is how it's pronounced in Japanese. So it's Dr. Gero. Also, if you don't notice, this is a huge reference to Terminator. In the original movie, Kyle Reese is sent back in time, specifically May 12th, which is the date that Trunks says, in order to stop the Terminator, which is basically the artificial humans in this instance. The only difference is that Trunks is not naked.
Unfortunately.
This is also important because this chapter aired at around the time that Terminator 2 was about to come out. Also, his hair looks like John Connor's.
This is an anime exclusive scene. Trunks is just talking, he's walking through. It's literally just like a shot for shot, nearly like a remake of a scene from the Terminator. That's the part where it goes, whoa, 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 whoa. The song, it's so good.
So the reason why he is a Super Saiyan and why he has time travel technology is because he is the son of Vegeta and Bulma. They had a one-night stand, let's just say, and a man who likes committing murder and a woman who does not want to be murdered ended up getting together and having a child. You might be wondering, hey, isn't Bulma supposed to be with Yamcha? And the reason Trunks gives as to why they are no longer together is because Yamcha cheated on Bulma. So this is a really interesting character development. It really naturally extends from how we know these characters. There's a lot of evidence to showcase the idea that Yamcha is in fact the cheater. In fact, the biggest piece of evidence is real life, because Tora Furia, the voice actor for Yamcha, has done some pretty funny things that if you look up that would be pretty cool. There's no element of the original Dragon Ball series that I hate, but this development for Yamcha's character might be one, because it's just like, what the hell are you doing? You're just lying to me.
This just kind of seems, to me at least, like Toriyama just not really knowing what to do with the character, or perhaps even just thinking that, like, oh, I think Vegeta's a cooler character, so I want him to be the father.
Correct.
Yeah.
The thing is, he wanted there to be a new Saiyan. There was no way for there to be a new Saiyan if he wasn't related to Vegeta. There you go. It could have been future Gohan, but apparently no. It had to be a new character.
I love this slide, thank you very much for it.
Trunks gives Goku the antidote, returns to the future, and the gang wonder what to do next.
And Goku wonders, how am I going to tell everybody about all this crazy revelations? And he just doesn't know how. And it turns out Piccolo does, because he has advanced hearing. And this is interesting because this might actually be a reference to a Dragon Ball Z movie. It was called Super Saiyan Son Goku, or it's called Lord Slug. And in that movie, it is established that Namekians have advanced hearing.
Goku explains how he survived Namek, and introduces his new technique from the planet Yardrat, Shunkan Ido, or instantaneous movement, often simplified to teleportation.
Yardrat sounds like a shitty Twitch streamer handle.
If you spell it backwards, it sounds like some sort of weapon that you could use to make people, mentally efficient.
Here's the inevitable question. Since we know that we're all going to die, and we know that Dr. Garo is making artificial humans, why don't we just go to Dr. Garo and kill him now before he's able to finish them? And the answer is that they just decide they're just going to let him do it. Because by letting him do it, they get to fight, and they care about fighting, because Goku wants to prove that he is the strongest guy.
Goku did say he wants to fight strong enemies, didn't he?
He did, but he also said distinctly when he was fighting Agent Black that he doesn't let bad guys get away. But now he's letting bad guys do their thing, because that would be pretty epic.
The 3 years pass, and May 12th arrives. The gang head to the island, and number 19 and 20 start their assault.
And they immediately showcase how strong they are by just strangling a guy, squeezing his head, and making it pop off his neck, which is the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life.
Dragon Ball has always been violent. This is where the series kind of shows its knack for just randomly being, like, brutally fucking violent. With that guy's head getting squeezed off, which is fucking, like, insane and hilarious and also horrifying.
Yamcha, of course, falls victim to them first, which tips him off to their key draining abilities. Goku fights number 19 in a short but sweet encounter, as he starts starts succumbing to the heart virus. Vegeta saves him and squares up against the artificial human.
Vegeta asks him a question. He says, hey, you guys are robots. Does that mean that you guys are capable of feeling fear? So he starts powering up, he gets enveloped in light, and he becomes a Super Saiyan. During his training, he managed to figure out how to become a Super Saiyan. So now we have Trunks, Goku, and Vegeta that are all Super Saiyans. One of the things that Goku said about Super Saiyans in the Frieza arc was that you need to be a pure-hearted Saiyan that has a heart awakened by rage. And Kuririn asks, how is it possible for Vegeta to have a pure heart? And Vegeta responds that he is pure evil. I guess that counts. So that's pretty awesome. Vegeta is pure evil, and because he's so pure evil, he's able to become a Super Saiyan.
He found the Super Saiyan loophole.
Without going too much into it, just because I've seen you guys play Dragon Ball Fighters and stuff, I'd seen like these characters like Vegeta, who is, you know, a pretty bad guy, and I've seen that they had Super Saiyan forms in that game. So I was thinking like, oh yeah, maybe he has like a comeback arc where he's like becomes, you know, pure of heart and he's good or something. But it's kind of funny that they just they sort of
he's
just
literally
errata.
so goddamn evil. He's so evil that he's able to. This is real husband material, by the way. This is definitely worth him being a more important character than Yamcha. This is pretty cool.
Vegeta kills number 19 with his Big Bang Attack. Not much to explain when it's already in English, but this does show that, with the exception of the Gyarik Ho, Vegeta's attacks have a distinct naming convention. The Earthlings, having been trained in the life of the martial artist, have Eastern attack names, the Kens, the Has, etc. But Vegeta, both an alien to the planet and to this cast of characters, is more exotic and Western. It's something that can't really be adapted outside the Japanese text, but it definitely adds another layer to his character. Number 20 escapes and makes his way to Dr. Garrow's lab.
I was just going to mention that number 19, unlike number 20, his head, it's not a brain in a jar.
Piccolo fights back, and Bulma arrives with the baby Trunks.
Bulma notices something pretty interesting about this guy. Turns out that this guy is actually Dr. Garrow, and at the same time that we know this, we see that Trunks finds number 19's head, and he realizes, holy shit, I have no idea who these guys are fighting against. These are not the ones that are from my timeline. So number 20 says, hey, I'm going to go back to my lab because I'm Dr. Garrow and I'm going to awaken number 17 and 18. They are the real antagonists of the story and they're going to come out and they're going to kill everybody. So he blasts Bulma's ship as a distraction and then he just runs away. So, ring ring. Somebody's calling on the phone. Oh, hello, who's there? Oh, it's Mr. Kazuhiko Torishima. It's Toriyama's first editor. He saw this panel appear in Weekly Shonen Jump as it aired and he said, I thought that the enemies had finally come, but aren't these just a geezer and a fatso? So Torishima, who at this point was not actively working for Toriyama, but was his original editor, called Toriyama up and said, I hate these designs so much, you need to change them as fast as possible. And Toriyama's like, God damn it, this is the only thing that I planned for this arc, now I have to start thinking on my feet. It makes you wonder, if in this scene, they were to punch number 20 and have his head thing fly off, would we have seen a brain under a jar? I don't know. I think at this time, Toriyama was just planning this idea that they were really strong and that they were the ones that screwed up Trunks' future. But now he had to retroactively, even in the sense of like a week, had to change the entire concept of the story just so that he could fit with Torishima's demands.
You know, Torishima was just, he was not Toriyama's editor anymore. He just called Toriyama and was like, yo, I saw what you did, why? It's like Frank Darabont calling up the people making The Walking Dead and being like, why did you do that? Like, that's essentially what just happened.
Torishima was very well known for always telling Toriyama to change his story. Oh, whatever, get rid of that, I don't like it, get rid of that, I don't like it. So much of that happened behind the scenes before things even started. I don't know how many ideas Toriyama had that didn't even make it to the page. This is the first time where something made it to the page and Torishima said, this is already in the story, but you have to go back on it anyway.
The newly christened Dr. Garrow activates numbers 17 and 18, and they start to disobey.
It's like SpongeBob at the chump bucket, where it's just, nah, I don't really feel like it.
Dr. Garrow gets terminated, fucker, and number 16 is activated. The Dragon Team try to fight, but are way out of their league.
And then number 18, as they're leaving, she kisses Kuririn on the cheek, which is kind of creepy, and then just walks away. Vegeta is mad, he flies off. Trunks wants to stop it, Piccolo says, don't bother. So now they start talking about what they need to do. Apparently, Trunks says that the artificial humans of his time are actually not as strong as the ones in this timeline. It is incredible how much Toriyama can rely on the cope of time travel screwing with power. Kuririn asks Piccolo what he wants to do. Kuririn asks, hey, what's wrong? You know, you're one of our friends. Why are you so upset? For some reason, this sets off something in Piccolo, and he says, I am not your friend. I am a Mazaku. I am a demon clansman. I am the reincarnation of the goddamn demon king, and I will use you to take over the world. And he flies off, and they all ask, what the hell is that about? And Tenshinhan says, I forgot he was a demon king, even though he was the only one in this goddamn scene that actually fought Piccolo DAIMAO. So Tenshinhan's a moron, and Kuririn realizes that it was just a bluff. He realizes that Piccolo flew off into the direction of God's palace. There was all that talk in the previous arc about how strong Piccolo and God would be if they refused into the original being, and he figures that's what Piccolo has in mind, and that's why he wanted to have this one final act of defiance as the demon king. But God is not so happy happy about the idea of merging back with them again. You guys started this fight. These guys haven't done anything wrong. Why should I even bother combining with you again if they haven't killed anybody?
Two things. Piccolo's like the coolest character ever. Second, I find that really interesting. This is the only time that like the heroes have ever really picked a fight. The androids being scary. They killed Dr. Gero, but he was like a piece of shit that nobody liked.
The only evil ones so far were number 19 and number 20, and they're both dead.
Yeah, thanks to them.
So, just then, they get a call on the phone. It's Bulma, and she says, hey, I have some bad news. There was a random civilian that found one of the capsule port machines in a forest, but it doesn't look like anything they've made so far. It looks like Trunks' time machine. So, Gohan, Trunks, and Bulma decide they're going to investigate the machine, and inside of it, they find an egg. Trunks looks at the terminal, and it says that it came from age 788, which is 3 years farther in the future from when Trunks came. So, this is the first time where Dragon Ball ever has a calendar system. It's done in sense of age and then a year number. Trunks surmises it might be from another timeline where Trunks successfully beat the artificial humans. So they sense something nearby. They see this giant cicada shell. So whatever was in this giant thing, this giant bug monster, is out there right now and recently molted. And then Bulma hears on the radio, the inhabitants of Gingertown have all disappeared, and it's around the area where this egg was found. Ring ring. Hello, who's there? Oh, it's Torishima again. What does he have to say now? What, this time it's just some brats? So just like with number 19 and number 20, he was unsatisfied with the new designs for the artificial humans. So he said, you need to go back and you need to change it once again. So now, second time in a row, we got a new villain, and number 17 and 18 at least are going to be important. They're not going to be thrown away as easily as numbers 19 and 20, but their roles are going to be diminished. So I hope you liked them.
Sensing the upcoming danger, God decides to finally recombine with Piccolo. He heads to the surface and confronts the monster.
I'm just going to cut all the pretense. We're finally done shifting antagonists. This is the main guy, right? This is the big ultimate guy. This is the titular Cell. This is what the arc is named after. It's why it's not the artificial human arc, because that shit's out the window. We're now dealing with the main guy. Just like the artificial humans, he's a creation of Dr. Gero. He is also referred to as a Jinzo Ningen, but he is entirely biological because he is made up of the cells of the other Dragon Team members.
This is the main reason why I prefer the Dragon Ball Z translation of artificial human, as the original term, Jinzo Ningen, encompasses all of Gero's creations. To be an artificial human is to be humanoid with an aspect that is artificial in nature. Numbers 8, 17, and 18 are cyborgs, humans altered with mechanical parts. Numbers 16 and 19 are androids, fully mechanical robots that resemble humans. 20 teeters on that line, given the whole brain in a jar thing. And Cell is a biological mass created from a computer. They all have their own quirks, but they're all Jinzo Ningen. In that sense, calling this the artificial human arc does actually make sense. It's just a shame it doesn't roll off the tongue well. Maybe an adaptation of Viz's name, shortened to Mecha Man, would have been a good compromise. Cell escapes with the Taioken, and Vegeta ponders surpassing Super Saiyan.
When I was a really small child, first watching these events, all the mystery of this part of the arc, you know, a decayed version of Trunks' time machine, everyone in Gingertown looking like they got raptured, being Piccolo's brother, quote unquote, at the same time, Piccolo has this pivotal character moment, reuniting with God. Like the sense of mystery and that, it like peaked here, and that it being snuffed out just by
it was
all
snuffed
that
out immediately
exposition.
because Cell immediately just exposits his entire backstory.
It's kind of interesting. This is one of my oldest memories of Dragon Ball too. This was like when I was reading the manga. I vividly remember reading this and being like, what the fuck is that? It was like crazy. It was so cool.
This really does prove how well Toriyama can write on his feet, because he managed to create this really intriguing mystery out of complete chaos that was happening behind the scenes. I feel like if you didn't know that that shit was the case, you probably wouldn't be able to tell, because everything leads to each other. Number 19 and number 20 lead to unleashing number 17 and 18, which act as parts for Cell. It's not just abandoning concepts left and right. It's just this goes to this, goes to this.
Days pass, and Goku is back in action. He takes Gohan to Vegeta and Trunks, and comes up with a plan.
Vegeta's just been standing alone on this mountain, just staring off into the distance for 3 days, and Trunks has been trying to get to him, but it just doesn't work. Goku also has news. I know of a place called the Room of Spirit and Time. It is a place on God's palace where time moves slower. It's like a little pocket dimension. It also has 10 times the gravity of Earth, and more importantly, when you use the room, 1 day out of the room is 1 year in the room. And apparently this is the thing that Goku knew about this entire time, and never bothered to mention it at any point. This would have been really cool if he mentioned that to the gang when they were training for the Saiyans, but I guess he just forgot about that.
Vegeta and Trunks enter the room, and the artificial humans make it to Kame House. Piccolo fights number 17 in another short and sweet fight, and Cell closes in on both of them.
So now all bets are off. Piccolo says, you know what, stopping Cell from transforming is more important than fighting number 17. So number 17, you need to run, and I'm gonna try to fight you, whatever. But then unfortunately, he beats Piccolo up, blasts him through the chest, and then he throws him into a lake. So Piccolo is totally screwed.
That's a really good image.
Did you make that?
I did make that, yes. So Piccolo gets cooked. 2 whole arcs of setup about the idea of Piccolo recombining with God, and then he just gets 1 fight, and then he's already dealt with. That's pretty cool. So anyway.
Number 16 fights Cell, but is unable to stop him from absorbing number 17. With that, he undergoes his first transformation.
And he looks like this. Kind of a polarizing design. Most people don't like it because of the face. I like it, right? This is also where he gets the PS5 head. You notice he's got the big little piece there. He still has 1 more person if he wants to absorb. Number 18. He needs to absorb number 18 to get to his perfect form. And that is because, ring ring, hello, somebody's on the phone. Actually, it's not Torishima this time. It's Yukondo, who is his modern editor. His modern editor said, hey, he looks ugly. Of course he can transform. So of course, this is the last instance, thankfully, I'm not actually kidding, of editorial weirdness happening behind the scenes. Yukondo thought that Cell looked ugly. The intent of Cell was for him to not transform. He was just going to be the new guy. Also, may I please direct your attention to the single greatest chapter title page in all of Dragon Ball. Look at Yamcha, Tenshinhan, and Trunks.
And Krillin, too.
Like, do you not pick up on what they're doing? They're flipping Cell off. This is awesome. This is the single greatest title page of all time.
Like that.
So Cell goes after number 18, but the number 18 says, you're not going to beat me. I have a secret. I have that bomb that Dr. Garo installed in me, and I'm going to use it, and I'm going to kill myself.
Oh, these aren't androids. These were made in a factory. A bomb factory. They're bombs.
So number 17, he does this whole thing where he kind of appears before number 18. It says, hey, number 18, this is great. You gotta get absorbed by Cell. It's so much fun in here. We got Dr. Garo-sama. He's super awesome. He's great. Please help and realize his wish. And then number 18 says, you're bullshitting me, Cell. I know that that's not number 17 because he said Dr. Garo-sama. Number 17 hates Dr. Garo, so he would never say that. So he's like, well, worth a shot. Too bad I could just kill him anyway. So he's going to walk up to number 18 and absorb her. But then, Tenshinhan, he appears in the sky, and without warning, he starts using his new Shin Kikoho, where he just blasts the ground over and 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 over again, constantly thrusting just Cell deeper and deeper and deeper into the earth. And he says, number 18, I don't care, get the hell out of here. I don't care if I die right now. I'm gonna keep Cell in place while all you guys escape. Really cool character moment for Tenshinhan, by the way. He hasn't done much in a while, so this is
Fucking based.
So he starts blasting Cell. Oh, it just keeps him in the ground, and then number 18 and number 16 are able to get away and escape to a nearby island.
This is a based swan song for this character, Tenshinhan.
Yeah, this is like the last major interesting thing that Tenshinhan does, and I think it's a really cool moment, so I allow it, Toriyama. Tenshinhan's about to die. Before Cell's about to kill him, Goku teleports to Tenshinhan, and he says, Cell, we are doing some super secret training. If you give us a day, we will come back stronger, and we will be able to beat you. Now, if you remember, Cell is kind of a Saiyan, right? He's got Saiyan cells in him. He's got that little, oh, I want to fight kind of thing to him as well. So he says, you know what, I'll entertain you. I'll let you guys train. Let's just see what could come from it. As he's about to head back to the palace, Cell's about to attack him, but then Goku teleports away. And Cell's like, what the hell is this? How can Goku teleport? This is crazy.
Kuririn gets a shutdown remote from Bulma, Vegeta and Trunks exit the room, and Goku and Gohan take their turn.
Now, Goku has a specific plan for Gohan. He wants him to not only become a Super Saiyan, he wants him to get stronger than Goku. Gohan specifically struggles to become a Super Saiyan because he's never really suffered any kind of horrible loss in his life. It's going to be difficult for him. Goku even says, hey, imagine that you got killed by Cell. And he says, I've never met Cell. So he says, oh, imagine that you got killed by Frieza instead. It's still just not enough. So Super Vegeta, or just surpassed Super Saiyan as I call it, he starts beating up Cell, and it's a complete wash. Meanwhile, number 16 and number 18 are found by Kuririn. So Cell is, woe is me, this is terrible, how is it possible that I'm losing? If only I had number 18, then I would be as strong as I possibly could be. And this piques Vegeta's interest. He says, hey, you know what? I want to prove to you that I am the strongest person to ever live, so I'm going to let you absorb number 18. But Trunks says, no, I'm not letting that happen. He wants to stop Cell from being able to do that.
I like the text on this slide. It's a reference to my favorite Star Wars film, Revenge of the Sith, and it's wonderful dialogue.
So Kuririn and the number 18, he has the remote. And as he's about to press the remote, he remembers the kiss. And then she sees him, and she's like, what the hell? And then Kuririn says, hey, if you promise not to kill anybody, can you just, like, go away? Like, I don't want to have to kill you. Can you just, like, leave and promise not to kill Goku? Through all this commotion, Cell sees number 18. Trunks tries to stop him, but it's too late. He uses the Taioken once again, and he absorbs number 18. And he starts powering up, and he emanates all this energy, and then we finally get to see his perfect form. This is perfect Cell. A lot more sleek, a lot more refined. He also doesn't have a tail anymore, and the PS5 head is now fully in effect. And now we finally get to see the perfect form that Kondo approves of. Kondo is happy. At the same time, we get another new transformation, because in the time that it's taken for all this stuff to happen, Gohan has become a Super Saiyan. He's figured it out. If you want to know how he did it, watch the anime, because it's never explained here.
Cell starts fighting back, and Vegeta is forced to use his final flash.
I'm sorry, I like this image of Vegeta right. Just kidding.
That's deserved. That's like cathartic after this whole arc of him being like such a retard.
To be fair, everybody else is enablers. Gary King and the enablers, because they're not stopping Vegeta from being able to do all the terrible shit he's doing.
Yeah, true.
Trunks steps in with his surpassing of the surpassed Super Saiyan and learns a harsh lesson about power. This inspires Goku to master the form he already has, and Cell announces the Cell Games.
And he welcomes everybody to challenge him in the games, and he says that it is going to take place on M17. What the fuck is M17? I think at this time, Toriyama didn't want to commit to a calendar system, but if you know, the entire arc starts with Trunks giving the warning that May 12th is the day that they arrive. So he just forgot about his own calendar system. Funnily enough, 12 plus the 9 days Cell says it's going to take until the Cell Games does not equal 17, and more time has definitely passed since then. The math doesn't work at all. So in a later edition of this chapter, it was changed to May 26th, but that is a retcon. I just wanted to talk about M17 because it's so random.
Goku and Gohan leave the room early, now permanently in their Super Saiyan states.
In fact, if you notice, Super Saiyans are usually drawn with really closed, aggressive-looking eyes, but in this specific form, their eyes are really wide, like they normally would be. So it's a nice little visual difference between normal Super Saiyan and this ultimate full-power Super Saiyan or whatever.
With no more Dragon Balls after Piccolo recombined, Goku heads to New Namek to recruit Dende as the new god.
That's not the only return of Christ that we have going on right now, because we have a new important thing that is being established. You look on TV, the world-renowned combat sports champion, Mr. Satan, is here to save the day. He's this big, he's Mr. Satan. He's basically a celebrity. The world has been pretty busy in the time that the gang stopped attending the 23rd Tenkaichi Budokai. They never attended the 24th. Mr. Satan is the victor of the 24th, and he says that he's gonna beat up Cell, he's using tricks to kill everybody, he pre-planted bombs to kill the military. This is where we have to explain this character's name. Mr. Satan is a stage name. It's not his literal name. The Undertaker's name is not first name the last name Undertaker. It's just the Undertaker as the stage name. His nickname is Satan. He's Mr. Satan. However, I wouldn't really call this common knowledge, and it has everything to do with the fact that the dub meddled. Now, this is understandable because in the 90s, Funimation was not comfortable calling a character Satan, and I don't blame them. So for them, they came up with a new name, which was Hercule. It seems to be based on the Hercules name, so it's still tying into the god theme, right? Whereas instead of being Satan, the Great Deceiver, it's Hercules, or I guess Heracles or whatever. This is actually a rare instance of the Viz manga using a Funimation-made term specifically to censor the name Satan. But the sub calls him Mr. Satan, I call him Mr. Satan, and even in the modern dubs, they actually changed his name to Mr. Satan. And this is a rare W for Funimation and an L for Viz, because Viz still uses Hercule.
What's Mr. Satan's real name? Is it Chris Benoit?
It was never actually stated in the original series, but he was given a name by Toriyama, and his name is Maaku, M-A-A-K-U. It is a pun on Akuma, which means devil. Maaku becomes Mark. But that's a post-manga retcon. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just going to say Mr. Satan.
Dende makes new Dragon Balls, now granting 3 wishes, and the Cell Games begin. First up, Cell versus Mr. Satan.
As he's about to go for this finishing blow, Cell smacks him away, and he flies into a mountain, and then he just falls down, and then he's out of the way. Gag manga logic, he's not actually dead, right? It's just a joke. But Mr. Satan is totally screwed up. The world is fucked because this is their big savior. Whoops. So anyway, it is now Goku's turn to fight. However, before we do that, we have to take a little pit stop, because Dragon Ball in its entirety had 519 chapters. For reference, we are now at chapter 396. And after this chapter premiered, there was another chapter that came alongside it, and it was called Trunks the Story. Now, Trunks the Story is basically just a retelling of the events of Trunks' life. And it's basically just shit that we already know, but drawn on a page this time. We see that Trunks was a Super Saiyan as a kid already, and that he was fighting with future Gohan, decided to time travel back in time. Just like the Bardock special, this was turned into a TV special, and it's incredible. It is 10,000 times better than the little chapter. The TV special changed the context of it into being the explanation as to Trunks becoming a Super Saiyan, where it was Gohan dying that made Trunks so upset that he became a Super Saiyan, and the voice acting from Takeshi Kusao, who's Trunks' VA, is incredible. Oh my god, it's amazing. If there's one thing that you should watch, it would be the Trunks special. It's absolutely incredible. It's also around this time where the third and final editor of Dragon Ball took over. Yuto Takeda, who is this guy who's just considered more lenient. He kind of let Toriyama do whatever he wanted. In fact, Toriyama had some really interesting words to say about the man upon meeting him. My new editor came to have a meeting, and I was surprised at his huge size. I think his weight might even run to 3 digits. So that's really considerate of him to just say this about his editor that he meets. Is just, God, this guy's so fat. Takeda was always, like I said, the lenient editor. He kind of just let Toriyama do whatever he wanted. This is a thing that we'll see later on. It's not really something that we'll see the effects of now, but later on, you start to see a lot of the conventions and a lot of the pressures that Toriyama was feeling from Dragon Ball, the expectations and the tropes and all that kind of stuff, start to chip away and gradually become more of the silly, funny kind of gag manga that Toriyama was used to, but that's much more prevalent in the next arc. But for now, we still need to finish the Cell arc.
Goku steps up to bat and charges a full power Kamehameha towards the planet.
And as he's about to shoot it, he teleports right into Cell's face and he just blasts the top of Cell's body off. But because, again, Cell is a meme, Piccolo guy, whatever, he can just regenerate the top half of his body, even though it's not a thing that Piccolo can do.
Cell seems just like a kind of bullshit if you can just like blow off the top half of his body and it's just like, nah, whatever, I'm back.
Goku decides to forfeit, elects Gohan to fight in his place, and flexes by giving Cell a Senzu bean. So, Gohan steps up to fight.
He does not like to fight the way that Goku does, and he doesn't want to kill anybody. This is kind of a new development for him, but I wouldn't really say it's necessarily out of character. But he basically explains why he thinks Goku put him into this situation. He realizes that he has a secret power within him that showed up with Raditz and Frieza, that whenever he gets really upset, his power just explodes. Problem is that he doesn't know how to control it. And so Goku is hoping that Cell will make Gohan angry enough for that power to just awaken.
Eager to test the theory, Cell starts torturing Gohan.
Piccolo starts chastising Goku for making a huge mistake about this. He wasn't thinking about Gohan's emotions at all. He just assumed that Gohan was totally in on this and that he liked to fight as much as Goku does. He doesn't. And Goku realizes this mistake, that no matter how strong Gohan is, he's still a kid, and he shouldn't be thrust into the situation without any warning.
I was gonna say I like this moment for Goku. It's a very human mistake to make, projecting his wants like onto his kid. Like, I think that's cool. It's the first time he feels like a real like dad. That's like a dad mistake.
It's also interesting because a lot of people have this idea that Gohan hates fighting more than anything and only wants to be a scholar because that's what Chi-Chi wants for him. I don't think that's necessarily true. I just don't think he's nearly as dedicated to the extremes of his parents as they expect him to be. He doesn't want to be as much of a scholar as Chi-Chi wants, and he doesn't like fighting nearly as much as Goku does.
Number 16 tries to contribute, but couldn't stop when he was ahead. Cell then summons the Cell Juniors to take out the rest of the Dragon Team.
And during this entire time, number 16's disembodied head rolls over to where Mr. Satan is, and he says, hey, I need you to do me a favor. You need to take my head, and you need to bring it to Gohan. The reporter that Mr. Satan brought with him says, no, you can't do that. Mr. Satan's a human. He's not like any of you crazy freaks. But then Mr. Satan says, you know what? I am the world champion, and if I can call myself that, then I need to do everything that I can. So he grabs his head, he runs up to Gohan, he throws the head, and then it rolls over to where he is, and he starts giving a speech to Gohan. Now, he talks about a lot of pacifist kind of philosophies, right? Let go of all that kind of stuff. Some people just cannot be reasoned with. You shouldn't be afraid to get mad. Protect the nature that number 16 has learned to appreciate. Before Gohan can even react, Cell walks up to him, and he steps on number 16's head. And this triggers something in Gohan, just seeing this innocent life be snuffed out completely, that he just gets really upset. And he powers up, and he finally becomes the true version of the evolution of Super Saiyan. This is what they were talking about the entire time. This is Gohan's fully released potential, and is the actual evolution of Super Saiyan. Also, I'm obligated to mention the anime, where it has one of the single greatest pieces of music. To call it iconic is a massive understatement. It's called Unmei no Ki, which means Day of Destiny, and it is absolutely incredible.
Absolutely.
It's just great. Even in the dub sphere where they've removed the song, people still know about it because it's so popular. It's truly legendary. And Rocco Bodie of Mega 64 fame did a really good cover of it. I recommend everybody listen to it.
Yeah.
Gohan first targets his rage against the Cell Juniors.
This is another one of the most brutally gory kind of thing you'll ever see in all of Dragon Ball, especially in the manga, where it's just, oh, look, there are his eyeballs, there's his brain.
This gore is what I was thinking about. This always comes to mind to me. Even though I haven't read the manga, I am familiar with the fact that this is quite different than how it's depicted in the anime.
In the anime, they puff into smoke, which is either because it's easier to animate, or more likely because it's censorship.
Gohan starts toying with Cell, and Cell starts getting desperate.
And Cell is forced to accept this reality. He decides, I'm going to do what Goku did, except for real this time. I'm just going to go up into the sky and actually blow up the planet. He shoots it, and Gohan responds, readying his own, very first time in his life, Kamehameha, blasts it back towards Cell and blasts him into space. Now, Cell managed to dodge it. Gohan starts fighting him again, and he kicks him so hard in the head that he vomits out number 18. I don't understand the logistics of this at all, but it's just crazy.
At his limit, Cell decides to self-destruct, and Goku is left with no other option than to say goodbye.
Teleports to Cell, places his hand on his chest, and says, hey Gohan, you did a good job. Daddy's proud of you, but it's time to bring this fight to a close. So teleports away. The planet he teleported to was Kaio's. He's the only one that he could think of in time. So Cell blows up, kills Goku, Kaio's planet, and Bubbles. Just, that's it. They're all just dead now.
That panel on the top left, the funny face, is that what's inspired that old meme, like, I'm a fire and my laser?
It is second form Cell, I know certainly. It's I'm a fire, that's him doing that. I don't know what panel it's based on.
Well, yeah, but it's from the anime. I think it's just when he's fighting Vegeta. I don't remember.
Despite all odds, Cell survives and immediately attacks Trunks.
Not only is Cell back, but he is in his perfect form again, and he explains how this happened. Sit down, because you're about to stand up. Cell has a nucleus in his head. It's a tiny little clump of cells that can fully regenerate him as long as it's intact. When he exploded, his body scattered and blew everything up except for the tiny little nucleus, so he was able to regenerate that. Alongside that, he was also able to regenerate into his perfect form without number 18, and also he learned how to teleport. So he teleported to Earth after regenerating from actual certain death, and is now stronger than Gohan even. Each of these elements makes sense in isolation. He is technically a Saiyan, so he did benefit from the near-death power-up, while the clump in his head should have been blown up when Goku attacked him.
I was literally just about to ask that, yeah.
Technically speaking, there's never any statement made that that's the only way he can regenerate. And also, Toriyama's made a note, every single time Goku teleports around Cell, he makes a note of it. So Cell being able to pick up on teleportation actually plays into something that's been recurring in this entire arc. In isolation, those make sense, but the fact that they're all thrown at you at once is, like, insane.
Yeah, you can't throw too much new shit at the reader at once.
Vegeta attacks Cell, which gets Gohan injured. As all seems lost, a familiar voice offers moral support.
And it is Goku from beyond the grave. He starts talking to Gohan through Kaio as Cell starts charging up a Kamehameha. And so he inspires him to charge up his own Kamehameha in order to counter Cell's, and says, hey, don't worry about killing me, right? It wasn't your fault. It was my decision. Charge your own Kamehameha. He starts charging it with one hand. And in a moment of inspiration, Gohan takes the words that Goku gave him and is inspired enough to launch his own massive Kamehameha with that awesome little silhouette in the background. And so they clash. But Gohan seems to be crumpling under the pressure a little bit. But then, in another selfless moment, Vegeta shoots Cell, which then gives Gohan enough leeway to finally give enough energy to fully envelop Cell in the attack and eviscerate him completely. This is the big ultimate kill blast, right? Cell is actually dead. He is gone.
For real this time, guys.
The gang fly to God's palace, and Piccolo confronts Vegeta.
But as Piccolo flies away, Vegeta declares that he is never going to fight again. All right, I'm sure that'll hold up. So anyway, Mr. Satan and the announcer get back up, and the announcer asks what the hell happened. Because all the cameras were destroyed, they have no idea. Nobody knows what happened in the fight. And Mr. Satan said, you know what? I fought Cell. I took him out. All the people that were here thanked me and went home. So now Mr. Satan is officially the savior of the world. Everybody's going to believe that he was the one who killed Cell, and he's going to keep living in his nice little, amazing, luxurious life.
The gang summon Shenlong and revive Trunks, but Goku stays behind because he attracts bad guys. Even though Piccolo DAIMAO was revived without his influence, the Saiyans were defeated by him, as well as Frieza, who was killed in the Alpha timeline, and Red Ribbon was already making artificial humans before he got involved, but sure, Goku attracts bad guys. So he stays behind, and the Last Wish removes number 17 and 18's bombs, thus cementing her role as Kuririn's tsundere girlfriend. With all loose ends tied up, everyone decides to go their separate ways.
And Tenshinhan says that they will never see each other again. Why? I don't know why he says this. To be fair, exactly, yeah. To be fair, the series is currently setting up the idea that Gohan is going to be the new main character. We don't know how long this is going to last. We'll see where that ends up going. But for now, the intention is that Gohan is the new main character. And because he's the main character, characters that are not associated with him are going to be put on the back burner for a while. Tenshinhan is very much a relic of the Goku era. I don't think he's ever even interacted with Gohan once.
Important input. I like that Yamcha is, he's trying to cheer up his wife's boyfriend's son.
Exactly, his wife's boyfriend's son, yeah. This is another resolution to a character arc because Trunks says, my dad did that for me after he assaulted me, and after he belittled me, and after he was an asshole to me in the Room of Spirit and Time. He did all of that for me. That was so nice of him, right?
With that, the gang head home to have a memorial for Goku.
Remember, there's still a character that we gotta finish their arc for, and it's Trunks. So Trunks returns home, and he greets his mom. We're now in his timeline, and we get to see him confront the artificial humans. So Trunks fights against the artificial humans, and it's a complete wash. He rushes towards number 18, and he blasts her to pieces. And number 17 is totally taken aback by this. He starts fighting, and he jumps up into the air, and he blasts him away too, and now number 17 and number 18 are both dead. So he's completed his little journey that he had at the start of finally solving his timeline's issues. But there's one little thing, and it's Cell. But now that he is fully prepared, he starts to fight Cell. He does celebratory hands in the air, he raises his hands to the sky, shoots a big beam, and he incinerates Cell completely. And with that, he's finally done. That is it. This is a true happy ending. Trunks has finally saved his future. They will never bring this character back ever again, and they will never ruin his perfect ending for the sake of making money for cheap fan service. Fuck Dragon Ball Super. Anyway, that is the finished finished Cell arc. What do we all think of that?
Hell yeah.
Damn, look how much it coloured at the top. I definitely remember this arc being one of the longest arcs I've ever saw on television. Glad to see that still holds true for the manga.
Yeah, the characters dying and then coming back. It's just interesting way to tell your story. Kind of takes the stakes away a little bit, I must admit.
I did like the sort of father-son relationship stuff. I think that was handled pretty well, and there's a lot of like that stuff in media. For all intents and purposes, as far as I can tell, it seems like Cell is just Piccolo 2.0 in a lot of ways.
Yes, he's Piccolo's regenerative powers with Frieza's personality, except less of that. That's basically what he is. I guess this is a controversial opinion, I don't know, but I think Cell, Perfect Cell specifically, might be my least favorite Dragon Ball villain. Not because I don't like him, but because he doesn't have much about him that's, like, unique.
Cell is really bookended by two interesting antagonists, you know. It's a bit of a mixed bag for me, I guess. Overall, I like it more than not. I'm very nostalgic for it.
I have one last thing I just want to say. All I want to say is... Whoa, 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 whoa. Da, 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 da.
So that was a fucking lie.
The story starts 7 years after the Cell fight ended. It's been 7 years of peace. However, peacetime does not last forever, so the world needs a new hero, and with it, we see Gohan, who is now an adult. He is 16, and he is going to school. He sees this crime happening in Satan City and realizes that he needs to stop it, but he doesn't want to reveal himself, so he decides to turn Super Saiyan, so that he can disguise himself as he beats up the robbers. And on his way back to school, he runs into this little girl, and her name is Videl. Videl is another student of Orange Star High School, and there's been rumors of the Golden Warrior. I didn't see who did it. He runs off, and then they meet up at school again. It is here where we meet Shapana and Ereza, which are Gohan's other classmates, because school. Then they reveal that Videl, she is basically like a vigilante, but she also kind of just works with the police, so it's not really that. But the reason why is because she is Mr. Satan's daughter. Just like Mr. Satan, her name is based on devil, literally just Debidu, Bideru. They extend out the E sound, so it becomes Videl instead of just Videl, but it's not really that big of a difference.
Gohan needs a better disguise, and on his way to Bulma, encounters an 8-year-old Trunks.
8-year-olds, dude.
It seems like Vegeta is being like a good dad now and everything, and he's trying to raise his son and stuff. Is his capability to turn Super Saiyan, is that still dependent on him having a pure evil heart, or has that changed?
Once a Super Saiyan, always a Super Saiyan.
That whole shit about needing a pure heart was just complete bullshit. Let's be real.
Gohan gets a new outfit and tests it out on some nearby ne'er-do-wells.
And he comes up with the name Gureto Saiyaman, or Great Saiyaman. Again, this is more evidence that it's Saiyan and not Saiyan, because Saiyaman.
And they call him the Great Saiyaman, right, in the dub?
They do, yeah, they change it to Saiyaman, but it's the Great Saiyaman, is literally what that says. So Gohan returns home, he's about to head off to school, but then we see that there's another character there as well, which is his younger brother, Goten. So before Goku died, the week of the Cell Games, I guess, there was a little bit of freakiness happening in the Sun home, right? And now the result of that is this kid named Goten. The Ten in Goten means heaven, which is a play on the fact that the Ku in Goku means sky. So it's sky to heaven, Goten.
Videl goes after criminals, and the Great Saiyaman lends her a hand.
So Videl says, hey, Gohan, how did you get out of class? And Gohan, like an idiot, responds to his own name and says that I just said I was going to go to the bathroom. So now the secret's out. So they decide to fly back to school in a plane together, and she mentions the fact that the last champion of the Tenkaichi Budokai was Mr. Satan. The one before that was a guy named Son Goku. People nowadays don't have surnames. Videl doesn't have a surname. It's not Videl Satan. Bulma doesn't have a surname. It's not Bulma Brief. She wants to join the next Tenkaichi Budokai. So they're going to head to the 25th Tenkaichi Budokai, and she was like, hey, I want you to teach me how to fly. So you're going to join the tournament, and you're going to teach me how to fly.
Gohan starts gathering participants, and someone special speaks up.
There's a voice from the heavens. Who else could this be? But Goku was listening to this whole conversation passively, I guess, and he wants to join too. And the way he can, and I'm so surprised that Toriyama remembered this, Uranai Baba, the sister of the Muten Roshi, can revive people for a day. So Goku's going to come back for a day using his Uranai Baba pass, and he's going to be here, and they're going to be able to meet again. I guess we don't really care about Gohan being the main character anymore, because they literally just brought back the character that was supposed to be written out of the series. So that's pretty cool.
That didn't take very long.
I don't love that, but the callback is cool. The Red Ribbon arc.
Gohan figures, hey, if we're bringing everybody back, if Goku's coming back, we may as well return the entire cast. You know how the thing about shrinking the whole cast I talked about yesterday? Just forget about that. They're all going to come back right now. And they're going to start by getting Kuririn. And the most important thing about Kuririn in the 7-year time skip is that he has hair now. He grew hair. He is no longer bald. Also, he has a daughter, and number 18 is his wife. But the real shit is the fact that he has hair now. And his daughter's name, which is never actually mentioned until much later, is is Maron, which is the Japanese way of saying the French word for chestnut, which ties into the fact that Kuririn's name is a pun on chestnut. There's also a filler character in the anime, also named Maron, who was Kuririn's filler girlfriend. And a lot of people think, why did Kuririn name his daughter after his ex-girlfriend? Toei and Toriyama just independently thought of the exact same thing. So unfortunately, that is no longer true.
Does Android 18 ever get like another name?
Within the original manga, she is never given a name. In the extended media, Toriyama gave number 17 and number 18 names. Number 17 is Lapis, number 18 is Lazuli. But that's not Steven Universe. Yeah, exactly. The best show ever made.
In preparation of the tournament, Gohan trains with Goten.
And then Goten asks, hey, would you mind if I became like you? And Gohan's like, what, you mean like Super Saiyan? Well, that's going to take a lot of effort. It's something that me and Dad really had to train hard for in order to be able to do this. Turns out Goten was not asking him how to become one. He was asking for permission because he just becomes a Super Saiyan. Apparently, Goten just figured out how to do it one day when he was training with Chi-Chi, and Gohan never noticed. The power of the next generation is a consistent theme of this arc, so it is kind of tied into that. The fact that it's done as a joke is reason enough for it to be a good writing decision as far as I'm concerned. But he can't fly. Gohan has to teach him how to fly as well. Speaking of which, Videl shows up for her flight lesson, and now we get to finally address something that I've been holding on to for a very long time, and that is Bukujutsu. Bukujutsu is the kind of flight that Tenshinhan and Chaozu used that everybody else then learned. The only person that Gohan could have learned flight from was Piccolo, and Piccolo specifically stated that his flight is different from Bukujutsu, but he introduces this flight technique as Bukujutsu, so I don't know. That's a plot hole. There you go.
They keep training, Videl gets an adorable haircut, and Goku meets another Kaio.
The Kaio that we know is the Northern Kaio. This is the Southern Kaio. And it's actually because this was cross-promotion for an arc that was happening in the anime at the time. After the end of the Cell fight, Goku fights in an afterlife tournament with a bunch of dead people. It's just a little interesting bit of cross-promotion here. Trunks is also training with Vegeta, and he's having a lot of trouble keeping up, so he decides, hey, you know what? I may as well just go Super Saiyan as well, because this is also something that I figured out how to do. Also, Vegeta says this, he has this incredible quote where he says that there's a Super Saiyan bargain sale, because everybody's becoming Super Saiyan nowadays. And that's hilarious. I don't know how he figured out what bargain sales are, but there you go. That's pretty cool. And also, she learned how to fly fully now, so she can fly now. She flies now. She flies now. That's from my favorite Star Wars movie, Rise of Skywalker. That's pretty cool.
I understood that immediately.
The day of the tournament arrives, and Goku greets his old friends, shocking Oolong so much that he's mute for the rest of the series, but I've said my piece on that. Piccolo makes the genius decision to disguise himself under the name he's already exposed, and the gang qualify via the punching machine. Goten and Trunks face off in the new Kids division, and enter the tournament proper under the visage of Mighty Mask.
So everybody else heads backstage, and they meet these two mysterious individuals. Their names are Shin and Kibito. Shin greets Goku, and he already knows who he is, even though he's never met him before, and he's here to test out his strength. So they shake hands, and Goku can tell that he's hiding something, that he's really, really, really strong, and it figures that danger is on the horizon. Something bad's gonna happen, especially because these guys are here. Alongside that, they also see these other two contestants named Spopovich and Yamu, and they have these M's inscribed on their head. Funnily enough, Toriyama actually forgot what this means. He doesn't actually remember what the point of the M is, but he said he thinks that it's Ma, as in demon. The first match is Kuririn versus this random guy named Punter, but it's also notable that Yamcha tells Maron that Kuririn is the strongest of all the humans, the strongest person on the planet, as long as you just count humans. So I don't know if this is trying to diminish Tenshinhan, or if it's just Yamcha trying to cheer up Kuririn's daughter.
Or maybe Krillin's just better.
I disavow Tenshinhan #1.
Next up, Piccolo versus Shin, the former so intimidated that he refuses to fight.
Piccolo confronts Shin backstage, and he asks, hey, I have a little inkling about you. I think that you might be the Dai Kaio. But then Kibito says, no, he's not the Dai Kaio. He's the Kaioshin. And Piccolo is at a complete loss for words. And I am as well, because Piccolo just implied different levels of divinity that we've never heard of before, and now I have to talk about them. So, as I mentioned before, around this time, the anime arc of Goku fighting a bunch of different guys in the afterlife was airing. And in that, there was a guy named the Dai Kaio, and he looks like this. Dai Kaio is the god above the other Kaio. He seemingly exists to appoint other Kaios. It's a somewhat redundancy in this, because the Kaioshin is above the Dai Kaio even, and is basically the highest god in the universe. By the way, Dai Kaio is Great Lord of Worlds. Kaio is World King. Kaioshin means World King God. So he's the biggest, baddest guy on top of everything. Viz calls him Lord of Lords. They never explain to us what the Kaioshin's role actually is. It's just that he exists, and here he is. It's also important to note, Shin, Kaioshin, lol, that's why that's his name, Kaioshin, XD. Kibito's name is a pun on Tsukibito, which means attendant. So, literally, his name is just attendant.
Next up, Videl versus Spopovich, the latter of whom starts playing quite a bit dirty.
And during this, Gohan gets so upset, he wants to join the fight, so he turns Super Saiyan and blows his bandana off, but then Shin says, no, you're not allowed to do that. We are here because of Spopovich and Yamu. We want to watch them and just let all this kind of stuff go by and just see what happens. Right as Gohan's about to fight, anyway, Yamu says, Spopovich, you've taken this too far. Videl is completely brutalized. Gohan brings her to the emergency place, and he gets a Senzu bean, gives it to her, and then she's healed back to full. And Videl now fully trusts Gohan because of all this crazy shit that's happening between them.
The Senzu bean even fixed her teeth. That's pretty cool.
By the way, a lot of people think that this fight is like aggressively violent and like they don't like reading it. I'm not saying saying I like reading it, but it really isn't that bad, because something about the manga that's pretty interesting is that most of violence in Dragon Ball is pretty exaggerated, right? Even the most crazy of injuries still are not realistic, whereas this fight has realistic responses to injury. Videl gets punched in the face, and then her nose is broken and her teeth fall out. Like, that's realistic.
I think people have a problem with it because it's a woman that's on the receiving end.
Yeah,
of this sort of thing.
Maybe.
It is worth noting that the anime does draw this fight out for dramatic effect, and that since most people in the West watched Dragon Ball instead of reading it, it definitely would have left more of an impression. I'd still argue that, in the grand scheme of the series, a lot worse has happened to the main cast. I think Piccolo shooting a hole the size of a baseball through Goku's shoulder and then stomping on it is far more gruesome. I'm not saying this fight isn't violent. I am saying that, at this point, it's par for the course in Dragon Ball, and this specific sequence being highlighted makes me scratch my head a bit. Gohan faces off against Kibito, and Spopovich and Yamu steal his energy. The gang leave the tournament early, interrupting the upcoming Goku and Vegeta rematch, and Kaioshin explains the situation.
A very long time ago, there was a powerful Madoshi, or a warlock, named Bibidi, who created a terrible being named Majin Boo. Majin Boo was this entity that went on a rampage and killed dozens of planets, as well as the Kaioshin realm, and killed all but one of them, because apparently there are 5 Kaioshin. It's even less coherent as to what the hell the point of the Kaioshin are, because there are as many of them as there are Kaio. So what even are they going to do? Whatever. Shin's the only one that survived the attack on the Kaioshin realm.
Just kind of funny coming all the way from like the first couple arcs, having Piccolo, who was like this outer god, who was also a demon, and they split apart, and that was like the highest power, and now there's like 15 degrees higher.
Majin Buu, like I said, was an entity that was created by this guy named Bibidi. Majin means demon person, in the same way that Saiyajin means Saiyan person. You could technically call him demon person Buu, but I just prefer calling him Majin Buu because I just think that sounds better. However, despite Bibidi being dead, his son, whose name is Babidi, is still alive and is trying to revive Majin Buu by collecting energy. So Bibidi Babidi Boo. This is clearly a reference to Fairy Godmother's Song of Cinderella. Bibidi Babidi Boo, literally speaking, the way the dub shows it is aligned with how the spelling of the actual Romaji is. But as you see, I actually included a clip from Disney's YouTube channel. The way that they spell it is as such, and it's why I call them by those names. Pronunciation is the same no matter what, but the spelling is slightly different. The only difference is Viz, who refers to Majin Buu as Jin Buu, which I believe is the Arabic word for what they call genies. And it's because, as we'll soon see, Majin Buu's design is based on that of a genie, but I'd still just rather call him Majin Buu.
In Arab mythology and later on in Islam, obviously it's where we get genie from, like you mentioned. They're kind of like the equivalent of demons. There are meant to be some good ones, but most of them are basically demons, and, you know, Ma, demon.
Bibidi put Majin Buu's pod on Earth, but before he was able to revive him again, Shin killed Bibidi. So now Buu's pod has just been on Earth this entire time. The ultimate, it's just been this way the whole time. Shin killed Bibidi, and now Babidi is here to try to get enough energy to get Majin Buu to be revived again.
Bibbidi bobbidi boo, skibbity bobbidi boo. Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
Nice.
Skibbity Biden. Yeah.
Majin Buu, Bobbity's reviving Majin Buu.
Videl decides, I'm getting in over my head right now, I need to leave. But before she does, she asks Gohan a question. She saw tapes of the recordings of the Cell fight, and she saw a kid, and she figures, hey Gohan, were you that kid? And Gohan says, yes, I was. And then she realizes, oh, I get it. My father didn't beat Cell. It was actually you guys, right? And Gohan says, yes, it was. And she's happy that she finally learned the truth. And as they fly off, Videl hopes that Gohan makes it out okay, because as she says, if he comes back alive, she's gonna ask him out on a date, which is very wholesome.
The gang continue forward and make it to Babidi's ship.
They look around the area and they see this is another just like, oh my god, why is this so graphic? Look at the second to the left bottom panel of just woman cut in half, man without an arm, dead child. What the hell am I looking at right now? This is insane. They notice somebody stepping out of the ship, and it is Babidi, who's the little scrotum head guy, but he's not alone, because next to him is a guy named Dabra, and he is the Demon King. He is the Lord of the Demon Realm, which is a thing that exists. There's a whole other realm of reality where demons live, and Dabra is the king of that realm. And if you wanted to learn more about that, this is literally never addressed again in the entire manga. He just casually drops this idea of this totally other plane of existence. Funnily enough, though, recently there was a new Dragon Ball series called Dragon Ball DAIMAO, which was the 40th anniversary series, where we get to actually explore the demon realm. It's called the Makai, or demon realm. But at the time, we didn't know what the hell it was, so it's just this random thing that he just mentions. What the hell do you mean demon realm?
It was just 30 years of setup.
By the way, Dabra's name, Dabuda. Abuda Dabura. They're all magic words, so Dabura.
I like Bobbity's pube hair.
Babidi takes the energy from Spopovich and Yamu, who both get murdered for their troubles. Dabura kills Kibito, petrifies Kuririn and Piccolo, and the gang head inside the ship. Vegeta dispatches Pui Pui, and Goku fights Yakon.
But during this, Vegeta caught a little glimpse of something, and he realizes that Goku may have been able to actually secretly reach the level of Ascended Super Saiyan that Gohan did. So that's something that Goku has up his sleeve right now.
Before Gohan faces Dabura, Mr. Satan posits a battle royale with the remaining Budokai participants, including number 18 and Mighty Mask.
But then she realizes because they're talking to each other that they're Goten and Trunks. So she throws a Kienzan looking thing. I guess you learned that from Kuririn. Goten and Trunks fly away from each other and then they run away and then they're disqualified because they were teaming.
It's really cute that she used the Kienzan. You know, they say couples rub off on each other.
Christian, am I hearing you correctly? Couples rub one out on each other?
Both are correct.
He heard him perfectly well.
Number 18 keeps Mr. Satan's secret, Gohan fights Dabura, and Vegeta gets impatient.
Vegeta takes note of the fact that, again, Gohan is weaker than he used to, and he's getting mad that Goku is wasting his precious time on Earth. And Dabura says, you know what, I'm just gonna head out. So he tells Babidi, hey, I have an idea as to somebody that we could bring to our side. So he uses his magic, and he invades Vegeta's mind. He basically possesses Vegeta, and now Vegeta is working under Babidi now. People call him Majin Vegeta, but that's not really his name, it's just Vegeta, but now he has the M on his head.
Vegeta blows up the stands, forcing Goku into a confrontation, and Babidi starts gathering their energy.
So Vegeta and Goku start to fight, and we see that Vegeta has also now, with the new power boost he got from Babidi, is able to reach the Ascended Super Saiyan form that Gohan did. So now Goku and Vegeta are fighting at full power, while Gohan and Shin try to stop Boo from being resurrected. The output of the fight is so aggressive that it just brings Boo to full power. So Boo is about to be unleashed any second now. Vegeta finally explains everything. He realizes that Goku was way too strong, and that there was a gap between them that he just simply couldn't pass. And it's revealed that Vegeta willingly let himself be taken over by Babidi, specifically so that he could become strong enough to fight Goku. Because, as he says, he wanted to return to the cold-hearted Saiyan that he used to be. He hated how Goku's influence was making him softer, and he just needed to become evil again. But Goku doesn't really buy that he fully is into this evil plan.
Vegeta be like, I have made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment.
Gohan tries to stop Majin Buu from being awoken, and he blasts the pod as hard as he can, and it breaks the pod open, and then all that comes out of the pod is smoke. All of the smoke is coalescing, and it is turning into Majin Buu, and we finally get to see what Buu looks like, and he's this big, pudgy guy. Not really what you'd expect Majin Buu to actually look like, but that's what he is.
The genie aesthetic.
Babidi and Dabura are surprised because they're like, this is Majin Buu, like, why does he look so stupid? And then Kaioshin says, it is Majin Buu, because there is no way that he could forget such a terrifying face. It's also worth noting, remember how I said a while ago that Toriyama bases his villains off of his editors? If Torishima was Piccolo and Kondo was Frieza, then Takeda is Majin Buu.
Dabura attacks Boo, and Boo gets revenge.
The bruh, yeah.
During this whole situation, Vegeta and Goku sense the new power that is awoken, and they realize, oh shit, this is actually really bad. We can still fix this if we work together to beat Boo. So Vegeta says, fine, whatever, just give me a Senzu Bean, we'll work together. And then as Goku is giving him a Senzu Bean, Vegeta knocks him out. And then he says to himself, I am the one who brought this upon everybody by going into my selfish desires. I will fight Boo alone.
Man, Vegeta's a little fucking bitch. I kind of hate this guy.
To be fair, he is doing this specifically so that Goku will not stop him from fighting Boo, because he thinks it's his responsibility.
Yeah, but why don't they just fight together? Why, like, just shut the fuck up. Just gang up. Goddamn.
Boo attacks Kaioshin, Gohan is left unconscious, and Vegeta confronts Boo.
Trunks shows up, he kicks Boo away and says, Dad, I'm here to help. And then during this entire situation, this has given Piccolo the perfect opportunity to just show up behind Babidi and just chop him in half. Vegeta says, Trunks, I've realized something. Despite being your father for 8 years, I have never once hugged you. So he pulls Trunks in, and then he chops him on the neck, and it makes him faint. He does the same thing to Goten, too. Yes, very funny. And Piccolo comes, and he collects the children, and he knows exactly what's going to happen next, because Vegeta plans to die. So he flies off with the kids, but before he does, Vegeta asks Piccolo a question. He says, will I be able to see Goku in the afterlife? And Piccolo just lays it out for him. He says, no, you won't. Goku went to heaven. You've killed too many people. You are going to go to hell. Your soul will be purified, and you will be reincarnated as a new person. And Vegeta doesn't change his mind. He says, well, so be it. If that's what it's going to be, in order for me to take out Majin Buu, I'm going to do it. So he starts powering up. And Kuririn asks Piccolo, what's going on? And then, really great line, one of my favorites in the entire series. Piccolo says that for the first time in his life, Vegeta is fighting for something other than himself. So Vegeta says goodbye to Bulma, he says goodbye to Trunks, and he even says goodbye to Kakarot as he explodes and releases all this energy from him, completely eclipsing this entire horizon and killing himself in the process of trying to take out Buu. Vegeta's body is just this husk of energy. He expended everything, and now he's just kind of turns into dust and he just fades away. So Vegeta is officially dead.
He detonated the ray sphere.
And he's unfortunately not a conduit, so he won't come back from this.
No!
Boo regenerates, reluctantly heals Babidi, and Kaioshin finds Gohan's body.
city. So Goku's at the palace, and he talks to the whole gang about what to do next. At this point, everybody thinks that Gohan is dead, and that Goku alone won't be able to beat Boo. And this is terrible, because if either Gohan or Vegeta were alive, Goku could use his new technique. He explains that when he was dead, he met these guys from planet Metamor, and he taught him a technique that allows him to perform fusion. He wants to be able to teach Goten and Trunks how to perform this technique. So they're about to enact their plan, but then the sky goes dark, and they realize, oh shit, the only way that this could have happened is if Shenlong has been summoned. Turns out the gang at Capsule Corp have summoned Shenlong, and it's because they're trying to use the wish in order to revive everybody that died at the tournament. So Goku says, crap, we need to save the Dragon Balls until after we get rid of Boo, so that we have an opportunity to fix things if shit really goes down.
The first wish has been made, and the populace is revived. Among them is Kibito, who finds Kaioshin and Gohan, as Goku calls off the other two wishes.
I don't know if I'm stumbling into something, but a wish has been made on Shenlong, revive all the people except for the bad ones. So that means if Gohan died, he's alive again, right? Like, he has to be.
We'll talk about that in a little bit. We'll talk about that a little later. So anyway,
Boo starts systematically eating cities, and Shin takes Gohan to the Kaioshin realm. Gohan starts training with the Z-Sword, and Goku starts teaching fusion.
but the kids are not about it, because they're like, hey Goku, while Gohan was dying, which they all think Gohan is dead, even though he totally shouldn't be.
And they should know that he's not dead.
Yes, exactly. They should know that Gohan is not dead, but nobody bothers to question it. Because either he didn't die, and there's therefore alive, or died and then was brought back with the Dragon Balls, but nobody questions that. They all just assume for the rest of the arc that Gohan is dead. Either way, the important part, Goten and Trunks say, hey Goku, while Gohan was dying and while Vegeta was dying, your ass was just passed out. Like, what the hell were you doing? Why should we trust you? And Goku's like, hey, reason enough to not trust me? I understand you don't know who I am. So Babidi calls out once again and says, hey, somebody told us that they know Trunks and that he lives in the West City. So we're going to go to the West City and we're going to blow it up. And this is a big problem because the Dragon Radar is in West City. So Goku realizes, I am going to distract Boo while Trunks goes back to Capsule Corp and gets the radar. He teleports to Babidi, and then he has a little chat with Boo, and he starts explaining the different levels of Super Saiyan. So Goku is obviously just trying to waste time, but he decides to make a little game out of it and tries to show off to Boo. He starts out in his base form, and then he transforms into regular Super Saiyan. Then he turns into the Ascended Super Saiyan form, which he basically just offhandedly says, think of it as a Super Saiyan 2. So if this is the form above Super Saiyan, then this is the form beyond even that. So he starts powering up, the earth starts shaking, everyone is in awe of how strong he is, and he reaches a new level. He has transformed into this new form that he got through training in the afterlife called Super Saiyan 3. And people make fun of it because it doesn't have eyebrows, but look at how incredible this page spread is. You're stupid if you don't think it looks cool.
The one on the left, yeah, that panel is like, I mean, Toriyama's art is just great. Like, regardless of the art style, he's just an incredible artist.
Goku's been revived by the one day wish thing. Can't they just do that with Vegeta and him and Vegeta confuse, like, for 30 minutes and fuck some shit up?
I mean, Vegeta's dead, and he's probably in hell right now. So, by the way, Goku was lying out of his ass when he said that he was fighting at full strength against Vegeta before, because now we have Super Saiyan 3. Guess what? This wasn't planned, so that's a retroactive plot hole. So anyway, Goku says, hey, you know what? I've entertained you enough. Trunks has gotten the radar. He's gonna go back to the palace now. But then he tells Boo, for somebody so strong, you shouldn't be listening to people that you don't like. And then he teleports away. And that gives Boo a little idea. So he says, hey, Babidi, I want to tell you a secret. Come in close. And so he comes in, and then he grabs Babidi's neck. Boo is done taking orders from other people. So he pulls back his fist, and he punches Babidi's head off.
More gruesome fucking violence. His head is just like a stump spouting blood.
That's part of the appeal of Boo, is the juxtaposition of this fucking goofy guy being a mass murdering maniac.
Literally a man baby.
Goku is running out of time, so he quickly demonstrates the fusion technique.
And it is a very silly looking dance. The whole joke with fusion is that it is obtain ultimate power by doing a stupid little dance. And nobody takes him seriously. And fun fact, actually, you'll notice the actual dance uses the English word fusion. He says fusion ha with each of the different poses, as opposed to the Japanese word for fusion, which I think is gatai. And this is why I'm so anal about using different terminology to refer to the different kinds of character combinations, like the Namekian assimilation, and then there's the fusion dance, because they specifically say it in English. Also, I love imagining the idea of Toriyama like doing these poses in real life when trying to think of what to come up with for the panels. I just love that mental image so much.
Goku returns to the afterlife and stays with Gohan as he trains with the Z-Sword.
And Goku wants to test it out. He's going to throw a boulder at it. Kaioshin decides to one-up it. He's going to throw a giant block of Kachin, which is the hardest metal in the universe. So Goku throws the block, and it cracks the sword in half. I guess the sword was a little overrated. And this obviously shocks everybody, because what the hell is going on? This isn't supposed to happen. This is not how power scaling is supposed to work. Gohan realizes, well, maybe if the sword was bad, maybe it was the fact that I was training with it and it was heavy that was the deal. But that's not true either, because the real secret of the Z-Sword is that there was an old man living inside of it. So there's just this guy who just came out of the Z-Sword because he was sealed in it. But he isn't just any old man. He is the Kaioshin from 15 generations in the past. So a long time ago, he was sealed in the Z-Sword by some random evil guy, and now he has finally been released, and he has a special power that he is going to use on Gohan. But he doesn't want to do it for free. So Goku says, hey, if I can rely on anything in regards to old people, it's the fact that they are perverts. So I'm going to give up Bulma and say, hey, you could feel Bulma up if you let Gohan do this thing. And of course, because he's an old man, he is like, this is awesome. There you go. And Gohan calls him out for actual sexual harassment. That actually is the thing that happened.
I missed this.
Dancing.
So anyway, as Paul so graciously showcased, the actual ritual is just that the Elder Kaioshin is going to walk around Gohan for the next 24 hours. And that's going to be the new way that he gets stronger. So he's going to get really comfy, and back on Earth, they're going to keep training to fight Boo. Speaking of which, Boo, on one of his killing sprees, he encounters a tiny little child. Now, the thing with this kid is that he's blind. Boo tries to scare him, but it doesn't work because the kid can't see. So Boo figures, if you can't see me and you're not scared, I may as well heal you. So he heals the kid's blindness. By the way, this is crazy. I swear to God he says this. The kid explains that he is blind, and Boo literally says, stupid, your eyes are closed. That's literally what he says. So that's just, yeah, just open your eyes, man.
Like, how are you deaf? Just listen.
So he heals the kid's blindness so that the kid will be scared of Boo. But of course, the kid isn't. He's ecstatic that he no longer has this debilitating problem with his life. So he sits down with Boo and they just start to talk. The kid was going to get milk, but all the stores were closed. Boo flies off to a nearby city, turns a guy into milk, flies back to the kid, gives the kid the milk, then flies back to the city and blows it up. I might be jumping the gun a little bit here, but I think Majin Boo might be my favorite villain in the entire franchise just because he is so insanely funny and just so crazy.
Goten and Trunks fail fusion a couple times, but we at least learn his name, Gotenks. While somewhat unbalanced in English, in Japanese it couldn't be more perfect, taking Goten's go, te, Trunks's ku, su, and keeping the shared n.
This is the first fourth wall break in I have no idea how long, but Canadian specifically criticizes Toriyama for photocopying panels. You'll look in that little panel right there, you see Toribot just apologizing to the editor for having to get paid for a page that he just photocopied.
Oh yeah, I see it.
The boys continue training as Earth's inhabitants continue to fall.
A full day has passed since Boo was resurrected. It's been a full 24 hours. And in that time, 80% of the Earth's population has been destroyed. But there is still hope because there is one man that is still yet to make his presence known, and that is Mr. Satan. He is here to fight Boo. And this is probably the single greatest, funniest chapter in the entire series. It's kind of difficult to explain why, but it's basically comprised of Mr. Satan trying to one-up Boo by doing a bunch of random bullshit. But Boo is magic, so it just nothing affects him. And Boo thinks that Mr. Satan is funny, so he makes him his slave. While this is all happening, we shift perspective. We see a couple that is walking down the street, and without any warning, the wife gets shot in the head. And the reason is that we have these two guys here that realize Boo is killing everybody on the planet right now. We're just two evil thugs. Why don't we just kill the people that we want to kill? Let's just have fun. Because if anybody else dies, they're just going to be blamed on Boo.
They're like playing the most dangerous game, basically, just because they can. The world has just descended into like nihilism.
Piccolo Day moment.
But like way better than that.
So Boo, he flew off to go kill more people, but then he returns early, and it's because he's holding something. He found a little puppy, and just like the blind kid, he doesn't understand why the puppy isn't running away from him. And Mr. Satan realizes it's because the puppy has a broken leg. So Boo heals it, and the puppy gets endeared to Boo. And then Boo realizes, hey, you know what? Maybe killing people isn't so awesome all the time. So Mr. Satan asks Boo the all-important question. Why exactly does Boo kill people? And Boo just explains it. He says because Bibbidi and Bobbidi told him that that's what he should be doing. That it's fun. Literally, he thought it would make him laugh, and it did. That's literally the reason why he is killing people. And then Satan says, well, you shouldn't listen to bad people, and that maybe you shouldn't kill people anymore. And so Boo agrees. He's not going to kill people anymore. It's as simple as that. He agrees with Mr. Satan that, hey, if you think killing people is wrong, I won't do it anymore. That's it.
This honestly reminds me of like all the way back in the second arc, Namu's whole like kind of trying to get money so he could buy water, and then they're just like, oh, it's free. Nobody thought to just tell Boo like, hey, don't do that, that's bad. You know, like nobody just thought to tell him that. And then he's just, okay, that's it. Like I love that. That's classic Toriyama right there.
It's a really good arc for Mr. Satan. I think he put all of his special points into charisma, and that's clearly showing.
So they figure, hey, we just had this massive revelation. Boo is just gonna not kill people anymore. We're gonna play fetch with the puppy. So they're having fun, puppy's running around, and then boom, the gunmen show up and shoot the puppy. And I have to mention this. At the start of this specific chapter, there was a reference to a real-world book called A Dog of Flanders that Mr. Satan was reading to Boo. The plot of the book, it is about a boy who is friends with a dog. It's a tragedy where at the end, they freeze to death together on Christmas Eve near a church. It is a very heart-wrenching story, and Boo thinks it's really funny because he's so desensitized to death. The fact that this chapter then ends on Boo facing the reality of a dog's death that's just insane. How did he come up with that? That is like one of the most genius things I've seen in all of Dragon Ball.
Chapter starts with him laughing at a dog's death. Chapter ends with him witnessing a dog's death himself, and he's not laughing. Character development, baby. There it is.
However, it's not all bad, because before Boo has even time to process what the hell is going on, Mr. Satan ambushes the gunman. He jumps up to where they are and he punches them and he just beats them all up because he's endeared himself to Boo.
The puppy's okay.
The puppy is actually okay. The dog was shot, but it isn't dead. So he runs over to the dog and he heals it. But then something else happens because one of the gunmen get back up and he shoots Mr. Satan in the back. And this is enough to put Boo over. He's just not taking this anymore. He heals Mr. Satan. He runs up to him. He uses his little magic healing hands, but he says, you gotta run away because something is happening to me. I don't know what it is, but something is happening and you will die. So you need to take the puppy and run. Satan doesn't really get it, but he just does what Boo says anyway. So Boo starts getting really upset and he emanates all of the smoke and it manifests into something. Another Majin Boo. His anger manifested itself as a different version. So now the Fat Boo, the original one, is purely good. This one is a manifestation of Boo's hatred and evil. It's also worth noting that all of the forms of Majin Boo are called Majin Boo. There's never any official names given to these other forms, but for the sake of it, I will refer to them by their fan names. People call this guy Evil Boo generally, and the other guy Fat Boo. I like to call it plus size model Boo and unrealistic beauty standard Boo, but that's just my thing. So,
Nice.
So anyway, the Evil Boo and the Fat Boo start to fight, and because Boo was more evil than he was good, the evil half is stronger. Fat Boo shoots a beam at Evil Boo to turn him into chocolate, but then Evil Boo blows the beam back at him and turns him into chocolate. Then he eats the chocolate and gains the power of the Fat Boo, and by doing this, he undergoes another transformation, and he becomes a lot more sleek looking, and people call this form Super Boo. But don't get it twisted, he is just as insane as he was before, because the first thing that he does is liquefy himself, jump into the other gunman's mouth, and then blow him up from the inside.
That's what I'm talking about with the fucking gore. Just like, why?
Is this like the Vor arc?
This is the Vor arc, yes, you are correct. With this new Boo, his first plan of action is that he's going to kill everybody that's in the surrounding area, so he rushes to Mr. Satan, but before he does, he realizes, hey, there's still a little thing in my mind that tells me that Mr. Satan is a good guy. So I'm just gonna keep him there, he's my friend, I'll let him live, but then he flies straight to God's palace, because, as Piccolo says in this hilariously disgusting panel in the top left, just this massive Cobson face that he's making, this Boo knows how to sense ki.
True.
Piccolo buys time while the kids master fusion, and Boo eradicates the rest of the population, sends Mr. Satan, the puppy, and Tenshinhan and Chaozu. Boo enters the Room of Spirit and Time and faces Gotenks.
Gotenks is basically spending too much time showing off instead of actually using his big attack. He's doing all this just to make Piccolo sweat, because he thinks it's funny. Woe is me, it's all hopeless, I used my full power and nothing's happening. And as he's doing this, Piccolo blows up the entrance to the Room of Spirit and Time. He thinks that everything is hopeless, so he just figured, hey, let's just trap us in here forever. And then Gotenks reveals, I was holding on something, I was just trying to make this dramatic. And Piccolo says, you fucking idiot, why would you do that? We're now stuck in here forever. Boo is so utterly devastated at the fact that he won't be able to eat candy anymore. He screams so goddamn loud. He rees so unbelievably hard that it tears a hole in space-time. He makes a hole that exits out of the Room of Spirit and Time, and he jumps through it. But then it shrinks, and now Boo is out on the surface, and Piccolo and Gotenks are stuck in the Room of Spirit and Time. And now Piccolo makes the revelation that while minutes pass out here, hours pass outside. There you go. That's what he says. So they need to figure out what to do while Boo has all the time in the world to kill all the people outside. So they start charging up and trying to make enough power to open up a new hole. So as he does, Gotenks reveals his new special power, and it's that he discovered Super Saiyan 3. The Gotenks knows how to do Super Saiyan 3 just from seeing Goku do it, I guess. And he yells so hard that he tears his own hole in space-time, and then he jumps through it. They ask Boo, hey, what happened? And Boo said, while you guys were in the Room of Spirit and Time, I ate and killed everybody. Bulma's dead. Yamcha's dead. Kiriri, number 18. Little baby Maron is dead. Muten, Roshi, DAIMAO, Mr. Popo, they are all dead. The entire cast of the series just died off screen. There's a cool scene in the anime where they show all of that happening, which is a very important moment, but we don't get to see it in the manga, so hopefully you didn't want to see that.
Gotenks fights Boo, but his fusion doesn't last long. Gohan's ritual is finished at the most dramatic moment, and he returns to Earth to defeat Boo.
And we finally get to see Boo on the ropes, and this is the single greatest moment in the entire series. I swear to God, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Gohan is fighting Boo. He appears right behind him, and then he says, over here, and then and Boo looks at him, and Gohan just looks him dead in the eye and says, "You retard." He literally just calls Boo retarded. The official subtitles of the anime say, "You retard." Viz translated it as slowpoke, which is nowhere near as fun.
Boo escapes, and the gang finds Satan and Dende.
And it's at this point where Piccolo corrects the mistake that he made. He realizes that he was actually wrong about the fact that time was inverted to what the actual rules of the Room of Spirit and Time is, i.e. Toriyama made a mistake and is now writing into the actual series that it was Piccolo that made the mistake, not him.
This is where Takeda being a lax editor really kind of shows. This is like all the shit that should have been on like the cutting room floor.
Boo comes back with a plan, absorbs Piccolo and Gotenks, and new main character Gohan is reduced to another swing in the endless game of power tennis.
And Goku realizes, well, we're screwed. The whole universe is going to die. We're just totally fucked. It sucks that I can't go back. And then the Elder Kaioshin says, hey, you know what? I actually have a way of allowing you to go back to life. And it's if I transfer my remaining life force onto you. So he does. They all go silent. The Elder Kaioshin dies, and Goku comes back to life. And then he tells the Elder Kaioshin, I will make sure that I don't waste this life. And then the Elder Kaioshin gets back up because he's already in the afterlife and says, you better not waste my life. So go back to Earth and beat Boo.
Where did this just random goofy-ass character just come from?
He was sealed in the Z-Sword by some guy, and he has the power to walk around you for 24 hours. That's a really interesting concept for a character.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Toriyama.
Goku prepares to leave, and the Elder Kaioshin gives him the Potara earrings, which Shin and Kibito demonstrate by permanently combining.
Also, this is interesting. This specific form of fusion does use the Japanese word gatai. So I translate it as merging. Goku teleports to Earth with the two Potara in tow, but there's another person there because Tenshinhan managed to find these guys and save the day. He blasts Boo away to try to stop him from all fighting, and then Boo kicks him in the face, and then he just gets downed immediately. So it's like, all right.
I like the bullets.
Boo absorbs Gohan, and Goku desperately needs someone to merge with. At that moment, Vegeta gets his one-day pass.
And now he just says, hey, Vegeta, no time to think, take this Potara. Also, this is pretty awesome. We are on the last volume. This is volume 42. This is the beginning of the last volume of the series. Vegeta's like, well, I don't want to have to merge with you. But then Goku plays to pathos, and he says, hey, Trunks is dead. Bulma's dead. If we don't do this right now, this is going to suck.
This is gonna suck. He says that exactly, right? That's what he says.
They do it, and they merge, and they become the ultimate new warrior, this guy. And you'll notice, because this is a Potara merging as opposed to the fusion dance, it actually combines their clothes. And he immediately powers up into Super Saiyan. And he says, hey, I need a name. I'm combining Vegeta and Kakarot. What would that make it? It would naturally be Vegetto, which makes perfect sense. I don't see any problems with that. But just for shits and giggles, let's explain what the hell this name even means. So Vegetto's name is a combination of Vegeta, or Vegeta, and Kakaroto. So the reason why this name makes no sense at all is because Kakarot's name, it's spelled with the little glottal stop there, which tells you to emphasize the last syllable of the word. That doesn't exist in English. His name is Beji, glottal stop, To. They both get 2 kana each, but it's heavily weighed towards Vegeta's name. They combine into Vegito. The problem is that we don't say Kakaroto, we say Kakarot. So that means the adequate way of spelling the name would be Vegete, V-E-G-E-T. That doesn't make any goddamn sense. So this is just something that we have to kind of accept and allow it to just be V-E-G-E-T-T-O, Vegetto. The Viz manga said, screw that, I'm just gonna make up a new name for him, V-E-G-E-R-O-T, Vegerot, and then the dub spells it with an I, which I have no idea how they even got that. So you might be thinking, why even bother trying to combine the names Vegeta and Kakaroto? Why not Vegeta and Goku? There's a lot of different ways that you could interpret those specific things, right? There's Veku, Kujita, Vejiku, or most obviously Gogeta. So why didn't they go with Gogeta? Well, that is because at around the time that this plot development was happening in the manga, the 12th Dragon Ball Z movie, Fusion Reborn, had recently premiered. And in it, there's a monster who is causing trouble in hell. And Goku and Vegeta need to fuse into Gogeta in order to win the day. So Toei beat Toriyama to the punch in regards to this. They have a movie where Goku and Vegeta are dead in the afterlife and use the fusion dance to become a character named Gogeta, which makes a lot more sense. It's also why this very arbitrary method of fusion exists. Toriyama needed a new form of character combining and came up with the Potara merging. And as you'll notice, this is clearly not planned because these earrings that are supposedly really important, Shin had a panel previously where he was drawn with hoop earrings. It was clearly not a thing on Toriyama's mind. Either way, Toriyama didn't want to step on Toei's toes, or maybe just wanted his own interpretation of the events, so he decided to make a new character of Vegetto.
Vegetto fights Boo and gets turned into candy.
But because he's so incredibly strong, he maintains control even as a piece of candy and just starts beating the hell out of Boo. Now, unfortunately, this is the death nail for a specific argument that we've been making since the beginning, and that is Toninjinka, the Karatizer Bunny, unfortunately does not solo the entire candy. This is not a thing that can happen, because if he were to turn you into a carrot, Vegetto would just be able to fight anyway. So I guess Vegetto actually is stronger than him.
Vegetto lets Boo absorb him, and the bad air within him causes Goku and Vegeta to separate. You know what? Sure, he's magic. They find the pods of their friends, as well as the Fat Boo. Vegeta severs it, and Boo undergoes another transformation.
Interestingly enough, this is actually Boo's original form. When Boo attacked the Kaioshin realm, he looked like this. He absorbed a bunch of the different Kaioshin, one of them being the Dai Kaioshin, who, again, we're adding gods on top of gods on top of other gods, who he absorbed and then gained the niceness of. But now that that has been severed from him, he's just the original pure evil Boo. And a lot of people call him either Pure Boo or Kid Boo. Most people say Kid Boo. I'll just call him Kid Boo. So Kid Boo is like, well, I don't really feel like being on this planet anymore. So he raises his hand to the sky and he shoots a beam at the planet. And Vegeta just barely manages to stop him from doing that. But Boo, he gets a little shit-eating grin on his face and he just launches another ball at the planet anyway. And now the Earth is in imminent danger of blowing up any second. So Goku is freaking out. He tries flying around, collecting everybody that he can. He manages to get Mr. Satan and Dende, but he just barely can't reach his friends. As Kaioshin comes in, grabs him, teleports him to the Kaioshin realm as the Earth explodes and everybody dies.
The survivors are taken to the Kaioshin realm, and Boo follows them there. Goku turns Super Saiyan 3, and Vegeta watches from the sidelines.
And here we have a very important moment of Vegeta's character development where he reflects upon himself. He looks on to Goku and he just thinks to himself that this guy really is truly remarkable. He doesn't understand what really is so special about him, and he was trying to think about just why Goku is such an awesome guy. And at first it's because he thought that it was the fact that he had people that he wanted to protect. But that isn't true, because Vegeta has those people now too. Then he realizes that it's because Goku works for the betterment of himself. He isn't interested in proving himself to anyone else, he just wants to be the best person that he can be. Whereas Vegeta has always been in his own head trying to prove his superiority over others. And it should frustrate him. He should be really upset that there's a Saiyan out there who's better than him, who's stronger than him, that is totally okay with loving people and being kind, but he just accepts it. Accepts the fact that Goku is better than him, and he says that you're number one, Kakarot.
Vegeta fights Kid Boo, who spits up the Fat Boo, and Vegeta comes up with a plan.
Calls out to Kaioshin and Dende, and he asks them to collect those Dragon Balls, because he has an idea. He wants to use the first wish to bring back the planet Earth, and the second to revive everyone except for the bad guys. So Kaioshin teleports to New Namek with Dende, and as it's revealed, they actually upgraded the Namekian dragon, so it's cool now, guys. We actually can just revive more than one person at a time with Porunga, so that's pretty convenient. Goku asks what was Vegeta's plan, why is he doing all this kind of stuff? He wants Goku to use a Genki Dama, because Goku has done so much to save the planet himself, it's time that other people do the saving for him. But the thing is, Goku can do this, but the Earthlings need to opt into it. You can't just steal the energy from them. So the wishes are made, and the Earth is restored. The Dragon Team is revived as well, everybody's back, and then, interestingly, Vegeta is included in the wish. I guess Porunga or Shenlong or whatever decided that Vegeta is no longer evil enough to not be included in that wish.
Goku starts gathering energy, and his friends start to chip in.
Including Upa and Bora from Karin Sanctuary, Snow and Hachan from Jingle Village, and of all characters, number 17. Look at Dragon Ball's history, look at all these amazing guys that we've seen so far. And it's also kind of a weird plot hole in regards to the fact that number 17 never met Goku. And it's because the original intention for the scene was for number 17's panel to be about lunch. It was going to be lunch saying that she recognized Goku's voice. But Toriyama changed his mind. That is evidence that Toriyama did not forget about lunch. He was going to include it here and then just willingly decided not to.
It's so wholesome to see these characters from the series distant past at this point, but also I think putting number 17 there instead of lunch makes it so it's a bit of a newer character compared to Upa and Bora.
This would be very like classic Dragon Ball coded, like the first couple volumes of a Dragon Ball, as opposed to the whole series. Even though Goku got some people on his side, most of the populace is still not going to help. Then Mr. Satan expresses his frustration and yells to the sky, "Why is it that you guys just won't listen?" And then everybody on Earth hears him and realizes, oh my god, it's actually Mr. Satan that's fighting Boo. And Mr. Satan says, well, I may as well go along with it. Yes, it is me who is fighting Boo, and I need your energy. You need to raise your hands to the sky, and we're gonna give the energy. So everybody gives their Genki, and the Genki Dama becomes massive. It is just absolutely gigantic. But Goku can't throw it, because Vegeta is in the way. Mr. Satan, the goat that he is, runs in the way of the Genki Dama, grabs Vegeta, and then runs away and tells Goku to just throw the thing. And then we get one of the best lines in the entire series, where Goku thanks Mr. Satan and says that he really is the world's champion. Excellent full circle moment for that character. So he throws the Genki Dama, and Boo starts to resist it, and it looks like Goku just won't have enough energy, but then Dende remembers that Porunga still has one wish left, so they use the last to restore his stamina back to full, and he uses that remaining energy to become Super Saiyan and blast the Genki Dama back down. But as he's doing it, he says, hey, you fought really well on your own. It's such a waste that you'll just die here. So do me a favor, reincarnate as a good guy so that you can come back and fight me again someday. But until then, goodbye. Pushes the ball down, and it eclipses Boo, and it kills him for good. Majin Buu was dead, and the Earth saved. So everybody collects themselves, getting on the Earth to celebrate. But there's a little thing I noticed. Dende goes to heal Goku, but then he asks him to heal Vegeta first, and then Dende does it without even thinking. If you remember back in the Frieza arc, it needed to be proven to Dende that it was worth healing Vegeta, but now he's totally fine with doing it, just because of how much Vegeta has grown.
Mr. Satan vouches for the Fat Boo, and Vegeta allows him to stay on Earth. The gang use the Dragon Balls to erase the world's memory of Boo, and everyone lives happily ever after.
And then we jump 10 years into the future. It's been 10 years of peacetime, and everybody is coming back together again. You see, Gohan has become a scholar. Trunks is grown up again. And Videl and Gohan have gotten married. And now they're all coming back together after 10 years of complete peacetime. Nothing has happened. There was never movies. There was never any TV shows. It was just 10 pure years of complete peacetime. Nothing has happened at all. In fact, Bulma asks Goku why he hasn't visited in 5 years, and that will never be contradicted. And now they're all reconvening today for the sake of heading to the 28th Tenkaichi Budokai. Now, Vegeta doesn't think it's worth going, but Goku wants to go because he wants to meet somebody special. Because recently he's been keeping track of a powerful ki that he sensed on Earth. We get introduced to all these new characters and their new designs and such, as well as a new face. Gohan and Videl had a daughter, and her name is Pan. Now, Pan is the Japanese word for bread. It comes from Old Portuguese. It's just the word for bread. It's just pronounced pan in the context of Japanese.
In Latin, it was panis. It's where we get pancake from.
The way that the word evolved is that pan gradually turned into pan over time. Pan means bread. Bread, cakes, pancakes, whatever. So technically there is a good argument to call this character Pan instead of Pan, because that's how we interpret the name in English, but I've always just said Pan because it's what I'm used to. Alongside Pan, we also see that Bulma and Vegeta had another child named Bra, who will never even have her name ever stated in the entire series, and she's also not important. And the dog is named Be. The joke is that it's a syllable away from Boo, which is where Boo's name comes from.
They head backstage, and Boo rigs the matches in Goku's favor.
And his name is Ubu. Boo. Boo. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Just like what Goku asked for, is the reincarnation of Majin Boo. So his name is Oob. So the tournament begins, and Goku squares up against Oob, and Goku realizes just how much potential this little Oob kid has. He sees Oob's secret power and realizes, hey, I want to train this kid. However, this kid is poor, and he has a family, so Goku, if he wants to train him, has to leave his family so that he can head to Oob's village to train him. He just flies off to the rest of the gang. He says, right now, I'm just going to take this kid, and we're going to fly off into the horizon, and he's going to be my new little buddy. And everybody doesn't understand why he's doing this, but Vegeta and Piccolo do. Because as Goku heads off, he declares just how fun it is to meet strong people, and he realizes that that's the reason why they're doing this, is because Goku, his drive as an individual is to get stronger, and now his journey of getting to this point in his life, he's now rewarded by the physical manifestation of his desire to get stronger with Oob. He jumps on his back and they fly off into the horizon, and that is the end of Dragon Ball. Now, we get this little narration box where Toriyama tells us this nice little doodad where he says, tackle life with just as much energy as Goku. And that's really, really wholesome. Like I said, it's the end of the series, except it's totally not, because there's this whole other ending that Toriyama retroactively put into the series. In the early 2000s, the manga was re-released in Japan, what was called the Kanzenban, or the Complete Edition, where it basically just changed up the cover art, condensed the volumes into less numbers. But bizarrely, it included a different ending. It also had some other stuff. The biggest difference is that Goku summons Kinto in for Oob, which I didn't realize it's his to give away, but okay. And the narration credits Earth's safety to the Dragon Team instead of the Dragon Balls. And all those are fine and dandy. That's pretty cool, right? But then the final Toriyama message is replaced by a shot of Vegeta grumbling about wanting to surpass Goku. For one, it's backwards character development. He should be over this. He explained that Goku is better than him already. And second, it replaces the heartfelt message from the creator of the goddamn series. It's shit, it's cringe, I hate it. Hashtag not my Dragon Ball. So that is the Majin Buu arc, and in total, that is Dragon Ball in its entirety complete. I guess we'll talk about the Buu arc first, and then we'll get into Dragon Ball the series.
Yeah, there's a lot to like about that final arc. It's a fitting swan song for the series in a lot of ways. I think it definitely benefited from Toriyama being free from the reins of an impressive editor. It's got gag, comedy, and action-packed dark drama, frankly. It's tonal, whiplash-inducing juxtaposition, which in and of itself is kind of funny. I don't like how the new cast kind of gets thrown under the bus. Which is
for a story about the next generation, they certainly don't end up doing very much.
And for Goku and Vegeta, which is a dynamic we seemingly can't get enough of in the new era of Dragon Ball. Can I comment on the series at large now? I don't have much to say at all on that, but that's a good place to jump off though, because those early arcs, honestly, that's my preference for the series, is the earlier arcs, but I like the latter arcs as well. The Saiyan arc, the Buu arc, might sometimes look on the series with a critical eye. It is still one of the greatest manga series of all time, there's no question.
Absolutely. Toriyama is the GOAT forever and always.
The Buu saga's great. I just like how goofy, wacky waffle it is, you know? My favorite scene is obviously Buu and the blind kid.
Boo, I liked Boo. I liked it when he exploded that one guy.
I'm noticing a pattern.
Yes, every single thing that you like about Dragon Ball is just people dying.
It's just the violence. Yes, this is my favorite part. I know Steven Universe got mentioned a while ago, the greatest show. That has a lot of Dragon Ball references in it.
Pale imitation.
Yeah, basically.
True great series.
That's what I was gonna say. They're all just like shit compared to like the actual Dragon Ball. Seeing everything unfold in the actual series itself, I thought was pretty interesting, just giving a lot of context.
I'm glad you liked it. As Christian said, it's one of the greatest series ever made.
It's lit, sexual harassment is funny, justice for the Characterizer Bunny. I just love the series. It's unique. There's really nothing quite like it. It's hugely influential. So many series have gone and like kind of taken inspiration from Dragon Ball, but if you go back to like the actual original material, it still feels fresh, which I think is really impressive. Like, it's hard to go and look at something like Star Wars in 30 years of Star Wars influenced material, where it's like, oh, okay, this has kind of just been like surpassed. This is like obsolete. That is not the case with Dragon Ball at all.
This 101 has given me a newfound bigger appreciation for Dragon Ball. I owe a lot to it because it was part of my childhood at one point. Even if it was the Toonami dubs, it was still peak for me when I was a kid.
I mean, Dragon Ball is just Dragon Ball. Even when it's playing this like telephone game, it's still just good.
So, that is all of Dragon Ball, the main series, but there is still more to see. Dragon Ball did not end in 1995 with the original manga, so I'm going to briefly cover the post-manga works. So, first major thing was Dragon Ball GT, which is a what-if sequel that was animated by Toei Animation, and the general plot is that Goku becomes a child, and he searches for new Dragon Balls throughout the universe. It's kind of a throwback to the classic era of Dragon Ball. There's the 2008 OVA called Yo Son Goku and His Friends Return, which was written primarily by Toriyama, basically a direct-to-video reunion sequel that takes place after Boo. It's 2 years after the end of the Boo fight in that 10-year time skip. There are aliens named Abo and Avocado, that invade Earth, and it's revealed that Vegeta has a brother. Then there is Dragon Ball Online, which was an MMORPG. It's mostly bullshit, but Toriyama did write some stuff for Online that is hypothetically canon. It takes place 200 years into the future. Everybody that we know of is dead, and there are new races of people that exist everywhere. There's a bunch of new science, there's a bunch of new Majin characters, there's a new turtle school. Kuririn made a new crane school, that's Tenshinhan, and Gohan writes a book, The Science of Ki Control, that spreads the idea of ki control to the masses, which is the explanation as to how everybody in the future knows how to use ki. Most of this stuff was adapted into the Dragon Ball Xenoverse video game series, but not all of it. Afterwards, there were 2 revival movies that, again, take place in the 10-year time skip. The first one is called Battle of Gods, which is about Goku fighting a god of destruction, who's another god on top of a god. And then there's the sequel to that, Resurrection F, where Frieza is revived because fan service. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
I wrote an article about it if you want to know about how much it sucks.
So in 2014, there was a new manga called Jocko the Galactic Patrolman, which is a manga that was written by Toriyama. And the whole premise of it is that it's a guy named Jocko, who's a galactic patrolman, and he's arriving on Earth to stop an alien threat from invading the planet. And the hook of the ending, basically, there's a huge twist where it's revealed that the events of this manga are a prequel to Dragon Ball, and that the alien that is saving the Earth from is Goku. Goku is coming to Earth, Jocko tries to stop it, but he's an idiot and can't do it. They also meet a girl named Tights, who is Bulma's unmentioned sister. I love it because it manages to avoid the prequel pitfalls by making the fact that it's a prequel part of the twist. Included alongside Jocko, there was a special secret chapter called Dragon Ball Minus that is a retelling of Goku's origin story through Bardock, and it is so much worse. The less said about it, the better. In 2015, there was an ongoing manga series that technically isn't over yet, but it's on hiatus, called Dragon Ball Super, which continues the story left off from Resurrection F. There's new Dragon Balls, Goku fights a bunch of guys, establishes a multiverse, and there's a multiversal tournament. And then after that, there were 2 movies written by Toriyama, one called Dragon Ball Super Broly, where Goku and Vegeta fight a new Saiyan named Broly, which is actually a reboot of a old Dragon Ball Z movie, which is kind of interesting. And then there is Dragon Ball Super Superhero, which is about Gohan and Piccolo fighting back against new artificial humans that were made by the now defunct Red Ribbon Army. And it's really, really, really good. And then the most modern work is DAIMAO. More so than anything else, it is a direct sequel to the manga storyline. And in it, Goku explores the demon realm. And it also obliterates the continuity of Dragon Ball Super. So that's still kind of up in the air as to what exactly that's all about. So this is an interesting little time for Dragon Ball, because for the past 20 years, Dragon Ball has been getting consistent new content, which is bizarre in the sense that when Dragon Ball ended in 95, it had some other stuff, but then it went on hiatus for a good amount of time. Barring any potential announcements that have yet to be made, this is the first time since Dragon Ball's revival where there is no new Dragon Ball material being made. There's no new movies, there's no new manga.
Because of Toriyama's passing.
This is the first time in a very long time where Dragon Ball is over. Dragon Ball Super Superhero takes place months before the ending of Dragon Ball, before the ending of the time, so maybe like a year or so, but we really have done everything that we possibly can do. There's still elements of the Super manga that can be elaborated on, but if Dragon Ball were to end right now, it would kind of be okay. And personally, I kind of advocate for that. Let's just say this right now, right? I've done so much talking, God knows how many hours it's been. The real question is, now that I've explained all of this Dragon Ball stuff to you, is it worth going back and reading all of this shit yourself? And I say, absolutely. This is a series that is just incredible. It's one of the greatest works ever made. In fact, that's your homework. Go home, experience Dragon Ball, read the manga, watch the anime, do something that relates to this franchise, and get a deeper appreciation of one of the greatest things that one of the greatest manga artists left us, and just make Dragon Ball more part of your daily life. But you won't hear it from me, because Dragon Ball 102 never happened. So, without further ado, we can finally say Dragon Ball 101 is finally complete. Class dismissed.
Yay!
I'm heading to the cafeteria. I'm starving. I need to get lunch.
Look, we got it.
Anyway, that's the end of Dragon Ball.
Justice for Carrotizer Bunny!
Justice for Carrotizer Bunny, yes, Toninji Cuck.
Hold on, I misheard that. It's Toninji Cuck.
Toninji Cuck, yeah. He was Toninji Cuck, exactly.
Toninji Cuck, there you go. End the series on Toninji Cuck.